What would happen if one day you woke up and found yourself turned into a background character in the very world you created? That is exactly what happened to our protagonist, an author of the novel world that he created himself in this story. He is about to face an apocalypse where towers and dungeons appear out of thin air, spawning monsters that attack humanity and push the world toward extinction, notoriously on the South Korean peninsula. A place where towers and dungeons appear incessantly, a place also dubbed Hell, because the monsters here are more savage than in any other nation, mercilessly attacking and claiming thousands of unfortunate lives. But in the darkness, a light emerges brilliantly, and in this world, those rays of light are called heroes. Thanks to their power, South Korea is able to fight the monsters, gradually gaining control over the towers and dungeons by utilizing the industry built around them. Like a catalyst, the disaster pushed them to recover from the crisis. As time passed, South Korea became a rival for the top spot with the United States, simultaneously becoming a beacon. A place where heroes from all over the world converge, a place that also acts as a benchmark to curb the rise of monsters and dungeons. They have also established a hero association based on magic art and magical engineering called Cube. Cube gathers apprentice heroes from around the world who have passed the impossible selection criteria of the association. It is also the place where the hero who will save the world in the novel along with his irreconcilable rival coexist. Those are all the basic settings of the story that the author all created. At the entrance ceremony for the association, the top among the first-year cadets is Kim Soo-ho, who is also the main protagonist of this novel. The students admitted to Cube this year are all incredibly gifted, but among them, Kim Soo-ho is beyond the imagination of a 17-year-old child. Well, since he is the main character, it is only natural for the author to make him overpowered. Soo-ho will be the one to lead this chaotic era dominated by heroes and monsters. He possesses the traits of an upright hero holding kindness and justice while simultaneously hiding a secret from the eyes of others. If there is a protagonist, there must be a supporting lead. If there is a hero, there must be a villain. The one who will confront Soo-ho is the second-ranked cadet named Shin Jong-hak, the fourth-generation heir to the Jin Sung conglomerate. He possesses the potential to challenge the protagonist, but in the future, he will become a villain and a loyal follower of the essence of the straight theory. Currently, Jong-hak might just be a cadet. But from the later parts of the novel, because of his inferiority complex towards Soo-ho, Jong-hak turns evil. Light and darkness once again clash and conflict with each other. That covers the two main characters at the center of the novel's world, but ironically, life plays a cruel joke on the father of this novel. People transmigrate and end up as the protagonist or at least a side character, but who would have thought our author would be so short-lived as to transmigrate into a background character? Except for the name Kim Chun-dong, which sounds incredibly generic. He has no background or history information whatsoever. Even his face is unrecognizable and covered by a giant question mark. The author really pulled a secret character. He is so unlucky that he became a character who was never even created. In his own work, there is no setting for his appearance combined with an outdated name. This presence is smaller than a grain of sand, an extremely ordinary character among the ordinary, and he has absolutely no relationship with the main duo. It seems this guy was created just to hit a quota, an extra character in the novel who couldn't be more lackluster. Everything happened on a fine day when the novel's author named Kim Han-jin received a strange email. It suggested remaking his novel, Return of the Hero, to satisfy the requester's own tastes. But because of writer's block, Return of the Hero had been discontinued by Han-jin. Normally, discontinued products like that wouldn't get any attention, so this remake request made Han-jin a bit confused. He wrote a reply email politely refusing, but little did he know it would become the main cause leading to everything as it is now. It has been 2 weeks since Kim Han-jin transmigrated into the novel with the identity of Kim Chun-dong. The big question mark is still stuck on his face, unable to be identified, but at least he has gotten used to it. This place is truly not a dream. It is the world that Han-jin wrote, and Kim Chun-dong is one of the countless background roles in it. For the past 2 weeks, Han-jin has tried many ways but still hasn't found the reason how he ended up here. Who left him here and why? Perhaps he will have to stay in this world for a very long time. Maybe 1 year, 2 years, or if it follows the plot, about 15. Living for 15 years inside a novel with a question mark on your face just thinking about it makes Han-jin feel a chill, depressed, and hopeless. Real life out there is happy, full of comfort, and beautiful. Han-jin really doesn't want to bury his life and live temporarily day by day in this discontinued novel. Thinking about it makes him feel helpless, but currently he has no choice. His only option is to try to stick to the main plot to find a solution to escape this world. If he can make it to the middle of the plot, the rest is just what happens after it's discontinued. There is no other way but to try to live through it and to be able to do that in the world of the novel Return of the Hero. The first step Hanjin needs to take is to go to Cube. It is essentially an artificial island located in the East Sea, home to about 50,000 people, including apprentice heroes. It is a city gathering talented people in magic and production from all over, and Cube is the training academy for heroes. It is one of the reasons South Korea is called a powerful nation. It is also the core of the city and the main stage of the novel. The selection criteria for Cube are very high and strict. Among the hero candidates with special talents and abilities, only a small number can become cadets at Cube. Although he is a background character, the owner of the body Kim, Chundong is also a Cube cadet, so he's not just some nobody. It's just that Hanjin still doesn't know what that ability is. Today he goes to the classroom of truth. Hanjin opens the door and steps into the room. This is the center of Cube's chain of events, and also the place that contains the villains, rivals, partners, enemies, and even the main characters of this novel. Each character arc will soon split into groups, and because of that, they'll face so many events. You'd think you have to live 15 years with these people, and you can't even get a decent, proper face. Hanjin felt incredibly drained that afternoon. Returning to the dorm, he was so exhausted he didn't even know how the day had passed. Suddenly, he noticed a strange package from courier deliveries sitting on his desk. Hanjin curiously peeled back the tape to see what it was, and it was a total surprise. Inside was the very same laptop Hanjin used in his real world. Hanjin picked it up, bewildered as to why it was here. Suddenly, the screen lit up with the words, "Synchronization starting." The light was so blindingly bright that Hanjin let go, dropping the laptop. The computer continued to display the synchronization process. Kim Hanjin stared at the command tabs and control panel appearing on screen. He couldn't believe his eyes. It was the starter book he had written himself. He wondered deeply who could have sent this to him. He reached out to check it, but just then, as the synchronization neared completion, the screen suddenly went black. A control panel popped up, "Override privilege granted." Hanjin felt as if his body were shattering into pieces and the light slowly faded away. The system displayed synchronization successful. Kim Chundong has converted to Kim Hanjin. All data will now be synchronized. Kim Hanjin slowly opened the laptop and the reflection on the screen left him stunned. "Isn't this my real face?" Kim Hanjin stared in confusion at the virtual screens floating around him, silently wondering, what's happening and what are these things? He stood there dazed, muttering, "Don't tell me." Before he could finish his sentence, the virtual screen flashed the words, "Synchronization complete." Kim Hanjin was skeptical in epiphany. An awakening occurs when someone transcends their own limits. In this world, it's called an awakening. Once awakened, they can see talents, skills, abilities, and many other values. They can also become much stronger. Through a much more efficient method, simply put, they can see a status window. At that same moment, the system screen also displayed a status board, Kim Hanjin, current products 100, current points 100, name changed from Kim Chundong to Kim Hanjin, synchronization complete, Kim Chundong's initial state converted to 10 points. Stats include variable stats, strength 1.2, stamina 1.3, agility 1.5. Talents include observation and analysis, in which proficiency and settings are both 0 out of 3. Out of curiosity, Kim Hanjin clicked on the Talents tab, Observation and Analysis. Observation can observe people appearing within line of sight. Analysis can analyze laptop settings at any time without needing an intermediary. Proficiency settings and stats are all 0 out of 3. Variable stats. Strength 1 out of 2. Stamina 1.3. Agility 1.5. Perception 2. Vitality 1.3. Magic 1. Fixed stats. Intelligence 4.105 out of 10. Perseverance 5.01 out of 10. Luck 6.33 out of 10. Charisma 4.135 out of 11. The long list of information caught him off guard. Then Hanjin scrolled through the system board while muttering, "For now, I'll just check them periodically." Looking at the info about the sync from Kim Chundong to Kim, Hanjin complete. Kim Chundong's initial state converted to 10 points. He was extremely intrigued, thinking, the part that grabs my attention the most is synchronization and initialization. Kim Hanjin thought coldly, I don't know what they are, but they are definitely the reason why my face is no longer a question mark and has returned to normal. My stats have dropped compared to Kim Chundong's, but in return I got points. Thinking of this, he immediately darted his eyes toward the system board, and the next thing to note was, at the same time, The system also displayed an info board, Unique Intervention Authority. You can use products to write or edit any non-living target. You can use products to write or edit stats, talents, proficiency, and settings. Limitations apply to targets. Kim Hanjin product points. The more important Kim Hanjin is to the world, the more product points you receive. Kim Hanjin, the more important you are to the world, the more product points you receive. You can convert 1 point into 1,000 products. Newbie consideration? You can write a talent by consuming 10,000 products. Looking at those words, Kim Hanjin felt a bit dizzy and muttered, "What the hell is this?" Glancing at the lines at the bottom, he was left speechless and whispered, "I don't remember ever writing this ability. Kim Hanjin is more important to the world." At this point, Kim Hanjin suddenly froze. He widened his eyes in shock. Could it be that I have to increase my level of importance? Of myself in the novel? Recalling the dangers he had faced, Kim Hanjin gradually realized the problem. The reason he was given the laptop and this strange ability was to interfere with the main plot of the world. He grumbled, cursing that unrealistic theory. However, right at that moment, a blinding light suddenly appeared behind him. It turned out to be the system with a notification, "Locked information will be unlocked when the plot ends." Looking at those words, Kim Hanjin was so angry his mouth twitched. "So what you're trying to say is, if I want a hint on how to return to my old world, I need to shut up and interfere." Having said that, he pulled out his chair and sat at the desk. Kim Hanjin typed on the laptop while thinking, "That's right. There's no guarantee I'll be sent back to the original world just by waiting around." Until the part where he stopped uploading images of the characters in the novel, they suddenly popped up, making his suspicions even more certain. Even if the unlocked information isn't the hint I'm hoping for, I might accidentally pick up clues on how to escape this world. If I'm involved with the main characters? Kim Hanjin whispered seriously to himself. To do that? Just then, the system screen suddenly popped up. Spend points on stats, no. He didn't hesitate to hover the mouse over no. I must become strong enough to change the main plot. In my novel, there's no leveling mechanic. Basically, because a person cannot increase stats at will, the only way to do that is through points. It's an incredibly precious resource, and if I want to collect as many points as possible, I need to invest in luck, at least that's what I'm thinking. The two words "good luck" seem to be dancing above Kim Hanjin's head as he strokes his chin, lost in thought. Luck isn't just limited to the chance of finding unknown rewards in a dungeon. Luck creates a money-making effect, increases stats, influences multidimensional relationships, and so on. It's a cheat stat that applies to every aspect of life. As he's thinking, his eyes suddenly catch a line of text. Convert points to 1,000 SP. Kim Hanjin coldly wonders, naturally, a fixed stat like luck once set shouldn't be able to be increased with points. But maybe it's possible if I convert points into SP. Without thinking much more, he immediately hits the keyboard. Might as well try it, right? And right after that, the system immediately pops up a notification. You have converted 10 points into 10,000 SP. Next, a series of stats jump out. Invest 9,000 SP into luck. Fixed stats. Intelligence, 4.105 out of 10. Perseverance, 5.01 out of 10. Agility, 6.33 out of 10. Switching to agility, 6.33 out of 10. Charisma, 4.135 out of 10. It seemed like it was over, but at that moment, a system screen with a deep purple hue suddenly appeared in the center of the display. A mysterious good luck has appeared. Kim Hanjin is a bit surprised by this sudden notification. Oh. Then the system pops up another line, a mysterious good luck has appeared, changing luck to 9.1. He reflects a bit when seeing this notification. So luck even affects itself. Having said that, Kim Hanjin immediately falls into deep thought. The main character, Kim Suho, possesses a magic stat of 9.0. Well, that's a promising result. Thinking of this, Kim Hanjin, while frantically typing on the keyboard, calculates the rest of the SP to invest in perseverance. After all, I need to endure the cube's harsh training, and just like that, the system appears with a new congratulatory line, a great fortune has appeared. Perseverance increases from 6.6 to 7.207. Seeing that, he smiles awkwardly and praises luck as being godlike. However, at this very moment, the screen displaying information suddenly shows an anomaly right after that. On the screen, a warning line suddenly appears. Error detected. It may negatively affect the storyline. This sight immediately makes Kim Hanjin jump and shout loudly. After his startled scream, a threatening notification is sent. From now on, fixed stats cannot be interfered with by SP. Looking at the screen before him, Kim Hanjin's mood sinks to the bottom and he clenches his fist, dejectedly scolding. This is not fair at all. After a few minutes of mumbling, Kim Ha-jin dejectedly leans his head back and sighs. Ha. It seems even cheating has its limits. I thought everything was going so smoothly, but at least I was able to change my luck. And perseverance. Speaking of this, a thought suddenly pops into his head, remembering the previous status line. Kim Ha-jin softly mutters, I still have 10,000 other SP from the newcomer benefit. As soon as he finishes speaking, he falls into a stunned state, starting to contemplate life after a moment of hesitation. In the end, Kim Ha-jin just helplessly sighs and whispers, Maybe I should think carefully before using it. The next morning, a booming voice echoes from inside the classroom. You all worked hard during this morning's training. Kim Ha-jin sits dejectedly, chin propped on his hand, listening to the other person's introduction. Now I will introduce myself. The teacher begins to give a brief overview of his background. My name is Kim Soo-uk. I will be your homeroom teacher for the coming year. The steady monotone voice of Soo-uk continues to echo. Rank points 3,850, ranked 9,737 worldwide. The students below are all buzzing at this information. Ranked 9,000 out of 2 million. He's truly amazing. I've never seen him before. Ignoring the noise, the teacher continues slowly. As for the comprehensive classification, it is high intermediate rank. After briefly introducing himself, Soo-uk looks around the room and speaks up. That is the entire introduction. Now let's start with the immediate issues. The teacher begins to lecture. Cube is not the magical place you might expect. You will be placed entirely based on your scores. And if you cannot perform decently, you will be held back. In reality, less than half of the cadets graduate without being held back. Down below, Rachel Elizabeth Lewis is still listening intently. This place is a hero-nurturing factory. You will be judged on accurate and strict standards. Saying this, Soo-uk suddenly becomes more agitated than ever. The teacher loudly commands, Now everyone stand up and follow me. And so the first part of the schedule, weapon selection. A moment later, in this dark room, only the faint light from the console identifying the hand is visible. After a few seconds, the door in front of them suddenly opens, surprising the group of students and Kim Ha-jin as well. At this moment, what strikes their eyes is a room, vast and filled with different types of weapons, from sharp, shiny swords placed neatly in cabinets to weapons that require the user's strength, such as spears and pikes. Witnessing this scene, soft exclamations still echo. While marveling at the scale of the weapon room, the whole group is startled by the teacher's loud shout. I haven't given you time to be amazed. Quickly choose your weapons. Everyone quickly moves to choose the weapon they are interested in. At the same time, Soo-uk is still blathering on, once you choose your primary weapon. You won't be able to change it for at least 6 months, so consider it wisely. While everyone else is racking their brains, Kim Soo-ho has already quickly picked up the pitch-black sword from before. It seems he is extremely satisfied with this primary weapon. In another place in the room, a bow lined with red velvet is also being drawn and aimed. Turns out it's Chae Na-yoon. It seems she is very interested in this long-range attack weapon. At the same time, Rachel has also chosen her favorite weapon. She is seen attentively examining the sword in her hand, while all around the group of students has picked out their favorite weapons. IU then casually grabbed a whip, while Kim Ha-jin stood to the side, observing everything with a cold, detached gaze, pondering as the main characters easily selected their weapons. Then he lowered his head to scan the weapon rack beneath his hands. It was his turn now. Kim Ha-jin kept looking back and forth among the countless weapons, silently reminding himself, I have to be careful, he thought, eyeing those 2 sharp weapons. Deep down, he felt a bit of regret that his stats were too low to master the weapons usually used by cadets. Kim Ha-jin's gaze shifted elsewhere, and he sighed softly. Even if I increased my stats to try using them, the result would be far lower than the effort put in. So there are certain fixed conditions for my weapon choice. As he walked and observed the weapons, he pondered a weapon he used to use in his old world. A weapon that takes little time to get used to, and then Kim Ha-jin's footsteps suddenly stopped. He cheered inwardly, there it is! At the same time, another student noticed his actions. After a few seconds of surprise, he turned to whisper to others, Hey, look at him. And following his gaze, everyone was shocked and whispered, What the hell? Are you kidding me? The noise quickly caught the attention of Instructor Shu. When he saw the scene with his own eyes, a look of shock appeared in Shu's eyes. After a moment, he spoke hesitantly, Cadet Kim Ha-jin, looking at the gun in his hand and his innocent expression. Shu was speechless as he asked, Is that the weapon you chose? After picking their weapons, everyone was focused on waiting for their names to be called. The instructor, after scanning the file submitted, suddenly called out, Cadet Kim Ha-jin, I recall you using a sword at the military academy. He held the gun firmly in his hand and replied leisurely, "I've made my decision." The instructor asked skeptically again, "After coming to Cube, huh?" He answered firmly, "Yes." Although full of doubt, Instructor Zhu still had to agree with his choice. "All right. Everything decided at Cube is determined by the cadets," the instructor suddenly shouted. "Whether the decision is right or wrong, the cadets will take full responsibility. Never forget that." Hajin seemed to listen intently to everything. Suddenly, the noise from other cadets caught his attention. The crowd had started whispering about the weapon he chose. Is he crazy? Why did he come to Cube if he's choosing a gun? I don't get it. Should I have a match with him in the practical training? Isn't he just a glory seeker? Even so, it didn't affect his decision too much. He told himself that magical guns are still good weapons in this world. For civilians who cannot resist magic, the most frequently used ammunition is magical rounds because they are infused with mana having relatively high destructive power compared to other types, conventional metal rounds. The reason why magic guns are avoided here is because a bullet with terrifying destructive power just as it was fired was instantly blocked. A red-haired cadet rushed forward like a wild beast, smashing the bullet that had just been fired. Its limitations were clear. After a series of actions, the instructor on the other side shouted, "Cadet Kim Horak." He continued to explain the difficulties. The first reason is that no matter how strong the user is, the destructive power of a gun is limited. And the second reason is that guns have a short history in this world. Myths and legends become reality. Mythical and legendary artifacts are used as weapons in reality, and the items mentioned have more glorious origins and histories. The deeper the history, the higher the rank of the weapon. Because of this, cadets usually choose older weapons rather than modern ones, not just believing in magic bullets, but also in their skills. Even if they reach their limit, they can still use the weapon's power to take a step further. After skimming through the basics of guns, Hajin, with dead fish eyes, felt they were truly annoying, brushing off all responsibility. Of course, this didn't concern him. He strode down the hallway, passing through lines of people he secretly thought, acting like I'm the main character in a manhwa, I haven't even held a sword before. So how could I compare to the other cadets? Gazing at the suitcase he was holding tightly, he couldn't help but have his own thoughts. A gun might not be a bad choice. It's something I can use immediately, and by using it I can stand out to receive support. Hajin's face suddenly became serious. As if preparing to step into a new battle, Hajin thought to himself, because I've chosen the weapon now, it's time to choose the talent. To explain, a talent is an ability that can be considered special. A sword, thanks to a talent, can easily cut through a giant boulder, he continued to explain. Each person can only receive one talent, but there are some exceptional characters. There are both passive talents and activated talents, the possessor of the holy sword. The next name called out was Kim Suho. A guy, after hearing his name called, quickly ran to the front. The one calling was a girl. Seeing that, he asked, "Che Nayun, you're training here too?" Replying to him, the girl quickly complained about Suho's question. "Duh, why else would I be at the training center? That guy is at the top of the class," he also replied naively. "There aren't many people here after class, so I came." After chatting for a while, he suddenly remembered something and leaned in to ask, "Nayun, I just remembered something after seeing you. We have another marksman in the class." Hearing him ask that, she tried to remember. A marksman, a Hajin or something. After hesitating for a long time, she said, "Right, that guy." Suddenly, Nayun's expression changed unusually, her eyebrows knitting together uncomfortably. Seeing that, he asked, "What's with that reaction?" She quickly retorted at that Jinha guy, or whatever his name was. "I just can't accept him. You can't possibly call him a sharpshooter." When she mentioned his range was under 1 kilometer, she suddenly sighed as if it were obvious, saying he might as well give up on becoming a hero. Because he couldn't just drop out if he requested an early retirement. He was just desperately clinging on. Suddenly, Suho cut her off, interrupting her talk about him giving up. "You shouldn't say things like that so easily." He spoke with intense focus, and Nayun looked back at him bewildered as if he were some strange alien creature. Yet Suho still smiled back at her gaze like a cat. Like a kitten waiting to be petted, but suddenly she snapped and yelled right in his face. "Don't tell me what I need to do, Kim Suho!" Taken aback by the sudden outburst, he stammered a reply. "I'm sorry." Nayun's shout echoed throughout the training hall. "If you're not going to train, then get out of here." Switching scenes to Hajin, the guy who had just been talked about behind his back. He felt his ears itching, so he rubbed them, thinking to himself, "Is someone talking about me? I suppose I could add some talking behind backs and support to the mix." He stared leisurely at his computer screen, deep in thought. After all, the protagonist could become the greatest hero with his talent. That's how important talent is. And since I received 10,000 support points when I wrote my first talent, I can't pass up this opportunity. On the computer screen, a notification popped up. Intervention authorization settings can be adjusted. You may edit skills items, stats, or talents. Using authority consumes support points. Upon creating the first talent, 10,000 support points will be provided immediately. Hajin started working right away. First, I should write something simple, right? After editing for a while, the text on the screen changed. Master Sharpshooter, highly skilled in using long-range weapons. As soon as he clicked confirm, another notification instantly appeared. You have used 10,000 support points to write a talent. Watching the computer screen change constantly, he couldn't help but feel surprised, murmuring to himself, "So it really edits itself just like that." The system board updated immediately. Master Sharpshooter. Intermediate rank. Low level. Dark element evolution. Skilled 10 experience points. Skilled 0%. Bullet time. In combat every 4 hours, a total of 3 seconds of bullet time will be granted. Training Master Sharpshooter. You have mastered all long-range weapon skills. Hawkeye. You can see distant moments and accurately predict a target's movement. Aiming. Looking at the result in front of him, he felt incredibly satisfied. All these long-range weapon skills are so useful. Not just guns, I'll be able to use bows in the future too. Above all this is a game-changing talent. It's a bit of a shame, but if I can develop it further, it will be a huge advantage. Thinking long-term was better. After pondering for a while, he finally made his decision. All right, I'm choosing this one. After finishing the series of actions, Hajin sat back in his chair, satisfied and beaming, cheering. Now I feel much more prepared. Thinking about all those talents had been exhausting. Now I just have to survive with this talent until the main plot ends. Outside the city, crowds of people were bustling about. Inside the large auditorium, the professor was still enthusiastically explaining dungeons. Simple questions like this are usually not allowed. But you all need to understand the attack patterns of towers and dungeons. Hajin listened intently to the lecture, jotting down essential knowledge, thinking to himself, a few lines of description could create an entire book. If the other characters knew about this, they'd be jealous to the point of tears. But thanks to my observation and search talent, I can easily breeze through this class. Above him, the professor was still lecturing about the new era, the name of the tower that the Holy Apostle attacked, and the rewards they received. The system also updated with more knowledge. The Holy Apostle attacked the tower and received the Sea Stone. He kept thinking as the name mentioned observation and search. I can observe every character within my sights. Hajin recalled the things people said around him. Is that guy really that good? He just relies on his talent. If I had good talent, I'd finish it quickly. Isn't Kim Suho a bit overrated? Switching back to Kim Hajin at this moment, his laptop was displaying the necessary information about this world. He was calculating, if I want to even without the device, I can search the timeline set up from the notes on the eyeball. The professor's voice rang out. Remember well what you've learned today. You all know the writing competition isn't far off, right? Looking around the classroom, he noticed Nayeon was attending this class too. Just waiting for that moment, she dropped all pretenses and shouted in the middle of the class, "Why do I have to study stuff like this? Don't I just need to show my skills in actual combat?" The door suddenly flew open, cutting off Nayeon's words. Another cadet entered, announcing loudly for everyone to pay attention. "Veritas class, you are all dispatched to the plaza in 20 minutes. Hearing this, Nayeon's face immediately lit up with excitement like a cat spotting its prey. In another corner of the classroom, Jonghak and Yeonha also noticed the announcement. A voice rang out, "It's live combat training." Unlike the excited expressions of the others, Hajin's face seemed to darken, and he thought dejectedly, "Finally, it's here." Outside in the plaza, a booming voice rang out, "I hope you all know what this lesson is about. Without further ado, I will announce the team formations. Each team will have a total of 4 members. The formation will include 2 warriors, 1 sharpshooter, and 1 support. Unless special circumstances arise, this team will remain the same until the midterm exams. The distribution will be fair, and both low and high-ranked cadets will be placed on the same team. Remember what I said to avoid any confusion? Everyone can go and check your teams now." Instructor Aju stood to the side, clearly shouting out the rules for this test. Everyone looked up at the board, and Hajin's pupils suddenly contracted. He was completely caught off guard by the team assignments. As the team list appeared, he cursed under his breath. "No way. I'm on the same team as that guy." Hajin's brows furrowed. He couldn't believe this was happening. The screen displayed Team 5, Kim Hajin Yu Yeonha. His eyes scanned the board, stunned into silence. Yu Yeonha was on his team. He remembered that in every novel, the protagonist always had characters who interacted with them, or clashed with them to drive the plot forward. There were many members in the protagonist's party, but among them, Yu Yeonha was definitely the most special. She was the successor to Korea's #1 guild, a polished upright elite and the heir to a prosperous family. At the start of the novel, she opposed Kim Suho, but gradually she was influenced and became his dependent ally. Hajin couldn't take his eyes off Yeonha. He thought to himself, but connecting with Yu Yeonha is crucial. The more involved I am in the story, the more help I can get during today's training session. I'll definitely find a way to grab Yu Yeonha's attention. The scene shifted to Yeonha's side. A voice quickly caught her attention. 2 people walked up to greet her. Hello? We're on the same team, right? I'm Jin Ho-sung from the Veritas family. And I'm Hazuki, also from Veritas. She scrutinized the 2 of them for a moment, silently judging her teammates. Right, don't ignore them. As soon as she identified her targets, Yeonha spun around. Her expression did a 180-degree turn, and she smiled brightly to greet them. That's right. Please take care of me, Jin Ho-sung-si and Hazuki-si. Seeing Yeonha with such a two-faced attitude left them both overwhelmed. Ho-sung thought to himself, we're the same age, why is she using honorifics like that? After looking around for a moment, only seeing 3 people. Yeonha asked, where's the last person on our team? Hajin stepped forward, interrupting her. It's me. She stared intently at the scruffy-looking man in front of her and asked skeptically, you are facing someone like Yeonha? He was extremely careful, reminding himself not to stutter. Yu Yeonha hated people who lacked confidence. Before he could even speak, the other 2 jumped in to get acquainted. You're the one who chose the gun during the weapon selection, right? You're famous among all the freshmen? As they were busy talking, they didn't notice the silhouette of Instructor Aju approaching. Do you guys have time to chat, huh? This sudden appearance of the instructor nearly scared the heart out of all 3 of them. The instructor shouted, urging them on. I've already sent the coordinates for the monster each team has to face. Get moving now. They responded quickly, not daring to delay. The scene shifted to the blue beach. 3 figures flashed past, sprinting along the shore as they headed straight for the marked location. In the middle of the sea ahead, Yeonha spoke to the other 3. Looks like we'll be there soon. Get ready, everyone, once we arrive. We'll be able to gather info on the monster. Far behind, Hajin seemed to be falling back. He dragged his feet forward step by step, thinking, I'm gonna die. My vitality stat is lower than an average person's, but who would have thought keeping up this closely was the best I could do, watching everyone else sprint. Forward, without hesitation, he muttered, is this the custom for cube cadets? Suddenly, Yeonha stopped and told the others, we're here. At beach training area number 8, out in the water, a ship was drifting. Suddenly, a tentacle rose from the sea, followed by a giant sea creature, a monster, a black-humped octopus. It smashed the drifting ship to pieces. The 4 of them watched the horrific scene, unable to do anything. Yeonha broke the silence. Begin the mission plan. A mid-grade monster, the black-humped octopus. Its main body's attack power isn't very high, but the problem is the hump on its head. When it senses danger, the octopus will release spawn from that hump to attack enemies. Not only does it spray dozens of bloodthirsty octopuses at once, but each one is so dangerous it can turn an ordinary person into a dried-up husk in a second. Ho-sung interrupted Yeonha. Then when the battle starts, we need to prioritize taking out the baby octopuses first, right? Hazuki added. We need to deal with them quickly so the gunner... Before she could finish, Yeonha spoke up. No, I'll deal with the baby octopuses. The warriors will stay in the back and conserve mana. The black-humped octopus recovers very quickly, so we need to sever the hump in one strike. The others stood there, mouths agape at what she just said. Hajin couldn't believe his ears. He was astonished. Wait just now. Is she trying to cut me out of the training session? Yu Yeonha. She stepped forward and ordered the rest. Everyone ready? Her face hardened and she shouted, Let's begin the mission! Looking at her attitude, he felt incredibly fed up and thought to himself, This bitch. The ship at sea was gradually being torn apart. It shattered into pieces under the force of the tentacles, and a loud noise erupted, drawing its attention. Ho-sung on the shore was relentlessly slamming his axe into the rocks to provoke the octopus. His face growing anxious, he thought to himself, first things first. I have to lure it to the surface. The monster's pupils dilated. It dove into the water with a thunderous crash, sending pillars of water shooting up that obscured everything. It lunged like a rocket toward him, suddenly bursting out and snatching Ho-sung. Team 5, the Monster Subjugation Squad, each had a mission, and Ho-sung was the bait. Hazuki attacked with her sword, Hajin provided long-range support, and Yeonha acted as the main damage dealer. This black hump octopus was truly a tough opponent. It hadn't been taken down yet and continued to launch its tentacles at them. In just a split second, a massive explosion rocked the area directly above it, making Hosung jump from afar. But instead of being afraid, he felt a strange surge of excitement rising within him. Did it blow up? Hosung immediately retreated to keep his distance, his hands ready to grab the axe on his back. Before long, the black hump octopus launched smaller clones to attack. When they swarmed him, Hosung wasn't foolish enough to rush in. He turned and bolted. But when he saw them hot on his heels, his face turned deathly pale. It seemed like Hosung was about to be finished right then and there. Then suddenly, a powerful strike from Yanha saved him from the brink of disaster. You have to admit, Yanha is incredible. Her matrix-like slash carved a path to survival for him. Under her terrifying power, the baby octopuses exploded like fireworks, leaving not even a speck of dust behind. After wiping them out, Yanha stood tall and arrogant, completely unfazed by the black hump octopus. Watching this beauty save the hero, Hosung couldn't help but admire her what insane strength. The image of Yanha appeared strong and brave in his eyes. Ranked 7th among the Cooper IU cadets, Yanha had just saved a teammate from the jaws of death. He was extremely grateful. Thanks. Just when it seemed the black hump octopus was defeated, it stubbornly prepared a final decisive blow. But keep dreaming, Yanha wouldn't give it another chance. She whipped her weapon forward, her eyes sharp while the monster's body tensed, radiating clear killing intent. The black hump octopus chose to fight to the end with Yanha. Neither side was willing to give an inch. In the blink of an eye, its flexible tentacles slammed into the ground. Twisting and coiling like snakes, they attacked her fiercely. In that tense moment, Yanha managed to leap high into the air to dodge the dangerous tentacles. But it didn't stop there. The black hump octopus launched a part of its own body toward her, planning to use those sharp teeth to strike Yanha. Seeing the danger lurking, Hazuki screamed a warning, "Yanha, look out!" At that moment, Yanha... Only then did she hear the warning and start to turn around, but it seemed too late. It was only inches away. And suddenly, in that split-second life-or-death moment, a bullet flew from somewhere and obliterated it in a flash. It seemed someone was providing sniper support. It was Hajin from below. Even though he hadn't contributed much, he was always there for the critical moments. It was Hajin's quick and timely action that helped everyone hold off the black hump octopus. Yanha was stunned to see that the person who had just acted was him. She couldn't help but gasp in shock. Kim Hajin. After coordinating with everyone to defeat the monster, he was feeling quite satisfied. The product that can be exchanged for points will increase whenever Kim Hajin's role in this world becomes more important. It sounds easy, but starting the journey to achieve that is difficult, especially for someone like me. A complete extra. To have a significant role from the beginning means I only have one choice jump into the events that the protagonist must face, and the move just now was part of his plan. As for the others, seeing Hajin appear there, their jaws dropped in disbelief. Hosung was no exception, looking at him with eyes wide with shock. Kim Hajin, Yanha in particular, felt annoyed by his presence there. I told you to stay back. But while they were bickering, the short-tempered black hump octopus aggressively surged forward. It seemed it couldn't wait any longer. It immediately unleashed its smaller clones to swarm them. Faced with their overwhelming numbers, Yanha scowled. What the hell? While everyone else was unsure of how to deal with them, Hajin remained still in his spot. The only thing the enemy focused on was the group, but that wouldn't help them. They had low intelligence and predictable trajectories. The moment he could shine, he realized it was his time to take the stage. Hajin entered a state of extreme focus. This is it. In a split second, his eyes snapped open, his gaze sharp as a knife. Killing intent flared up, accompanied by a bright blue aura radiating power. Each beam of light tore through the wind and attack. Bullet time exploded with such speed and power that space itself seemed to warp. Hajin's ace is speed, a talent I wrote as bullet time. When used, the flow of time slows down for 3 seconds, and thanks to this, he can almost always gain the upper hand when facing them directly. It means that in those 3 seconds, he can see their movements easily. Thanks to that, Hajin can take them down before they can even react. Next, it's simple, he just needs to fire. At this point, he had completely outclassed them and could control the situation. In the remaining second, Hajin quickly gifted each one a bullet, logging them off immediately. Their every movement ceased, and this was the best chance for him to take them all out alone. No room for hesitation. With only 0.27 seconds left, he poured all his speed into firing the remaining bullets at them. With every spare second he had, Hajin kept reloading, firing with lightning speed. He aimed with lethal precision, knowing there wasn't a single chance left to fix a mistake. With only 2 measly seconds left, he wiped out the monsters closing in on Ianha. As the 3-second countdown ended, the slow-motion effect faded, and reality snapped back into focus. Before the creatures could even touch a hair on their heads, Hajin had already blown them all away. Ianha hadn't even managed to crack her whip before there was nothing left of them. They had all exploded into pieces. With her sharp reflexes, she suddenly realized this was the perfect moment to take down the black bump octopus. The growth on its head hadn't recovered from the previous damage yet. You could say this was its most vulnerable moment, and Ianha, without a moment's hesitation, whipped it toward the creature. The growth on the octopus's head was now completely wrapped in her lash, leaving it with nowhere to run. As Ianha held the whip taut, she signaled the others to seize the chance and charge. They had clearly been waiting for this moment for a long time. Everyone launched themselves into the air toward it. Ho-seung wore a smug grin, eager to finally put an end to this. Following close behind him was Hazuki, bracing herself to unleash everything she had for the finishing blow. She unleashed a final burst of magical power. With their heavy artillery ready, the team didn't hesitate, diving toward the top of the octopus to finish it off quickly and cleanly. Ianha tried to hold it steady for as long as she could, and in the end they pulled it off. A single clean strike was delivered, and in the blink of an eye, the black bump octopus was defeated. Seawater gushed out in a massive torrent. No matter how formidable the black bump octopus seemed, it was bound to lose against their perfect teamwork. As it fell, water sprayed everywhere, cooling the air against the stifling heat. Hajin, after pushing his skills to the limit, began to feel the fatigue setting in. Did we kill it? Ianha remained as cold as ever. She didn't answer him, sinking into silence. Now that things had settled down, he finally dared to lie back and relax. It was tough trying to calculate the results for Team 5. They had succeeded. They had removed the growth from the octopus, turning it back to normal. The final result was a testament to their efforts. The total time for Team 5 was 58 minutes and 58 seconds. Their current rank was 16th. After clearing out the monsters, Hajin lay on the ground, eyes looking upward, exhausted, but at least he had pulled it off today. The leaderboard updated in a flash, showing the results: total wasted time, 58 minutes and 58 seconds, ranking 16th out of 100. But one thing stood out. Their ranking had surged impressively. One would think they'd be satisfied with that result, but Ianha was so frustrated she stood rooted to the spot. The entire battle was recorded by drones. I'll send it to your smartwatch, analyze it yourself. It seemed her expectations had been much higher, making this result completely unacceptable to Ianha. She trembled with pure bitterness. Only 16th, seriously. She knew individual performance was judged separately, and the person she was glaring at with envious daggers for eyes was Noon. She was ranked even higher than her. Team 2, Noon, and 3 others ranked 4th out of 100. She felt so helpless, watching her efforts feel like they had gone to waste. She had decided to create a gap between her team and Neun's, and she had tried so hard to win only to get this. Meanwhile, Jong-hak sat nearby, stealing glances at Noon, even though Ianha was sitting right between them. He still looked at her with such longing. After thinking it over, Ianha still felt unsatisfied, a wave of irritation rising within her. She couldn't take the frustration anymore and slammed her hand hard onto the table. Ianha marked toward Noon, radiating killing intent, and stopped right behind her. The atmosphere grew incredibly heavy. Everyone thought Ianha was about to lay hands on Noon. But then she did a complete 180, turning friendly. "Hey, Noon," Ianha said. Both of them started chatting about their training progress. "How's practice going? You doing okay? As you can see, I only made it to 6th. How embarrassing. What about you?" Even though Ianha wanted to eat her alive on the surface, she held it together. "I'm 16th. Instead of feeling sorry for her, Noon actually sounded impressed. "You got 16th with gunmen. That's insane. It would have been even better if that guy hadn't held you back." Suddenly, when Noon mentioned Hajin, she realized held back. Right. We wasted 50 minutes on a 10-minute route just because of that guy. But conversely, his contribution during the fight against the trailing monsters had been high. Even if he was a bit of a drag in the beginning, he wasn't half bad in the end, Ianha thought. Of course, she couldn't forget that surreal moment. Dozens of squids fired by the monster had been completely annihilated by his bullets even before they hit the ground. After this joint mission, she had a completely different view of Hajin. Could he really do all that with just some ordinary magical bullets? A seed of doubt began to sprout in her heart. Who is that guy? After that struggle with the black bump octopus, Hajin needed to recover quite a bit of his strength after the intense training. A seed of doubt began to grow in her heart. Who was that guy? After that brutal struggle with the black-humped octopus, Hajin really needed to catch his breath after such an intense workout. After saying that, he collapsed onto the dirt floor and panted heavily right in the middle of training. Suddenly, Hajin remembered something vital. He'd forgotten to check his status window. He'd been so absorbed in training he didn't know how much it had gone up. His fate had activated thanks to hunting low-level monsters. His accuracy had increased significantly. Every single attack was a success. His level rose by 20%, and his knowledge increased by 0.03. Fate had activated his eyes and ears felt sharper. His agility had increased by 27. Everything was going according to the original plan Hajin had mapped out. It seemed his fate had activated exactly when he was training today, just as predicted, and his agility had gotten a little boost too. Stopping Yu Yonha was definitely worth it. The stat gains from training were pretty substantial. Thanks to the training, his strength, stamina, and vitality had all increased by 0.02%. Surprisingly, mana seeped into his muscle cells, boosting his strength, stamina, and vitality by another 0.03%. All thanks to the help of enlightenment and fate. Feeling like he'd made significant progress today, Hajin decided to let himself rest. He'd gained quite a bit. That's enough for today. But just seconds later, he wondered if he should start again. That night, when the night sky had blanketed everything, a light was still glowing from inside Yu Yonha's room. She wasn't asleep yet. She still had work to do. Yonha sat in her chair, arms crossed, looking extremely serious. Her eyes were glued to the screen. She was rewatching the footage of Hajin's shooting scene. Yonha wanted to examine closely exactly how he managed to hit them all in such a short amount of time. When she realized something unusual about his attack style, she hit pause. It looked like Yonha had watched this video many times to have noticed such a detail. From second 2.78 right here, in just a blink he had fired 60 shots. She raised her hand into a gun shape and held it out, calculating for a moment. Pulling the trigger 20 times in 1 second, is that even possible? Or does that trigger finger have some kind of automatic firing mechanism? Yonha was determined to find out exactly how he pulled that off. His agility was truly extraordinary, but his vitality was weak. He was worse off than the other cadets, and the fact that he suddenly switched weapons. There were too many suspicious points. Suddenly, while she was lost in thought, a notification arrived. I don't remember meeting him at the military academy. I don't know why, but late at night, Donghak sent her a message. What are you doing? Reading that text from him, her heart skipped a beat. Yonha didn't hesitate and replied back, analyzing my video. She's doing boring stuff again. Donghak, standing in the middle of some ruins, texted her back. If I'm going to prepare to inherit the guild, I need to recruit some talent first. Your team has talent. It's all trash. But what about that guy with the gun? Reading that, Yonha offered a faint smile. Whether it was sincere or fake, she chuckled and gave Hajin a compliment. He acts like he doesn't care about anything, but he actually cares more than I thought. Sometimes he's even kind of cute. Donghak also rated his ability quite highly. I guess he's all right. His skill rank is exactly 934. Didn't he just get lucky to get into that group? After finishing her chat with Donghak, Yonha switched back to serious mode. Lucky, huh? One fine morning out of the guild headquarters, the CEO's secretary was reviewing her schedule. Vice Guild Master, the guild visit is scheduled for Friday, 2 weeks from today. But at that moment, there was another issue on her mind. Oh, right. More importantly, look at this. The image playing on Seong-ah's large screen was none other than Suho. Kim Suho. Isn't he amazing? His poise and impressive skills had her completely hooked. His movements were fluid like water, and his sword style didn't resemble any modern swordsmanship at all. Seong-ah was completely drawn in by Suho's fresh fighting style. It was like he was dancing with his blade. She highly valued and acknowledged Suho's artistic movements. Look at his unnatural cutting force. It was like he wasn't just slicing a monster, but simply cutting through the empty air. Seong-ah couldn't stop showering him with praise, the essence of the desolate moon sea, the silence of the servant. I can sort of understand why all the big guilds in Seoul are targeting him. After gushing endlessly about Suho's talent, Seong-ah decided she had to bring him over no matter what. No matter what it takes, I have to get him on my side. So that's how it is. Now for the next cadet. More names started popping up on her screen. After scrolling back and forth for a while, her eyes landed on someone. Wait, so the next person who made Seong-ah feel intrigued was Hajin, the cadet who uses a gun. Based on what she'd overheard, the secretary reported back. Yes, he's being talked about quite a bit in the guild community too. It seems many people have already watched that video, because he's on the same team as Yonha. Even without an automatic rifle, he was able to fire 60 rounds in 3 seconds, and 59 of them hit the target, even if someone were to squeeze. The trigger with all their might, not even a professional marksman could pull that off. It seems Hajin's insane performance has caught a lot of attention. I thought he was just some nobody, but things are different now. To think he pulled off a display like that with such low-tier gear. Kim Hajin's skills are being called heretical within the ranks. Plus, there are rumors he switched from swords to guns after entering the cube. Hearing this, Seong-ah started to get the picture. So, he had an awakening. An awakening is when someone suddenly realizes their hidden talents and special abilities. Before that, they don't even know what they're capable of. That's why there are cases where people change their primary weapon if their original choice doesn't match their awakening talent, though that usually means 3 years of training down the drain, or more. If that happens, the military academy proactively encourages cadets to try various weapons. Even though Seong-ah noticed Hajin stood out, she didn't rate him very highly. Awakening at just 17, that's pretty fast. But he's still limited to just guns. Nothing too special. Regardless, we should keep an eye on him. Do we have any scouts available? Based on the current situation, the secretary replied, "No, we don't. Because this shipment is very special, everyone is already pushed to their absolute limits." Seong-ah then decided to keep an eye on Hajin a little longer to test his talent. "We'll just leave him be for now. If he's truly a diamond in the rough, he'll shine eventually. As for whether heretical is too harsh of a nickname, that will reveal itself in time." Seong-ah didn't want to interfere, choosing instead to stand back and watch how things played out naturally. The 4th day finally arrived. Today was the day for the cadets to compete and give it their all. They were paired up to improve their physical strength and sharpen their minds. Today was anti-personnel combat training. Everyone was taking it very seriously, and they were giving everything they had to defeat their opponents. The process was very well organized, with the combat training carried out in pairs. Everyone used training weapons, which makes it easier to evaluate performance while minimizing pain. But for Hajin, this was a living hell. But that rank 934 kid Kim Hajin, he must be super lucky to be in this position. Everyone else got paired with their classmates, but he was the only one singled out like this. "Get up! Why am I the only one who has to fight the professor?" It was as if the professor could read his deepest thoughts as he immediately explained, "If you're curious, I'll tell you. It's because the training weapons haven't been prepared yet, and using real weapons for anti-personnel training would cause too many dangerous accidents. So as your professor, I will train you personally." But Hajin was far from thrilled about this special treatment. "I can't go on anymore, I surrender." But with the professor's competitive spirit, how could he possibly accept that? In a real fight, there's no such thing as surrender. Without letting Hajin protest, the professor swung a fist directly at him. "Defend yourself, Hajin." Suddenly, in that split second of life or death, he activated his top-tier skill. He might look like he's messing around, but once he gets serious, he can dodge the professor's punches like a piece of cake. Even the professor was a bit surprised that Hajin could move with such lightning speed, but he didn't stop there. He still had to maintain total focus. He couldn't afford to be distracted for even a second because the professor would exploit any opening Hajin left to strike at any time. The professor kept throwing earth-shattering punches, but Hajin managed to dodge them all. It was then that the professor realized something very special about him. This kid, his form might not be perfect, but he's keeping up with my speed with his eyes. Hajin's incredibly superhuman reflexes. They were what made him stand out from the rest, and it wasn't just natural talent that allowed him to reach that godlike speed. It was all thanks to his eyes of 1,000 specters. You can see far and predict the general movement of your target. With the help of that skill, Hajin became the king of speed. Of course, the skill shows him everything. All you have to do is dodge it yourself. While he was training with the professor, the people around him started mocking him. "Hey, look at him. That guy is literally jumping around like a monkey." Hearing the whispers and gossip about himself, he couldn't help but feel bitter. Those guys, do they really think it's that easy to just go with the flow? His stats had increased by 40. After a long, exhausting day of stretching his stiff muscles, Hajin treated himself to an ice-cold cola. He slumped down next to the vending machine and sighed, feeling totally drained. Hajin seemed completely tapped out. Then he glanced at his pale, blood-spattered face, and looking ahead, he realized the person he was watching was Yeon-ha. She walked past him looking quite unhappy. Yeon-ha stared at him with eyes full of hostility and contempt. Hajin didn't say a word to her, just watching her back as she walked away. Suddenly, when he crossed paths with her again, Hajin suddenly realized he was probably the only one who hadn't written a letter to her. But then again, her personality was the type that would make you worry she'd disappear if you hesitated for too long. So Hajin quickly tapped his screen to call out to her, "Hey, Yeon-ha," before she could get too far away. He didn't really have a major reason for calling her back, he just wanted to give her a can of soda. Hyuna, though a bit confused and bewildered, took it anyway. Even though Hajin had good intentions, she immediately suspected him, asking, "Are you looking for a fight?" "What are you talking about?" A moment later, he quickly came up with a reasonable excuse. "You helped me out quite a bit during the last training session. Consider this a drink to help us get along better. A simple test. If following along is enough to get 40 items, then how much will I get back if I actually chat with one of the main characters?" Faced with Hajin's sincerity, Yonha maintained her cold, icy, boss-like demeanor. "I don't need this, drink it yourself." She was cold as ice, no one could claim the #1 spot over her, yet she tossed the can of soda back at him. Turns out one of the things she found annoying about him was how he addressed her. "I haven't given you permission to talk to me so informally, that's your first warning." After putting on such a cool display in front of Hajin, Yonha flipped her hair and walked away. She gripped her bag tightly and walked forward with total confidence, but before she'd gone far, she felt like something was off. The way the bag felt in her hand had changed. "Is it a bit heavier?" To find out, she opened the bag to see what was inside, and surprise, surprise, even though Yonha had given it back, he had deliberately stuffed it back in. "This idiot is so annoying." She held it up high, ready to take her frustration out on the can, but after a moment of thought, Yonha decided to lower her hand. It would be a waste of a perfectly good drink to take it out on Hajin, so she just put it back in the bag. Coca-Cola is innocent. Hajin is just stubborn. He did that because he knew she loved sweets. Yonha loved fast food like soda ramen and hamburgers, but because of her reputation, she couldn't buy that kind of food herself. That was just part of her character design. Hajin was lost in thought, realizing that even though he could push the character settings he alone knew about, a short conversation wouldn't get him many items. Of course, he had to force his way into the main plot, which meant the next part of the main storyline was about to begin, and the event Hajin was referring to was the Jin group's attack on the National Weapons Museum. Who were they, and why were they doing this? Jin's people were those who had signed contracts with the devils of the DGNN, having traded away their souls. In exchange for immense power, they became the devil's right-hand men, and their numbers were growing. This incident was orchestrated with the motive of assassinating a specific individual at the National Weapons Museum. Based on what Hajin remembered, the fact that the main character suddenly showed up at the museum to check out an exhibition caused Jin's plan to fail. The protagonist, Kim Suho, had attracted the attention of several key characters through this episode, but even so, the situation didn't change all that much. Although two main characters, Kim Suho and Chae Nayun, appeared, it was still early in the game, so Jin's group wasn't in any real danger. After thinking it over carefully, he made a decision. "All right, I can blend into this episode. Now I need to find a way to get inside the museum." Suddenly, a security guard approached and ordered him to leave. "Hey, you student class is already over. Why aren't you back at the dormitory? What are you still doing here? Student, hurry up and give me your ID number." To avoid unnecessary trouble, Hajin didn't argue and left with his laptop in hand. "Sorry, I'll provide it right away." The laptop screen displayed distorted characters and glitched code as if an invisible force was trying to pierce the boundary between the digital world and reality. Then, a digitally glitched envelope icon appeared, signaling an electronic message containing a system error or malware. Cube had various extracurricular activities. You could think of them as small organizations established by the cadets, academics, martial arts, first experiences, hobbies, and so on. There were roughly 100 preset clubs. There were clubs for every field in Cube. Moreover, besides self-improvement, the clubs also served as a social foundation for the cadets. It was Kim Hajin's voice. "That is the club I'm participating in today, following the Cube portal." Another voice suddenly rang out. "Ah, welcome, thank you for joining the Healing Rain Travel Club today." That was the voice of Oh Han-hyun, the president of the Healing Rain Travel Club. He continued, "There are many amazing people among the new members this year." Suddenly, Oh Han-hyun became gloomy as he received a stack of application forms. "I was wondering if it was really true." The students behind him, seeing him like that, cheered him on. Senior Han-hyun took a deep breath and then he continued, "Anyway, let me explain a little bit about our club. The Healing Rain Travel Club." Oh Han-hyun explained that the main goal of the club was to rest. "We will use the warp portals to go sightseeing. Outside of Cube once or twice a month?" Kim Hajin was there too. He was listening intently. "We are planning a trip to a nearby location for a group social activity. Today, we're going to Seoul." Oh Han-hyun was extremely excited as he said those words. Kim Hajin, on the other hand, looked rather indifferent. He was thinking that the trip to Seoul, where everyone could freely do whatever they wanted by splitting into two-person teams, was exactly what he had written in his novel. Kim Ha-jin planned that his goal for the day was the Seoul Weapons Museum, where the first main plotline would kick off. I'll follow the main characters there and infiltrate the main plot. Oh, Han Hyun's voice was still echoing. All right, let's split into groups and draw lots, kids. This caught Kim Ha-jin off guard. Was the club drawing set up like this from the start? Well, no matter who I'm paired with, I can handle it on my own, he thought to himself. Suddenly, his name was called from a piece of paper. Kim Ha-jin. Chae Na-yoon had drawn his name. Not only was she frozen, but Kim Ha-jin was also completely stunned. Chae Na-yoon exuded an intense aura and declared, "We go our separate ways." Kim Ha-jin replied with a bit of indifference, "Yeah, sure." As Chae Na-yoon turned to walk away, she suddenly added, "Oh, and one more thing." Kim Ha-jin looked irritated. "I told you not to talk to me in such a blunt tone. This is your second warning." "There won't be a third," she said, faced with this situation. Kim Ha-jin just gave a forced smile and went along with it. "Ah, yes, my lady." The weather was cool and the warm sunlight blanketed everything. It was very crowded inside. This was the International Weapons Museum, which houses the largest collection of replica weapons in Korea. Amidst the crowd, the silhouette of Kim Ha-jin appeared walking all by himself. Suddenly, he accidentally spotted Chae Na-yoon, her eyes sparkling as she gazed at a bow on display. Kim Ha-jin immediately understood, so she's not far off, just as I thought. He had spotted his target. The person intently observing the treasure in front of him was Kim Soo-ho, the main character of this novel. Kim Soo-ho noticed Kim Ha-jin approaching. Kim Ha-jin walked up and asked, "Are you checking out the seven-faceted sword?" Kim Soo-ho seemed hesitant and just gave a grunt. Kim Ha-jin introduced himself. "I'm Kim Ha-jin." Hearing that, Kim Soo-ho broke into a very warm smile. "My apologies, I forgot." He asked Kim Ha-jin, "You're the one who chose the gun, right? So you joined the travel club too?" Kim Ha-jin didn't seem interested in Kim Soo-ho's chatter. He just shot a glance and thought, he's strong and he's good-looking. And I've already taken enough heat from the readers because the protagonist was too stuck in his ways. Kim Soo-ho kept talking. "I think they have guns on display over there. Want to go see?" "I heard Napoleon's rifle is there too." Kim Ha-jin replied coldly, "I'm fine. You think I don't realize we don't have time for that?" Suddenly, the whole museum began to shake violently. The visitors inside were extremely curious. No one knew what was happening. The loudspeaker immediately blared an emergency alert. "Monsters have appeared outside the museum." The warning kept ringing out. The people there were instantly terrified, their faces turning pale. The sound of the announcement echoed through every corner of the museum. "Monsters have appeared outside." Everyone was frightened, screaming at the top of their lungs. They scrambled in a panic. "Where's the exit? Hurry!" The scene was total chaos as people shoved each other. "Don't push! Get out of the way! I said move!" The crowd of adults was pushing so hard that the little girl was about to fall when suddenly a loud punch shattered the glass above them. Neon actually went and did it, and just like that, everyone's eyes were glued to her. The crowd froze completely. Stunned, the shock and disbelief on their faces were written in plain sight. Even Soo-ho, who had just caught the little girl from falling, stood there totally frozen, caught off guard by the whole situation. Nahul spoke up firmly, saying that the hero responsible for the museum would be here soon. As she reached through the glass to grab the bow and arrow, she said, "If you leave in this state, you'll just be bait for the monsters." Suddenly, the museum's system blared. "Containment box damaged. Thief identified. Locking down all security gates. Area now under lockdown." Iron shutters slammed down as blaring alarms and red laser beams filled the room. A frustrated Ayun turned to Kim Soo-ho and snapped, "You grab something too. We need to stand guard until the hero arrives." Kim Soo-ho was taken aback. "Oh, right." Suddenly, footsteps echoed that made everyone jump, and Shanaeon quickly noticed them too. A crimson streak of raw power materialized before her. Chae Na-yoon immediately reached for the arrow on her back. Footsteps grew louder and louder, and at that same moment, Tommy's voice rang out. One of them got in. Kim Ha-jin watched from the sidelines. He quickly recognized the demi-human. It was Lucius's hound. He was a villain designed as a stepping stone for the protagonist's growth. Tommy swung his hand, his razor-sharp claws extended using his strength to charge straight at Chae Na-yoon. Just as Tommy was about to strike Kim Soo-ho, he suddenly appeared from behind with his massive sword. Without a moment's hesitation, he prepared to deliver a lethal blow to Tommy. Kim Ha-jin watched the entire scene unfold. He thought to himself, just like in the novel, Soo-ho should be able to defeat him easily. But contrary to what Kim Ha-jin expected, Tommy swatted Kim Soo-ho away with a single hand. The force of his attack was terrifying, pinning him against the wall before Kim Suho slumped down right behind Kim Hajin. This left him completely stunned. After Tommy's earth-shattering blow, Kim Suho collapsed on the floor, leaving a huge crater in the wall. The laser defense system immediately activated, trapping the entire room. Kim Hajin was so terrified he turned pale in an instant. His eyes widened in shock as he questioned himself. Something is wrong. The story I wrote didn't go like this. At first they were slightly pinned down, but then it turned into a battle where Kim Suho would reveal his power and overwhelm his opponent. Che Nayun also became confused and flustered, muttering, "Hey, Kim Suho!" she shouted. Her powerful voice snapped him back to reality. Suho jerked awake and coughed up a pool of blood. Hajin rushed over, asking anxiously, "Hey, are you all right?" Suho struggled to pull himself up, his entire body trembling violently as he forced out, I'm not." Non took a step forward, deep in thought, realizing his condition was dire and he needed time to recover. But just as she prepared to rush over, a bad feeling washed over her. She spun around, startled to see Tomer charging at her, radiating pure killing intent with magic surging in his hands. Reacting instantly, she drew 2 arrows from her quiver, watching her opponent with tense, focused eyes. Without a second thought, Noon unleashed her attack, firing 3 arrows simultaneously at the approaching enemy. Yet he didn't even flinch, nonchalantly letting the countless sharp arrows bury themselves into his flesh. He sneered with contempt. Noon was stunned by his display, but she had no choice. She had to keep firing at him. More arrows pierced Tomer's body, yet he stood there completely unfazed, as if he felt no pain at all, his smirk growing even more arrogant. By now, Chai Nun had turned pale, paralyzed with shock. Her face couldn't hide her terror and confusion as she gripped her bow, her entire body trembling with rage. Refusing to give up, Noon kept firing, her heart racing in sheer panic. This isn't some special ability or healing power. That bastard. Just then her arrow, which she had just fired, was snapped right out of the air. As he stood there deflecting the relentless barrage of arrows with nothing but a look of disdain, it became clear Tomer was easily using his own power to knock away every single bolt embedded in his body. Wiping away the enemy's attack, his face twisted into a smug, gleeful expression. He narrowed his eyes and broke into a wicked grin. Hajin turned around instinctively and shouted in a panic, "No!" He used every ounce of his strength to scream, "Che Nun, run!" But at that very moment, Tomer lunged toward Che Nun with lightning speed, aiming his demonic claws straight at her. Nin could only watch in dread as those razor-sharp talons closed in on her face. At the critical second, Kim Hajin dove in. He leaped into the air and threw a punch at Tomer, knocking him away from his teammate before turning to Noon and asking in a panicked voice, "Noon, are you okay?" Nin quickly reached for another arrow and hurriedly urged him, "Hey, look after yourself." Before she could even finish, the enemy surged toward them again in a blur. Kim Hajin desperately used his sword to block the giant demon arm. He was shaking, struggling immensely, when suddenly a massive maw burst out from the black smoke, gaping wide right in front of his blade, its eyes glowing with a lethal sharpness. Controlled by Tomer, the beast, formed from black smoke, ferociously bit down on Hajin's holy sword, its eyes flashing with murderous intent, while its master grinned gleefully. Kim Hajin stared at the creature in shock, thinking to himself, has his body actually mutated? The monster launched a relentless assault, forcing him back as he struggled to hold his ground. Tomer took the opening, lunged forward, and savagely slammed Hajin to the floor, drawing back his fist to strike. That guy used the Monster X to subdue Hajin. As those sharp fangs sank into his neck, blood immediately began to trickle out, and Hajin let out a pained groan at that exact moment. Countless arrows imbued with spiritual power pierced Tomer's back, making him wince in pain and instantly stop his cruel actions toward Che Nayun with an incredibly tense expression. Having just saved his teammate from danger, Tomer turned his head and glared at her. His wounds healed in the very next second, and without hesitation he lunged with his claws. Giant demons surrounded Nayun, leaving her no time to react. Only when it was right in front of her did she realize, letting out a startled "Ah!" as she was sent flying into the wall in the blink of an eye. The sound of the collision was deafening. Kim Hajin watched Nayun with concern, the scene mirroring Suho's experience, and he couldn't help but feel uneasy. This is bad, he thought to himself. At this rate, someone's going to die. Hajin's face suddenly darkened as he shouted in a panic, "Everyone run!" Remembering that Nayun was still struggling fiercely, Hajin fought hard against the pressure coming from Tomer. He was incredibly confused, thinking, I definitely wrote this novel. Then why is the content so different? Hajin tried to calm himself, trembling as he took out his laptop. Stay calm now, I need to do what I can. He couldn't stop his whole body from shaking. With extreme tension, he poured several silver bullets out of the box. Holding them in his hand, Hajin cursed even more bitterly. Damn it! Damn it! Elemental-less mana bullets, destructive power 2.5 out of 10. These bullets with concentrated mana won't even leave a scratch on that monster. Even if I increase the destructive power, I won't be able to deal a fatal blow. But if I'm inside my own novel's world, the core settings shouldn't have changed. Thinking this, Kim Hajin didn't hesitate and started typing furiously on his keyboard. The ordinary bullets from before instantly transformed as the system notified him of the mana bullet configuration. Element being changed. Mana bullet modified. Destructive power changed to 6. This requires 104 points. Do you wish to proceed? Hajin immediately grabbed his gun, relieved, thinking it worked. He expertly loaded the magazine. The reason this world needs so many heroes, Hajin realized as he rushed forward, is because of elemental affinity and astrology. They allow one to overcome differences in strength and manifest greater power. Before his eyes, Tomer and Kim Suho were clashing violently. Hajin raised his gun and aimed. He thought to himself, that devil must be a dark element user. His finger slowly lowered to the trigger, and he knew that the thing to dispel darkness is without a doubt light. Hajin suddenly shouted, Kim Suho. Determined, he fired a powerful blast of mana with dazzling light. Hajin roared, Die! The system displayed white light bullet, light element, destructive power 6 out of 10. Condensed with the essence of light, it usually creates a secondary explosion inside the target. The bullet was fired rapidly, landing accurately on Tomer's shoulder. While Tomer was still stunned, not understanding what was happening, boom! The bullet exploded instantly, emitting a powerful light. One of Tomer's arms was obliterated immediately. The fierce shockwave forced everyone nearby to retreat. The blast from the white light bullet shone with such blinding intensity that everyone had to be cautious. Tomer was hit by the impact. One of his arms was severed instantly, much to his own shock. By the time he realized the situation, he roared in pain and fury at Nayun. She, who had been pinned to the wall by him, had already passed out. When he let his guard down, she slowly slumped to the ground. Kim Hajin stood right there, his body trembling with fear. I've exceeded the time limit, haven't I? Severely wounded Tomer was shaking while clutching his shoulder. Kim Suho seized the opportunity sword aimed at his foe. Hajin collapsed to the floor in a panic, his gun shattered, panting heavily. Only when he came to his senses a little did he look up at Kim Suho, who was unleashing a surge of intense mana. His expression was incredibly determined, his eyes flashing with killing intent as he stared at the enemy. The very next second, the holy sword was enveloped in his powerful spiritual energy. Tomer finally realized his situation, his expression one of astonishment. Stunned by the mystical light, Tomer watched as Kim Suho calmly caressed his sword. The mana radiated with increasing intensity. The power of the sword saint could cut through anything. Finally, it's over. Kim Suho decisively cut Tomer in two with a single strike in the blink of an eye. In his final moments, Tomer only had time to let out a few pained groans. Then, completely drained of life force, he collapsed to the floor. Suho slowly landed, planting his holy sword firmly into the ground to finish the strike. Sweat poured down his face. His breathing became heavy and rapid. On this side, Nayun wasn't doing much better. She knelt on the ground, her whole body shaking uncontrollably from the sheer terror. Kim Suho quickly approached, reaching out to comfort her, gently asking, "Are you okay?" But Nayun immediately swatted his hand away coldly. Kim Suho stared blankly at his rejected hand, speechless. Just then, Kim Hajin walked over nonchalantly and said, "Leave her alone. Her brother will be here to comfort her soon enough." He thought to himself, that's how it happened in the novel, right? Seeing no one reply, Hajin looked up to find both Kim Suho and Nayun staring at him wide-eyed with shock and disbelief. She looked at him in confusion, trembling with a tense expression, and asked, What did you just say?" As soon as she finished, she collapsed from exhaustion, causing Suho to panic and shout, "Nayun! Outside!" Sharp-spined lizards were aggressively charging and spitting fire from their mouths. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed in midair, and the next second, several lizards immediately suffered as countless blades pierced their flesh, causing them to fall to the floor in pain. When they had all passed out, a pair of feet in red shoes walked by calmly. It was Yu Seonghwa. She walked into the middle of the battlefield with her twin swords, asking nonchalantly, "Is it over?" An ambulance arrived quickly, and the people inside hurried over loudly, calling Vice President. "The emergency outside the museum has been resolved." Seonghwa breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness." "What's the situation inside the museum?" A devil appeared. "But it has already been dealt with immediately." At that time, there were 3 cadet heroes there, Yu Seonghwa asked with curiosity and admiration. "Oh, That's impressive. Who were they? The subordinate replied thoughtfully. It was Che Nayun Kim Suho and... Hearing those names, her eyes lit up. Seunghwa rushed off excitedly, leaving behind her confused subordinate, calling after her. What is it, Vice President? Seunghwa couldn't hide the joy on her face. She thought to herself, thank goodness I never expected to have the chance to interact with Kim Suho in a place like this. She quickly ran to the museum gate, still debating what she should say first, when suddenly Kim Hajin caught her eye. Like she'd just struck gold, she thought, Seunga. Ah, perfect timing. To his surprise, she didn't hesitate to walk right up to him. Seunga suddenly appeared right in front of Hajin, closing the distance quickly. Excitedly greeting him, she rushed to ask, You're in Cube Cadet, right? Before she could finish her sentence, Hajin cut her off. He stepped aside and calmly said, Kim Suho is inside. Seunga politely backed off, replying with a stiff, oh, thanks. She happily went inside without a second thought, but after walking a bit, she suddenly realized something and questioned, Wait a second. How did you know I was looking for Kim Suho right now? Hajin, exhausted, sat leaning against a chair in the plaza, sighing heavily. He opened his laptop, lost in thought. Seunga talking to me out of the blue really startled me. Could this situation be related? And to the changes in the story, I want to check this. Let's get straight to the point. A foreign character named Kim Hajin has become involved in the story, but his role has been very vague. Up until now, everything has been progressing without any issues. So I'm sure I'm not important enough to affect the plot. Thinking this, Hajin froze. He remembered something. He stammered, I completely forgot this novel has a co-author. This world is a remake of the novel I wrote. If this world is based on what was written by the person who sent this email, then it makes sense that everything is happening without me, now being able to predict it. If that's the case, maybe my predictions based on the novel are useless now. This hypothesis left Kim Hajin shaken. Completely stunned, he suddenly heard a sound that made his stiff body jolt. Hajin looked at the glowing laptop screen, confused. A new email notification popped up. He thought, a message. When he opened it, it was a system notification, a flaw. The protagonist and the characters around him are never in danger. If they keep facing danger, readers will get tired of the boring, repetitive stuff. The protagonist will just swoop in to save the day. Hajin's fingers trembled. He stared at the screen, his expression darkening as he gasped. What? What are you saying? An alternative measure. From now on, the grade of the enemies will be increased, even if it leads to chaos. As the sun set, painting the sky red, Suho finally walked over and waved at his classmates. Kim Suho and Kim Hajin approached the two of them, and he gave them a cautious warning. I've heard about what happened. I'll ask for details later. Just head back for now. Suddenly, Kim Suho asked, What about Che Nayun? Suho replied calmly. She's on sick leave and has gone home to her family. You two should head back to Cube too, saying that he turned his back and left, leaving the two of them staring blankly at his retreating figure. Just then, Kim Suho suddenly called out to Hajin, making him jump as he turned around. Suho looked at him suspiciously and hesitated. About earlier. Why did you say that to Nayun? Hajin put on an innocent, clueless face and asked, Say what? Suho replied bluntly. That bit about her brother. Bit? Kim Hajin finally remembered and replied seriously, Well, it's because her brother is a bit strange. But then he remembered the message from earlier, a critique of him. Trying to regain his composure, he asked in a panic, Wait, what's wrong with her brother? Suho looked at him with distrust and snapped, Are you pretending you don't know? Hajin explained, confused. What? No, I really... Just then, a sharp pain shot through Suho's head, making his face turn pale. Finally, he gave up. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's talk later. Che Nayun, previously 4th rank at the military academy, is currently enrolled at the Cube Hero Training School. Family relations. Che Shin-hyuk, father, and Che Jin-yun, older brother. Kim Hajin sat in front of the screen, scrolling back and forth, feeling confused and muttering, It's still exactly how I set it up. So what's with that reaction? Suddenly, he saw something and instinctively cried out. A massive headline hit Hajin's eyes. Hot news! Che Shin-hyuk's son Che Jin-yun in critical condition, after an attack by a subhuman. Below it were countless articles about the event. Operation Spark was a success. New hero recruit Che Jin-yun currently in a coma. Hero Che Jin-yun succeeded in rescuing 3 squad members during the subhuman attack and has been confirmed to be in a coma. Hajin froze, shocked and bewildered, gasping, What is this? The subhuman suppression Operation Spark. That was the first victory that boosted the protagonist Che Jin-yun. Nayun was only 13 at the time and was extremely proud of her brother, the man who became a hero. Or at least that's what I set up. While he was still confused, the computer screen lit up again. Another new message arrived. Hajin thought to himself, those messages again. When he clicked the box, the system immediately displayed a notice. This message will be sent after the target. Kim Hajin realizes that the setting has been changed. First, in the spark battle, someone is lying unconscious in a pool of blood. The squad members around him are screaming, "Jinyun, wake up, Jinyun!" His eyes blurred with tears. The protagonist was judged to have too many supporters. The settings were immediately changed to the lines below. Point of change: 4 years ago, Che Jinyun, after being appointed as a hero, met with an accident on his very first mission. He received a demonic shard and became a demon seed. Reading these lines, Kim Hajin was completely stunned, his eyes wide. After suffering an accident during his very first mission, he acquired a demon's fang and transformed into a demon seed. Reading those lines, Kim Hajin was left completely stunned, his eyes wide open. A voice from the hospital room. TV blared in confusion, reporting that at around 1 in the afternoon, a group of monsters had appeared in the heart of downtown Seoul. The sudden arrival of these monsters has left about 50 civilians injured and 7 others dead. At the center of the suppression efforts is Jun Seong-ah, vice leader of the Haeyeon Guild, and others. Suddenly, a hand with pale skin turned the volume down. The hospital room was quite dim. She sat in the middle of the room alone, hugging herself, radiating a gloomy atmosphere. She gripped her body tightly, tucked her face into her blanket, and sat in total despair. Suddenly, Chae Shin-hyuk burst in from outside with a doctor shouting in a panic. Nayeon, startled, looked up and gasped in surprise. "Father?" she asked worriedly. "What's wrong? What about your work?" He gently reassured her. "Do you really think work is the most important thing right now? How are you feeling? Do you feel any better?" "Yes, I'm okay now," she replied. Shin-hyuk couldn't stop worrying and asked carefully, "Are you really truly okay? Should we have the doctor run some detailed tests?" Her father started to turn to the doctor, but Nayeon quickly waved him off and said cheerfully, "No, it's fine. Honestly, there's nothing wrong at all." "Why did you even come all the way here, father?" He hesitated and replied, "Because I was worried about you, Nayeon." Nayeon felt a pang of guilt. She sighed and answered, "I really am fine." Suddenly, Nayeon called out again, "Father!" She curled up, feeling pitiful and sad, and asked, "Could I go see my brother before I'm discharged?" Shin-hyuk was shocked for a moment, his heart aching as he looked at his daughter, unable to find words. He gently held her hand and immediately agreed, "Of course you can." A devil seed. A higher form of a demi-human that can take over a person by turning them into a devil seed. The person transformed into a seed enters an incubation phase, until it sprouts and blooms into a powerful devil. Kim Hajin sat lost in deep thought. According to his settings, an incubation period like that is about 5 to 6 years, so half the time has already passed. On this side, Chae Na-eun had also changed into her casual clothes, standing in front of someone's hospital room door. The sign clearly read, "Room 803, Chae Jin-woon." There was only one way to solve this complicated situation: do it as quickly as possible before the devil inside Chae Jin-woon sprouts. He had to kill him. Hajin fell into a state of confusion, but how could he do it? No, who would even do this? You can't just hand this task to anyone. No mercenary would accept a request to kill the 4th-generation descendant of a prestigious family. And because there is absolutely no way to measure this sprouting, there's no way to propose a countermeasure for it either. Kim Soo-ho wouldn't be able to fight a fully sprouted devil. Even if they mobilized all the current heroes, they wouldn't be able to avoid the loss of several lives. That is why this whole thing must not be allowed to happen. All those people need to become allies for him in the later parts of the story. At this moment, Nayeon was sitting by the hospital bed calling out, "Brother!" Kim Hajin on the other side was becoming extremely tense. His whole body was trembling. Finally, Nayeon looked at her brother heartbroken and tearfully said, "I'm here." Hajin only had one choice. He held his head and stared at the computer. "I'll have to kill him." Back on the other side, Nayeon was chatting with Jin-woon. "This is the first time I've ever seen a demi-human. I almost died. How could a normal trainee even fight a demi-human like that? But that gunman." At this, she suddenly froze. Nayeon went quiet, unable to continue, and muttered softly, "Forget it, let's not talk about that." A knock sounded from outside. "Visiting hours are over." Nayeon instinctively replied, "Oh, okay." She smoothed the blanket over her brother, said a reluctant goodbye. "I'll come back later, brother," closed the door, and stepped into the hallway. She lowered her head and walked in silence. She kept walking, but after a few steps she suddenly stopped, lost in thought. Memories of the other day flashed through her mind. Hajin had said coldly, "Just leave her alone." He had looked at her with such icy eyes, his words impossible to understand. I'm sure her brother will come to comfort her soon enough. Thinking of this, Nayun instinctively bit her lip. Her expression turned terrifyingly dark, and a flash of killing intent gleamed in her eyes as she growled under her breath, "Kim Hajin." At the Hero Tower, the lights on the floors were still on. In the archives room, a voice echoed, "Vice Guild Leader?" Jiren stood guard by the door, anxious and warning her, "Accessing the files of a national organization without permission is against the law." "What if you get caught?" Junseong-ah kept searching, reassuring him dismissively. "It's fine. I just need to take a quick look at that attack at the museum today." Jiren began to crumble. But that's exactly the problem. Junseong-ah started analyzing according to this photo. Junseong start the analysis based on this image. They found traces of light element mana on the demi-human's body. That means one of the people who defeated it must be able to use this element. Burning with enthusiasm, Junseong clenched her fists in excitement and continued, "Whoever can use the light element is a huge threat to that demi-human. No matter what, we have to find them and recruit them." Hearing that, Jiren thought helplessly, she's obsessing over talent scouting again. Suddenly, Junseong spoke up, asking, "The demi-human was defeated by 3 cadets who happened to be at the exhibition, right? One of them must be..." Jiren confirmed firmly. "Yes, someone who can use the light element." She began listing names. Kim Suho, Chae Nayun. We've already had our eyes on them for a while. A question popped into Junseong's mind, and she voiced her doubt, "But I've never heard of this third person's name." Rank 934 in Cube Kim Ha-jin. Elsewhere, Kim Ha-jin sat typing on his laptop, reflecting on the situation. He felt a bit happy as he realized something, but others couldn't see this laptop. Thanks to that, I can freely check the settings without worrying about the characters seeing it. Kim Ha-jin continued to think after realizing this. I've added a few more features to the machine. Suddenly, at that moment, the referee's voice cut through his thoughts. The winner is Daytrol. Just like that, a notification popped up indicating a change in the settings. The character Demian's confidence dropped lower than the original setting. He knelt on the ground, crying his eyes out, because the gap in points between him and Daytrol was too wide. "Somebody please change my training partner." Kim Ha-jin began to introduce the function. This is exactly what that feature is for. I'll get a notification if something within a 30-meter radius of me changes from the story I wrote. Kim Ha-jin felt a bit confident. This had to be more effective. A message from the co-author. It only appears when I realize something. At that moment, a shadow suddenly appeared behind him. Chae Nayun, with an intense look in her eyes, spoke up. "Why won't you fight me?" Kim Ha-jin watched her in silence. A moment later, he flatly refused. Not wanting to give up, Chae Nayun retorted, "Why are you scared?" After talking about someone else's family like that, other cadets practicing nearby saw the argument and were confused. Are they fighting? Hearing the taunt, Kim Ha-jin didn't get angry. He calmly replied, "Because this is a direct match, I have to be careful. I don't want to get into trouble for hurting a classmate, Nayun." Seeing him treat her with disdain, she gritted her teeth in anger and cursed, "You jerk!" Just then a professor walked over and scolded them. "What are you students doing?" he reminded Cadet Ha-jin. "You can't spar with other cadets since you haven't had weapon training yet. Go back to your position, Cadet Nayun." Hearing that, she walked away, frustrated. Chae Nayun stopped caring about Kim Ha-jin and left. At that moment, he glanced at her and suddenly realized he probably should have apologized. But Kim Ha-jin quickly dismissed the thought. "I have a basic goal. I'm currently working myself to death to become stronger." He was driven by a single goal to be able to kill her brother. Kim Ha-jin reflected. Even if we were to improve our relationship in the future, she would only feel even more betrayed. In another building room, 305, a large crowd had gathered. A voice rang out. "Is everyone here?" Junhyun introduced himself. "Welcome to the Truth Club's orientation. I am the club president, Junhyun." He continued into the main points of their activities. "The core of our club is researching monsters and combat strategies, so we'll be meeting up weekly to discuss them." Junhyun continued to speak. "If you've already read the flyers we passed out..." Both male and female cadets were blushing in front of him. Kim Ha-jin analyzed his handsome appearance. The ability to charm the listener. He was certain it was the ability of a demon. Kim Ha-jin recalled the plot of Cube, a major stage in the early part of the novel. Quite a few incidents had occurred, like cadets being kidnapped and monsters infiltrating. Junhyun was the villain who orchestrated those events. He recalled Junhyun's true identity. He was an individual who had gained a charm ability from the demon Lilith. Kim Ha-jin speculated on the guy's main objective. He was certain of his suspicion. That was the exact reason he had joined this academic club. At this moment, Yu Yeonha was also sitting there listening to the orientation. She coldly crossed her arms and looked forward. Junhyun gently turned on the screen. Since it's the orientation today, let's keep things light, shall we? A three-dimensional image of a monster appeared. He introduced it. This is a mid to high-level monster, the Mountain Tyrant, which began appearing after the summoning incident. So it's a monster with a history of nearly 55 years. Junhyun revealed a truth both inside and outside of Cube. Information on high-level monsters was very valuable, especially information regarding their weaknesses. That can be worth $1 million or more. He posed a question and called out, "So what do you think the weakness of the Mountain Tyrant is?" Cadet Yu Yeonha heard the question and bluntly replied, "I've heard no weaknesses have been made public yet." Junhyun agreed. That's right. Discussing cases like these is one of the joys of an academic club like this. Then he invited everyone. Anyone who wants to share their thoughts, please join the gathering right after this. At this, Kim Ha-jin spoke up. "Are you going to, Miss Yeonha?" She didn't care and walked past him. Seeing himself being ignored, Kim Ha-jin repeated his words loudly. "Miss Yeonha, are you participating in the gathering afterward too?" Only then did she reluctantly answer, "Yes, because I might be able to gather some useful information." Kim Ha-jin thought to himself, what good would information about monsters even do? You're planning to share your theory with your guild's raiding party. Yu Yeonha glared at him, hit right where it hurt. That guild was built on despair 55 years ago, right when the Great Outbreak happened. It's centered around the Yu family, and now it's one of the most influential guilds in Korea. Kim Ha-jin cut straight to the point. "But I hear lately, the Vice Guildmaster's support is getting so strong that you, the legitimate heir, are being threatened." He exposed Yu Yeonha's true motive. "That's the reason you came to this gathering. In a way that is so unlike you." To get the information, she brushed off her pride and asked straight out, "What are you trying to say?" Kim Ha-jin suggested, "I'll tell you that secret. The weak point of the high-rank monster, the Mountain Tyrant." Yu Yeonha couldn't believe her ears, stammering, What did you say?" Kim Ha-jin said calmly, "If you want to inherit the guild, without any trouble, you need to make a real contribution, right?" Then he started pointing it out. "There's a small mark on its heel. If you attack that spot, you can completely immobilize the Mountain Tyrant." Kim Ha-jin raised a condition. "But I'm not giving you this info for free. Your guild is organizing an expedition to the armory, right?" He stated his demand. "I want you to buy a diesel ego from them." Yu Yeonha was silent for a long time, then questioned him, "What about proof? Do you have proof to back up that claim?" Kim Ha-jin gave a smug, triumphant smirk. He gave a ridiculous answer, "No, none at all." That left both of them in an awkward spot. Yu Yeonha, helpless, gritted her teeth and turned away. What a waste of time. Kim Ha-jin didn't stop her, just saying, "I swear if you don't trust me, you're going to regret it big time." Kim Ha-jin calmly analyzed the situation in case Yeonha decided to ignore him. This $1 million intel will go to waste. He thought about the other better possibility. If she trusts me, I'll have a powerful ally. Meanwhile, Yu Yeonha was already contacting her team. "Hello, is this Secretary Jin? Can you pass a message to the Mountain Tyrant raiding party?" She blushed as she gave the instructions. When you attack, Yu Yeonha said, revealing the weak point Kim Ha-jin had told her. The green mark on its heel might be its weak spot. So you have to focus your attacks there. Kim Ha-jin was certain that she would become an ally, who would one day be known as the Queen of Seoul. A notification screen popped up. Debt agreement. Client, Cooper Bank. Debtor Cooper. Kim Ha-jin. Loan amount, $300,000. The creditor Cooper Bank will be referred to as the client, and the debtor Kim Ha-jin will be referred to as the borrower. Both agree to the following terms. Seeing the debt amount displayed on the screen, Kim Ha-jin broke out in a cold sweat and stammered, repeating it. $300,000. Maybe people don't know this, but the maximum loan limit for a cadet like Cooper is $300,000. Kim Ha-jin wondered to himself. He maxed out the loan and ran off with all the money. He cursed angrily, "That bastard Kim Chun-dong! What on earth is he doing?" Suddenly, Kim Ha-jin remembered something. He hurriedly opened his smartwatch to check. What about the bank account? The watch screen showed a balance of $3,000. Kim Ha-jin felt helpless. "No, if it goes on like this, I'll be sent back to my original world." He imagined the creditors chasing him down with a contract of indentured servitude in their hands. "So you can't pay back the debt? Don't worry." Then he thought about a life spent drifting on the sea, working himself to the bone to pay off the debt. Kim Ha-jin imagined the worst-case scenario he might end up spending his whole life, just paying off that debt. He cursed under his breath and told himself, looks like I'll have to do something to make some money. Kim Ha-jin analyzed his options. He had 2 legal ways to make a lot of money. He thought of 2 plans. First, stocks. Kim Ha-jin remembered the background of the world. In this world, towers and dungeons kept appearing, and the guilds that discovered and conquered them were just like companies. And all these guilds were listed on the stock market having their own guild stocks. However, he hit a major snag. Even though he did know which guilds would go public successfully, he didn't have any money to invest right now, so he put the stock idea on hold. Kim Ha-jin decided to choose the other option. Guess I'll have to start by hitting the Sans. The second option was Sans hunting grounds. To explain, these are dangerous areas occupied by monsters. They have many differences compared to towers and dungeons. The difficulty level varies wildly, and you can make quick money by selling monster carcasses. Kim Ha-jin had some doubts, but recently he had just barely managed to pass the average stat threshold for a man. Is this enough to go hunting in the sands? He looked at the stats on the screen. Strength, 1.735, stamina, 1.745, agility, 215, intelligence, 2.605, vitality, 165, magic power, 13. Kim Ha-jin thought about a solution. Using items to strengthen this handgun would be a waste. There must be another way. Suddenly there was a knock at the door, cutting off his thoughts. The delivery person called out, Cadet Kim Ha-jin, you have a package from Cadet. IU Eon-ha. Kim Ha-jin has a few questions about the items from IU Eon-ha. Opening the door, he found a parcel left outside. Kim Ha-jin opened it with his hands, saw the contents, and gasped in surprise. What is this? Switching scenes to the Wonju area in Gangwon Province, a female staff member at the hunting ground gate smiled and said, Thank you for using our facilities, Cadet Kim Ha-jin. Have fun on your hunt. He was a bit bewildered. She was being so friendly just because he was a cadet. Kim Ha-jin stepped outside the gate. The area was crowded. Suddenly, he stopped observing his surroundings, noting some information in the region. Gangwon Province has a hunting ground with a relatively low danger level, so people from all over the world come here to hunt. This has turned the city into an international megalopolis. A young man called out loudly, I'm looking for a party. We're catering to a mage. Looking to head to the vicinity of Mount Cheok to sell medicinal ingredients from blood-eating wolves. Kim Ha-jin looked around. The people were buzzing with rumors that in this Wonju area of Gangwon Province there's a crazy guy hunting in the nude. Even news channels are coming here to investigate that. Are you looking for a party? No, I'm asking where you are right now. Just then, Kim Ha-jin noticed a woman calculating prices. 3 small goblins, right? That'll be $600. Seeing this, he realized, thinking about it, I need to find a permanent agent so I can get better rates for selling monster parts later. Kim Ha-jin hesitated, wondering if he should just pick a random agent nearby. Suddenly, someone approached him from behind and greeted him politely. Excuse me. Kim Ha-jin turned around. It was Park Soo-wook with messy hair who approached and asked, Are you here to hunt monsters? Kim Ha-jin asked. Are you an agent? Park Soo-wook stammered, Yes, where's my business card? Oh, here it is. Because he was so clumsy, he dropped papers all over the ground. Then Park Soo-wook handed him the card. Here, this is my business card. Kim Ha-jin took it and silently evaluated him. This guy seems a bit careless, doesn't he? But then he was shocked to see what was written on the card. In Kim Ha-jin's head, he repeated SH Agency Park Soo-wook. That's what was written on the card. He recalled the image of this man sitting at the top. He wasn't just the best agency director in Korea. He had become the representative agent for Kim Soo-ho. Kim Ha-jin was taken aback. Who would have thought he'd meet him here? At that moment, Park Soo-wook asked a bit shyly, You've never heard of me, have you? Well, I haven't been at this for very long. Kim Ha-jin muttered out loud, Shh, huh? He held out his hand and said cheerfully, That sounds good. I'll sign the contract. Park Soo-wook was a bit bewildered that he agreed so quickly and asked, Really? Kim Ha-jin speculated that the world was still in the early chapters of the novel, so there would be many people who hadn't discovered their true value yet, just like in the novel. Park Soo-wook was so happy he grabbed his hand and shook it. Thank you. I will provide you with the best service ever. Kim Ha-jin decided that building a connection early on wasn't a bad idea at all. Suddenly he remembered something. Wait, if I snatch up Kim Soo-ho's agent, will that be okay? A moment later, a voice rang out. Kim Ha-jin asked anxiously, Are you sure it's okay to just follow me like this? Park Soo-wook was panting from the walk, but he reassured him. Don't worry. If we run into a dangerous situation, it's fine to just leave me behind. Kim Ha-jin was a bit skeptical. Most agents don't have cars and usually wait outside the hunting grounds, don't they? Is he that desperate for business? Suddenly, just then, Park Soo-wook looked at the footprints on the ground and said, "I see tracks of a small goblin here. This type has a low difficulty level, and the price is around $300 to $400 a head. What do you think?" Kim Ha-jin replied vaguely, "I'm not sure." In his mind, he calculated a magic bullet is $200 each. So for a profit, it's better to find a higher value monster. Kim Ha-jin pointed in a direction and asked, "What about that one?" Seeing the giant monster below, Park Soo-wook answered, "That is..." He squinted to get a better look, then gasped in shock. "Isn't that a steel boar?" Park Soo-wook gave a strained smile and warned Kim Ha-jin, "You can't hunt that type with a gun. Your bullets won't be able to pierce its hide." But he just replied confidently, "Whether I can pierce its hide or not, I won't know until I try." Park Soo-wook froze. Kim Ha-jin reassured him, "My gun is pretty good, as you can see." Then he remembered the weapon he had received for providing information to Iu Eon-ha about the mountain tyrant. Kim Ha-jin pulled out the Desert Eagle he had prepared. Its stats were as follows. Desert Eagle High Grade. Element Iron. Amplifies magic destructive power. Low-grade weight reduction. High-grade recoil reduction technology. At the same time, Kim Ha-jin had upgraded it, and he had used a special setting for this piece. Park Soo-wook tried to stop him, saying, "I'm sorry, but you're only going to anger it, kid." Kim Ha-jin didn't care. He just focused on aiming. Park Soo-wook kept calling out in despair. Kim Ha-jin fired a bullet straight at the steel boar. The bullet flew true, piercing his body instantly. Ironclad Chu fell down in agony. Park Soo-woo's jaw dropped in shock. Kim Ha-jin had actually shot him down, gone to meet his maker with just a single shot in the blink of an eye. Park Soo-woo slumped to the ground, stunned. It turned out the special modification on the Desert Eagle beyond its other specs was, every time an enemy is taken down in one shot, its destructive power stacks. Kim Ha-jin walked toward the cliff's edge, looked at his handiwork, and said proudly, "That's a pretty good skill, too." Beside him, Park Soo-woo still hadn't shaken off his shock. The gun in Kim Ha-jin's hand was a beautiful matte black, and its firepower was immense. Park Soo-woo admired it and offered praise. "That gun is incredible. Your marksmanship is top tier, too." Kim Ha-jin humbly replied, "It's nothing," then suddenly focused his attention elsewhere. Kim Ha-jin fired another shot. Park Soo-woo covered his ears and cried out in alarm, asking, What was that now?" Kim Ha-jin calmly explained, "There was a black pelican over there by the cliff." Park Soo-woo asked in awe, "You could see that from this far away?" At the cliff, Kim Ha-jin confirmed, "Of course, I used my skill." He told him that clairvoyance made throwing a stone seem like nothing. Then Kim Ha-jin turned to leave, announcing, "Well, I'll be heading out first." Park Soo-woo was caught off guard and called out loudly, Wait, hold on, wait for me." The scene shifted to the black pelican and the ironclad Chu lying piled on top of each other. Park Soo-woo panted heavily, exhausted, and said, "There are only two of them, but they're incredibly heavy." Kim Ha-jin wondered aloud, "I wonder if we can get them back to the station." Park Soo-woo muttered that the best option might be to call an ambulance and pay for the service. "The payment will be sent tomorrow. Let's see. After taxes, the remaining amount will be..." Seeing this, Kim Ha-jin thought to himself, he really is good at his job. He shook his hand and agreed, "Yeah, let's do that. I hope we can work together again in the future." Park Soo-woo said politely, "I should be the one saying that." He then asked, somewhat curious, "You said this was your first hunt, right? May I ask what you plan to do with the earnings?" Kim Ha-jin replied matter-of-factly, "Stocks." Park Soo-woo's heart suddenly shattered. He couldn't believe his ears. Huh. Kim Ha-jin had been looking into a new guild, the Pack Horse Master, because the guild composed of demi-humans played a fairly important role in the story. He used his laptop and thought, of course, that's not what I'm focused on right now, but the dungeon this guild conquered in the story. He recalled a crucial piece of information, the Demon's Lair. After that incident, the stock price of the Pack Horse Master skyrocketed by nearly 1,000%. Kim Ha-jin was absolutely certain. Buying them was a guaranteed way to make money. There was no better way to profit. He clicked the buy button on the screen. The screen displayed a green checkmark confirming the purchase of stocks with $3,000. Kim Ha-jin talked to himself. "That should be enough, right?" he asked aloud. "Where else can I find useful information about stocks? There's not much on public forums, so if I'm going to look for something, I should search the dark web, the Purple Feast." Suddenly, Kim Ha-jin remembered something. He told himself, Speaking of the dark web, that reminds me of the Chameleon Troupe, the main villains until the middle of the story. An organization of criminals made up of members, whose true identities were unknown to everyone except their aliases. As the author, I'm probably the only one who knows about them and their operations, he calculated in his mind. The Chameleon Troupe are criminals, but they don't like demi-humans, so if I can somehow get acquainted with the leader of that troupe, maybe I can get some help sending Che Nayun back to her ancestors. Thinking it through, Kim Ha-jin pondered the plot. Let's see. According to the story, there is currently an open spot in the Chameleon Troupe. That means they're about to make a move. Suddenly, his laptop screen went pitch black. Kim Ha-jin didn't understand what was happening. What the why is it black? He worried. No, this might be the only way to return to my own world. The laptop screen lit up again. Kim Ha-jin was overjoyed. It's back on. The screen displayed 1 month has passed. A notification appeared. Laptop functions will be updated. Progress 0.01%. Elsewhere in a small cafe, customers were whispering to each other, blushing. Look over there. Oh my God, is he a celebrity? It turned out to be Shin Jong-hak sitting and talking with Yu Yeon-ha. Yu Yeon-ha sighed in frustration. This is so annoying. Can we stop these noble society meetings? Yu Yeon-ha smiled and advised, just grit your teeth and do it. There's nothing to lose by being close with the club leaders. Don't you think so? She asked, how have your scores been lately? Shin Jong-hak replied curtly, good enough. Yu Yeon-ha smiled and responded, the Jong-hak I know is only satisfied with first place. He looked down at the 3D screen and said, that's why I said it's enough. Yu Yeon-ha didn't ask further and said, all right, fine. Suddenly the cafe door opened. Che Nayun walked in. Yu Yeon-ha called out, Nayun over here. Shin Jong-hak saw her and jumped up happily, calling out, Che Nayun! He hurried over and asked, why did you come to this meeting? Che Nayun teased back, what's that? If I'd known you were going to be here, I wouldn't have come. Shin Jong-hak asked, I heard you were in the hospital. Are you okay? Che Nayun answered dismissively, it's nothing. Don't make a big deal out of it. Yu Yeon-ha just listened silently to their conversation. Just then, Che Nayun suddenly spoke up. Right, I have something to discuss. She asked seriously, do you two know a guy named Kim Ha-jin? Yu Yeon-ha was startled when she heard that name. She quickly looked up and asked, Kim Ha-jin, what about him? Che Nayun began to explain slowly, you know about the demi-human museum incident, right? Back then it was Kim Suho, me and that guy. The three of us. She continued recounting her experience, saying the demi-human was stronger than expected, so she meant the battle required everything they had to take it down. Then Che Nayun said in horror, but that bastard! Recalling the moment the demi-human's arm was shattered, she shuddered. She thought, how is that even possible? He blew off the demi-human's arm with a trainee's weapon. Looking at Kim Ha-jin's face at that moment, Nayun insisted that it was very suspicious. Suddenly finishing her story, she turned to ask Yu Yeon-ha. Thinking about it, wasn't he in the same squad as you? Yeon-ha, what do you think of him? Hearing her name called, Yu Yeon-ha startled. My past, I grew up in an orphanage, a cadet from Cube with a debt of about $300,000. That's all the info regarding Cadet Kim Ha-jin. I still don't know how he could find the weakness of the mountain tyrant. It turned out Yu Yeon-ha had sent someone to investigate Kim Ha-jin. She replied to the investigator, I tried asking him, but he refused to answer me. I had no choice but to keep digging into him. She remembered the time Kim Ha-jin teased her, saying, I won't tell you, and at that moment all she could do was helplessly curse, you bastard. Yeon-ha continued, saying she needed to confirm whether or not he was someone worth trusting. Returning to reality, she replied vaguely, he's just an ordinary person. Deep down, Yu Yeon-ha analyzed that she hadn't seen any destructive power capable of blowing off a demi-human's arm from his attacks during his fight with the monsters. She picked up her tea to take a sip and speculated to herself, could it be that he's hiding something? Just then, Nayun whispered her guess, do you think he could be a demi-human? Hearing her guess, both Yu Yeon-ha and Shin Jong-hak froze. Yu Yeon-ha sighed helplessly. Nayun, do you really think a demi-human would attack another demi-human? Nayun was still certain of her thought. Could it be, this guy is just weird? Over there, Kim Ha-jin covered his face from the screen's glare, wondering what on earth this was. The screen displayed, updating 98%. Suddenly, Kim Ha-jin's watch glowed. He let out a painful cry, his arm covered in blood. The chair was pushed over. Kim Ha-jin panted heavily in front of the laptop. Information kept appearing. One of the creator's powers. This holy seal contains magic power. Inside Kim Hujin's headlines of text appeared, "Every time your contribution increases, once the product received exceeds a certain value, the number of holy seals will be carved in." Kim Hujin covered his ears, thinking the information was pouring into his head like a tsunami. Elsewhere, Shin Jong-hak slammed his hand on the table and asked, "Whatever it is." His eyes lit up. Shin Jong-hak asked Na-yoon, "You don't like him, do you?" The two remained silent. At Kim Hujin's place, he collapsed in pain, struggling to reach the table. On this side, Na-yoon silently remembered what Kim Hujin once said. "I bet her brother will come to comfort her soon." If you don't hesitate to insist, that's roughly it. Currently, Kim Hujin is passing out. A holy seal appeared on his arm. The laptop screen hadn't turned off yet. It showed the text, "Diary updated, Sub-Talent Book of Truth has been added. Talent observation and glance." Talent observation and glance have been strengthened. At the Seoul Association Tower, everyone was holding an award ceremony. Model citizen, Hujin whispered to himself. Not long after the museum incident, the fact that Kim Suho Na-yoon and I had fought the demi-human became known, and we received the Model Citizen Award. He silently rubbed his aching wrist. Hujin lowered his eyes to look at his wrist, thinking, "The wound I got yesterday still hurts." He stared intently at his wrist, lost in thought. "I need to figure out what kind of ability this is." Right at that moment, Na-yoon walked over and sat in the chair next to him. A second later, she crossed her arms, acting annoyed, and turned to complain, "Hey, you're doing just fine." Hujin froze and said, "I haven't even said a word yet." Na-yoon suddenly became unreasonably angry and insisted, "So what I say? It is so it is." Hujin hesitated slightly and asked, "You didn't forget, did you?" Na-yoon, still scowling, asked back, "Forget what?" He gently reminded her that I saved you. As soon as she heard that Na-yoon's expression changed, she pursed her lips and fell silent, not knowing how to respond. But immediately she regained her spirit, went crazy, and shouted, "Hey, that's a completely different matter." Just then Suho came over and spoke up to stop both of them. "That's enough." He called to Na-yoon, asking her to switch seats with him. She immediately refused, "I don't want to." However, Suho didn't ask for her opinion. He directly grabbed Na-yoon's hand and pulled her to the seat next to them despite her shouting in protest. Why?" "I said I don't want to." Hujin stared blankly at the two, wondering to himself, what are they doing? After dealing with Na-yoon, Suho sat down next to Hujin. He put his hand to his mouth, coughed a few times to clear his throat, and then Suho took the initiative to start a conversation with Hujin. "Thanks for that time." Hujin found it ridiculous, let out a breath, rolled his eyes, and thought, "Now, what is it this time?" Seeing him silent, Suho didn't mind and continued, "If you hadn't helped us back then, we wouldn't have been able to take it down. I'm really grateful to you." Hujin looked away and replied, "Who knows, you might have won even without me there." Just then, he secretly recalled that moment in his heart, speculating, if I hadn't been there at that time. Perhaps he has awakened to a higher level of power, Hujin thought, looking at Suho as if he were bathed in light, telling himself that the main character always manages to get stronger. As they faced hardship and danger, a staff member in the back of the ceremony room panicked, stammering as she shouted the announcement, He's here! Everyone get ready." Soon, a powerful foot stepped onto the floor. A man with a cold, expressionless face walked in with his hands in his pockets. This was Yi Si-hyuk, a rank 37 hero. The top-tier hero Si-hyuk glanced around, complaining with an annoyed attitude about having to come to this place and that. "What a hassle," he muttered, as he walked up to the MC to take the awards list. Everyone who saw him was astonished, whispering to each other, "Is that the Wolf of Valhalla? Such an intense magical wave." The MC's voice rang out clearly. "Now we will begin the awards ceremony." Na-yoon quickly stood up at the call of her name, followed by Suho. "And finally, Hujin." The MC's voice continued to boom. "Award recipients, please step up to the stage." Very quickly, the three of them stood neatly on the stage, waiting for Si-hyuk to present the awards as the MC's formal introduction began. The award will be presented by rank 37 hero, Lord Yi Si-hyuk. The following individuals defeated the demigod despite the dangers and have acted as model citizens of society. The first recipient is Suho. As Si-hyuk handed the reward to him, he asked, "Are you Kim Suho?" Suho replied politely, "Yes," confirming his identity. Si-hyuk continued, We can see. Why they all want you, Suho?" Suho was a bit confused and let out a soft, "Yes." Si-hyuk's movements suddenly slowed, and he leaned in close to Suho. In a dangerous tone, he warned, "Never join the association. It might be better for you to join the infinite battlefield and become a hunter there instead. Being a hero is just a mountain of responsibilities, and it's not fun at all, is it?" Suho was silent for a few seconds, then smiled and replied, Even so, being a hero suits my personality. Hearing this, Si-hyuk straightened up, picked at his ear, and replied with a bored look. Is that so? Well, fine then. In his heart, he was actually thinking, this guy is so boring. Then Si-hyuk glanced at Nayeon and said, Next is, it's been a long time, huh? Nayeon knew it was her turn, so she stood tall, trying to suppress her tension. She was so nervous that she stammered, My master, it's been a long time. Si-hyuk, being called master, was surprised and asked, Why am I your master? You're an archer, aren't you? He bluntly said, Your father asked me to look after you, but I don't intend to do that. As soon as he finished speaking, Nayeon's face immediately fell. Unlike her, Hajin noticed, and a look of smug satisfaction couldn't help but appear on his face. So much for those two. Finally, it was Hajin's turn. Si-hyuk and Hajin suddenly locked eyes. Seeing a stranger, he asked, Who are you? Hajin simply replied, Cadet Kim Hajin. Si-hyuk didn't ask anything else, just responding, Oh, all right. After that, they both fell silent, making the atmosphere between them incredibly awkward. Inside, a thought popped into Hajin's head. They say the only thing worse than being hated is being pitied, and this situation fit that saying perfectly. Under the bright stage lights accompanied by the MC's booming voice, and with that, we conclude today's award ceremony. Cadet Nayeon, please share your thoughts on receiving the award. Shortly after, at a cafe, Hajin carried the food he had just spent $15 on, thinking to himself with a satisfied expression. The reward for taking down the demigod is delicious. He sat down at a table, took out his laptop, and spoke to himself. I'll use this money to buy more shares of the Pack Mule Master, and right then, Hajin opened his laptop, wondering, why don't I check out the new features updated on the laptop? At that moment, a few lines of text appeared on the screen. Notification features updated. Stigmata activated. Laptop internet access activated. Low-rank talent book of truth added. Talent observation added. Hajin raised his hand to look. Sure enough, a strange mark had appeared on his wrist. First was the stigmata, the name of the wound, engraved on his arm yesterday. He reached out to touch it secretly, thinking, but the instructions on how to use it are a bit vague. It can be activated according to Kim Hajin's will, and as time passes, it says it can be used according to my desires. But Hajin stared at his bandaged wrist, still not quite understanding how to use the stigmata. He slowly guessed, maybe it activates with my will. Just as he thought that the stigmata seemed to wake up, it flashed like lightning off his wrist. Hajin, also very quickly and nimbly, used his other hand to press it down and hid his arm under the table. After that unexpected shock, Hajin gave up on trying to understand the stigmata. I'll verify this back at the dormitory. He moved on to explore the next thing. Next was laptop internet access, so Hajin quickly clicked the mouse on the text box, activate laptop internet. Not knowing what would appear on the screen, his eyes suddenly widened. After a moment of thought, he slowly muttered, I see. On the laptop screen appeared a list of websites he could now access. There were 6 options, including Law-Abiding Spirit, Purple Banquet, Jeremy's Sword, Kubernetes Messages, and Armory. Hajin realized, the real reward is this. He rested his chin on his hand, exploring the websites while reflecting. It doesn't just have regular websites. It also has paid sites that require a fee to view. But the thing he was most focused on now was the Purple Banquet website. Hajin guessed. And among them, Purple Banquet is the most important. As far as he knew, Purple Banquet was the most famous secret website because it was a place to exchange information, weapons bounties, requests, and so on. There wasn't a single hero who didn't interact with the Purple Banquet. Because of that, the government ignored it even though they knew it was a black market, or at least that's how I designed it. Look, there isn't a single hero who hasn't interacted with the Violet Banquet. The government just ignores it even though they know it's a black market, or at least that's how I set it up. Usually you'd have to pay a massive entry fee to become a member of this site, but right now, I can easily create an account just by paying 200 points. At the same time, a question popped up on the laptop screen. Do you want to create a Violet Banquet account? 200 points will be deducted. Hajin quickly clicked the confirm button. He focused on his laptop, whispering to himself, all right, why don't I try connecting? Just then, someone walked over to him and exclaimed, oh, there you are! The person was none other than Chae Nayeon. She naturally pulled out the chair opposite him and started the conversation. You know who I am, right? Cadet Kim Hajin? Hajin stared at her, looking blank. While rummaging through her jacket pocket, Nayeon continued. I was shocked because you disappeared so quickly after the award ceremony. She said, I have something I want to give you. Then Nayeon placed a business card on the table with the words, Grace of the Gods, representative of the essence of the Straight Guild, Chae Nayeon. Hajin stared at the card without saying a word. Inside, he was contemplating what to do about this move of hers. The fact that Che Nayun gave me her business card means quite a lot. Nayun had sat down across from him, resting her chin on her hand, and gently said, "I'm curious about one thing." Hajin was still deep in his own calculations because this was probably... She smiled brightly and continued, "Would you mind if I asked?" He silently observed her plan, the first step of Che Nayun's recruitment style. Che Nayun clasped her hands together in front of her, smiled brightly, and asked, "I'm curious about one thing. Would you mind if I asked?" Hajin was silent for a moment, silently assessing the woman in front of him. Che Nayun had a friendly public image, but her true personality was a bit different. She would kick anyone to the curb if they didn't meet her standards, even if she had spent a lot of effort to recruit them. A mindset that only cares about strength and focuses only on achieving the best. Looking at Nayun, who was smiling so benevolently in front of him, it was completely contrary to what he knew. Hajin silently affirmed to himself that is exactly who Che Nayun is, the representative of the best guild in this country. If I can build a good relationship with Che Nayun, it will definitely help me in future events. Thinking this, Hajin put one hand on the table and Nayun looked extremely intimate, closing the distance. "I don't know if you've..." Unexpectedly, Hajin suddenly spoke up, interrupting her. "No." He bluntly refused to engage. "I have nothing to say to you." The moment the words left his mouth, the atmosphere turned deathly silent, and Nayun looked stunned, like she'd been frozen in place. After a few seconds, she regained her composure, gave a stiff smile, and explained, "I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding. I'm showing interest in you as the representative of Korea's #1 guild." As Hajin packed his belongings into his backpack, he answered without a hint of care, "Being interested is great, but only if it's sincere." Seeing Nayun's blank reaction, Hajin internally judged that she must have approached him because she saw him use the light element attack, but her interest in him was nothing more than shallow curiosity at this point. Thinking is doing. He decisively put on his backpack and stood up, telling himself he needed to reject her a few more times to let her curiosity grow into genuine interest. The next second, Hajin just said, "Well, I'm off," and quickly walked away, leaving Nayun sitting there alone, eyes wide and mouth agape. She couldn't believe she had been rejected so easily. A moment later, the screen displayed a brief introduction of the stigma. Strength is one of the powers of the creator. It contains magic power. When the stigma receives your accumulated attention up to a certain limit, you will receive a magic stigma. The magic contained in the stigma can be used at Kim Hajin's will, and it gradually refills over 24 hours when depleted. Hajin's voice rang out, "Now let's try it." He looked at the stigma imprinted on his wrist and thought, "Convert the stigma's magic into the form of a dagger." Immediately, the stigma stood out prominently, accompanied by a glow, and then it gradually transformed into a dagger. Hajin grabbed the knife and slashed it back and forth to test it. "I can control it with my thoughts." He began to contemplate further. Magic power and stats are heavily influenced by talent and early education. Watching the dagger slowly dissolve, Hajin felt lucky. As someone who just fell into this world, there was no way he should have been able to use magic. Consider it lucky that I've found a way to use it. Once the stigma was settled, he decided to test the second thing. The next thing I need to check is... Just then, the system screen displayed 2 brief pieces of information about observation. You can observe people appearing in your field of vision and take a glance. You can glance at the laptop settings at any time without a catalyst. Hajin brought his hand to his chin, thinking about something. Then he said aloud, "Summon Book of Truth." Hajin reached up high, preparing to catch it. Very quickly, the book appeared in mid-air. He began to observe the book and listen to the introduction about it. "This book stores all truths. It will answer any question if your magic power allows it." Hajin asked back, a bit incredulous, "Any question? Any question at all?" Immediately, he asked it a question. "Book of Truth, how tall am I?" The book's voice replied, "You are 174 centimeters tall." Then it notified him that 1 point had been used. Hajin, as if understanding how it worked, let out an "oh" and said, "So that's how you use it." Suddenly, Hajin's wristwatch went off. It kept getting louder and louder, startling him. Hajin was bewildered, wondering to himself, an emergency alert. Sure enough, looking at the screen, the watch was also displaying the 4 words, "Emergency Alert." The next second, it jumped to a group message notification that read, "We are looking for those who last saw Hajin at the world class." Seeing the stunned look of disbelief on everyone's faces, Hajin finally spoke up slowly. "So, it started." The "it" Hajin was referring to was the second main storyline, the disappearances at Cube. As the title suggests, a total of 6 cadets went missing in this chapter. The investigation wasn't going anywhere since there were absolutely no clues to follow and the number of missing people just kept growing. This chapter was actually more important than that, because the culprit's ultimate goal was Yi Yun-ha. Hajin rested his hand on his chin, recalling the flow of the story, and began to hypothesize, if the co-author forces me to lose another piece, and of the protagonist like back at the museum, it would be disastrous. He thought, if that's the case, I'll find the culprit myself. But after some reflection, he suddenly dropped his arm, refuting his own thought. No, if I interfere too early, the whole story might get completely messed up. In the end, Hajin decided to just keep watching for now. Not long after, in the shared training room, Suho tilted his water bottle back and took a refreshing drink. Suddenly, the class president walked over, draped an arm over his shoulder, and said, "Hey, look at that guy Kim Suho." Suho followed his gaze, and over there a foot aggressively stomped down onto a dumbbell. It turned out to be the orange-haired student pressing his foot against the weight. Picking a fight with Hajin, he sneered and mocked, "What are you gonna do about it, you trash?" The orange-haired guy pulled his foot away and asked dismissively, "Are you even a cadet? How can you not even lift this much weight? You're a disgrace to Cube. Did you bribe your way in here or something?" Suho, witnessing this, felt indignant and was about to rush over, but the class president grabbed his shoulder to hold him back. "Stop it. Don't get involved." Still feeling very annoyed, Suho turned his head to challenge him. "You're the class president, you should be leading them." The class president didn't care at all and replied coolly, "Just leave them be. That guy looks like he's itching for a fight. Getting involved now would just be a headache." He smiled with intrigue and added, "And who knows, maybe it's all just an act." Suho was startled and shouted, "What?" The class president tightened his grip, completely confident in his theory, as he said, "I told you. He destroyed a demigod's arm. Do you really think someone like that would struggle against those idiots?" Suho was stunned, saying, "So you mean Kim Hajin is hiding his true strength?" Over there, Hajin was straining until he was shaking, trying to lift the weight onto his shoulder. Seeing him struggle like that, the orange-haired guy also felt suspicious, wondering, is he pretending? Back over here. The class president remained firm in his opinion that if defeating a demigod wasn't just luck. But Suho wasn't interested in listening anymore and lunged forward, shouting, "Both of you cut it out." They clashed instantly, the sound of the fight breaking out making the other students gossip. "Huh, who's fighting? Looks like Kim Suho is throwing punches." Just then, something flew in. The next second, Instructor Su Wook appeared, shouting angrily, "We're in the middle of training, why is it so noisy?" Then he called out, "Everyone gather round. The results for the last written exam are out. I'm going to post the scores, so come and check yours." Hearing about the grades, Suho and the orange-haired guy temporarily stopped fighting and began to gather to check their results. "Did you guys do well? My jaw is about to drop. I've already failed, man." On the score sheet, the name Kim Hajin was clearly displayed in first place. Hajin also walked over to check his score. Even though he topped the list, he remained very calm, thinking to himself, "First place. I copied the settings exactly, so no surprises there." Just then, a sword suddenly fell to the ground with a loud bang. Hajin turned around and saw Rachel was standing there looking stunned. He was also a bit surprised to see her and whispered to himself, "Rachel." As soon as Hajin saw her, he recognized her as Rachel Elizabeth Lewis, the Princess of England, who took third place in the Cube entrance exam. Looking at her surprised expression, he recalled all the relevant information about her major or minor. She had never once missed first place in written exams. As he was thinking this, Rachel suddenly shifted her gaze toward Hajin. He met her eyes and froze. He didn't know how to react. He just stood there completely stiff. At the royal palace, a voice said with pride, "Princess Rachel, congratulations on being accepted into Cube." The butler, looking worried, offered words of encouragement. "I hope you won't be anxious when standing alongside the world's greatest aspiring heroes." The female bodyguard also looked worried, adding, "I also heard that all of them are from Korea." Contrary to their concerns, Rachel was very composed. She gently replied, "It's fine. I will do my absolute best to meet everyone's expectations for the honor of the English royal family." Rachel remembered the moment she looked up at the family portrait hanging on the wall. A pang of guilt quickly rose in her heart. Rachel sighed, putting a hand to her forehead, and whispered to herself, "My country's subjects, I am sorry." Very soon it was class time. The instructor held Hajin's test paper in his hand, praising. Hajin's answer demonstrated a completely different perspective. In his analysis, I hope the other cadets will follow his example and improve. Rachel put her pen to her lips, thinking analyzing phenomena is an extremely academic field. From now until the midterms, it's going to be very hard to close this gap. In her heart, she whispered his name, Kim Ha-jin. After that, Rachel looked at Ha-jin from behind, only to see him looking a bit goofy and his iPad screen was even turned off. After observing Ha-jin, Rachel asked herself a question. I wonder how he studies on a daily basis. No sooner had that thought passed than the flame of her determination seemed to ignite. The scene shifted to a laptop screen displaying the text, Information disclosure / the truth / I will answer any question. So please state your question. Ha-jin typed away while calculating in his head. I should make more use of a convenient ability like the Book of Truth to earn some pocket money. He put a hand to his chin, imagining the Book of Truth. The Book of Truth helped him learn any information in the world as long as he had enough resources. His financial situation wasn't exactly great. It wouldn't earn him much, but as soon as the rumors spread, the number of customers would explode very quickly. Ha-jin decided to click on the business registration box and muttered, all right. Looking at the fluctuating lines on the laptop screen, Ha-jin slowly said, next is... Just then, he waved his hand to conjure 3 virtual screens in front of him, muttering about investing in the items he had temporarily set aside. Ha-jin silently analyzed that the second main storyline was beginning. This meant the cube was no longer safe from the subspecies. He gripped his Desert Eagle, his expression serious as he thought about installing a sharpshooter enhancement. My current abilities aren't enough to fight a subspecies. Thinking this, Ha-jin suddenly smiled with satisfaction. Thanks to the bullying from Gong Hak and his cronies, I have plenty of SP to burn. I should invest them to increase my survival rate. He then decided to start by upgrading his weapon. A virtual screen popped up with the text, Desert Eagle. Ha-jin tapped away programming the system. A notification appeared, modifying the Desert Eagle's mechanism. Sniper rifle, here we go. Once finished, he laughed nervously and said, hope I'm not doing something stupid. With that, Ha-jin hit enter. The system immediately chimed. 250 SP consumed. The Desert Eagle began to stir, emitting a blinding light as it gradually shifted its shape. In a split second, the Desert Eagle, it had completely transformed into a sniper rifle. The system displayed new info Desert Eagle sniper configuration. Ha-jin looked at the gun, let out a satisfied chuckle, and said, this at least should be enough to scare them. The gun then shifted back to its original form. Ha-jin continued to work. Next, I should try Mastery. He began researching Mastery. Unlike talents, which use magic to create supernatural phenomena, Mastery is understood as the physical techniques or skills that a person has mastered. He analyzed it for himself. A sniper who can escape assassination needs positional awareness above all else. Mastery is essential for choosing the right spot. After understanding the basics, Ha-jin placed his hands on the keyboard and started typing. A few minutes later, the screen displayed information on Parkour Low Rank, 0% Mastery. Grants supple and flexible body movement. Instead of being held back by terrain, you can use it to traverse obstacles. Speed and practicality will vary based on strength and agility stats. The system notified him 350 SP consumed. Ha-jin looked at his palms with a hint of anticipation, saying, I don't feel anything yet. I hope this actually works. Just then, his wristwatch suddenly lit up. A message in the group chat popped up asking if anyone had seen Seung-jeon from the world class. I haven't been able to reach her since yesterday. Ha-jin suddenly felt a heavy weight in his chest, thinking to himself, the second victim. All the cadets kidnapped before the dungeon incident are killed by the culprit. He started to waver in his own decision. Is it really okay to just stand by and watch these disappearances happen when he knows exactly who the culprit is? And the fate of the next victims? Ha-jin's heart sank for a moment. Not long after, at the cube's field training area, Suok loudly asked, is everyone here? Today's practical training is very special. The teacher then introduced the location. The cave behind me is an artificial dungeon, a product of magic engineering. Inside, there are dolls designed based on real monster models, and today we will have a dungeon conquest training session by clearing this artificial dungeon. Clearing this artificial dungeon. Upon saying this, Suok sternly warned, but don't let your guard down just because this is a training session. He emphasized the key point, inside this endless dungeon. A joint training session between the Veritas class and the 2V class will take place. Suok gave the order to the students. Teams would be formed by small groups from each class. Hurry up and gather in teams. Very quickly, the students began gathering and forming groups. Ha-jin also found himself a Team 8, which included Veritas classes Yu Yonha and Jin Ho-sung. Kim Ha-jin versus 2V class, including Jaden Kim Jin-hyo and Lee Jin-seo. He thought about the dangers in the dungeon traps and deadly encounters. Some of the traps were even created by subspecies. Ha-jin kept his desert eagle in hand, ready for anything. I've indeed crafted a few attribute bullets just in case. But can I safely make it through this training? Suddenly, the system screen in the air flickered. A second later, countless screens flashed one after another with a warning. Settings changed. Ha-jin's eyes widened in shock. The settings had been changed 3 times already. He was bewildered, wondering who did it and how. The space around them seemed to warp. The voices of students rang out as they were sorting into teams. Team 1, gather quickly. Is anyone from Team 3 here? Right then, a harsh voice shouted, "Hey, idiot, can't you hear that we need to gather quickly?" The owner of that voice was Jojuna. She stood with her hands on her hips, a look of annoyance on her face, judging him. "You're Kim Suho, right? You look pretty dense." Suho, being gentle, just scratched his head after being looked down on. The two of them were Team 1. Veritas class Kim Suho. 2V class Jojuna. The system screen displayed information about this person's change. Character Jojuna's personality has been altered. She has become more short-tempered than in the original story. At the same time, not far away, another team was greeting each other. "Nice to meet you, Miss Yu Yonha." Jaden smiled brightly and said, "I hope we get to be close comrades even after this training session." Regarding this enthusiasm, Yonha only gave a perfunctory, "Uh-huh." They were Team 8, consisting of Veritas classes Yu Yeonha and 2V classes Jaden. The system screen continued to update. Character Jaden's growth potential has increased by 0.5. On the other side, Chanyol also found his teammate. She pointed and said, "You're on my team too. I've met you at the hunting club before. Your name is..." Seeing her stutter, the male student smiled gently and said, "It's Sven." He introduced himself politely. "My name is Sven." They were Team 3 Veritas classes Chanyol and 2V classes Sven. The system reported on Sven's change. Character Sven's willpower has decreased. There is a high probability he will be possessed by a low-level demon. Ha-jin read the notification and gasped, staring at him. He was in total shock. "What? The changes are too huge." Kim Ha-jin looked toward the opposite side with anxious eyes. "Let's take a closer look. There are 2 people there that I need to keep an eye on." Jaden is chatting away happily with Yu Yeonha. The first one is Jaden from Team 8. He's the textbook definition of a jerk who's always looking down on those weaker than him. He's strong enough, though, to have been sent on a scouting mission by the Cube Academy. With a green potential card, Jaden's development potential has increased by 0.5. Wait, how did his potential just randomly increase? Jaden introduces himself and then goes down the line. He introduces the friends who are with him. "My name is Jaden, and this is my team Kim Jin-hyuk, Oh Jong-hyuk, and finally Lee Jin-seo." Yu Yeonha speaks up and everyone turns to look at her. "My team members are Jin Ho-seung Hazuki and Lee Ha-jin." She looks at him with a helpless expression after mispronouncing his name as Kim Ha-jin. Kim Ha-jin looks at everyone. Well, he seems to be doing fine at least. Sven has a sword on him, and on Chae Na-yoon's back is a massive bow. The second person is Sven from Team 3. He's a German cadet and a frontrunner for the hero title. He is a bright prospect for his country, and his most notable characteristic is... Sven, with flushed cheeks, is smiling shyly and happily talking to her. He likes Chae Na-yoon. Sven stands in front of a crowded train station, pulling a rather large suitcase. Just like the other foreign students, Sven came to Cube with the dream of becoming the strongest person in the sky. In a defensive combat stance, Kim Suho gets thrown aside by Yu Yeonha using her power. However, life isn't a fairy tale. Sven stands there stunned, staring at what's in front of him. Anxious and terrified by the extraordinary skills of those around him, he can only become one of those students who is as mediocre as one could possibly be. Sven covers his eyes with his palms, his face filled with deep disappointment. The sense of inferiority and failure he's feeling for the first time in his life, combined with the instability of adolescence. A long, sharp sword with a glowing red hilt bright as fire. He points the sword downward, and the light reflecting off it leads Sven to sell his soul to a demi-human in order to gain power. A dark green card appears on the paper with the words, "Character Sven's mental strength is gradually weakening. There is a high probability he will become a minion of the devil." This detail is exactly the same as what I wrote, but the problem is this specific segment in the dungeon. Kim Ha-jin reaches up to touch his nose, looking at the green board appearing before him deep in thought. At that same moment, someone's hand is about to touch him. His awakening had already been pushed forward from before. I hope this doesn't affect the plot too much. A hand from behind touches his shoulder. It's Jaden. He massages his left shoulder, laughing and chatting happily. You're a marksman, aren't you? When we're in the dungeon, don't be so spacey like you were just now, you hear me? You feel annoyed and shrug his hand off. What get lost? Jaden laughs and replies, Damn, aren't you supposed to be a good guy? I've heard plenty of good rumors about you, though. Kim Ha-jin stays silent, clenching his fists. Right now, people's opinions of him are absolute garbage because of some rumors spreading in class. Kim Ha-jin stands still, feeling completely desperate. Because behind his back there are nothing but judgmental gazes and people whispering nasty things about him. He isn't happy about it. In the past, Kim Ha-jin has supposedly used his position as a cube cadet to blackmail and threaten others, plus he supposedly went to Seoul every week to satisfy his own urges. Three boys laugh, looking quite satisfied with playing around with those nasty rumors. The source of the rumors is already crystal clear. Thanks to that, I got a lot of products. Hazuki and Jin Ho-seung look over at him, sighing, muttering something. But why doesn't anyone stand up for me? Are we even a team? In a very old-fashioned setting. All right, let's start with Team 1. Jaden turns to Yu Yeonha. As far as I know, you're probably the best support out of all the cadets, right? I've heard so many rumors about you from the outside, too. Jaden. I don't know why your team is so lopsided. This actually works in our favor. The words from behind make you angry and uncomfortable. A team is supposed to be like that, though. There are always two super talented people who have to carry the dead weight, huh? Team 8, move into the dungeon. The team slowly advances into the dungeon entrance, which is quite large. It's pretty dark inside. As everyone moves in footsteps, echoing Jaden, who is leading, sees something and speaks up. Oh. In front of him, he sees mysterious doors all around the tunnel. Everyone stands around looking at each individual tunnel. It's pitch black inside. So the first obstacle is choosing a path. Yu Yeonha is deep in thought and asks everyone on the team, which path should we take? Jaden speaks up. Jin Hyuk from our team is a marksman, so someone speaks up. Door 6. Kim Ha-jin says it clearly. Everyone turns to look at him. Go into door 6. Yu Yeonha looks at him silent. Jaden turns to look at him with an angry face. Hey, who do you think you are, Kim Ha-jin? I don't get it, but whatever, let's go. Yu Yeonha looks at him. He looks incompetent, but his eyes are actually quite sharp. Kim Ha-jin looks at Jaden, feeling a bit helpless. It really is impossible for him to give a compliment in a nice way, isn't it? He thinks to himself. Whatever. Thanks to her, we can follow the path Chae Na-yoon took. The screen shows all of Chae Na-yoon's info, and her potential is a solid 95. If Sven really signs a contract with a demi-human today, then Chae Na-yoon won't be able to handle it alone. If anything happens to her, it'll be a huge mess. Everyone slowly move into the entrance of tunnel number 6. Chae Na-yoon has already stepped up. I can't let anything happen to her, Jin-sung whispered in annoyance. Those idiots really love to show off, don't they? Kim Ha-jin looked at him and said, focus on the monsters ahead instead. In the dark, jagged tunnel, Soo-in asked, what monsters? I don't see anything. Soo-in, can't you see them? There's a salamander right in front of us. They must be the apex monsters of this dungeon, Jaden said, then turned back thinking it was a joke. When he stayed silent, Soo-in asked, should I fire a light arrow? Yu Yeonha replied, if you can go ahead. No sooner had she said that than he pulled out his bow and fired. The fire arrow streaked forward, lighting up the area. Yu Yeonha looked back at him. The salamander was completely caught off guard. It was all happening so fast, but when the monster looked up, the fire arrow was already closing in. A mid-level salamander, a level 6 monster. Jaden and Yu Yeonha shouted in surprise, are you serious? Everyone get into formation. Does anyone here have water attribute attacks? I have to hide my power for now. Damn it. Yu Yeonha is using her own power to fight it. I guess we have to do this the hard way. Yu Yeonha used her momentum from the back, then put all her strength into a frontal attack. The salamander let out a loud growl, a golden light glowing in its mouth. However, Yu Yeonha used her power to wrap tightly around its jaw. Then Lee Jin-sia and Hazuki lunged forward, both using their powers to strike. The salamander collapsed to the ground, sparks of blue light flying from its body. We won. Yu Yeonha held a dungeon cord in her hand, but it started changing, glowing with electricity. Purple lightning. Has Yu Yeonha reached the verge of enlightenment already? Let's keep moving. Kim Ha-jin watched with awe. She's amazing. Kim Ha-jin walked over and touched Yu Yeonha's shoulder, and she let out a loud scream. They both tumbled to the ground, his hand brushing against her head. Kim Ha-jin wiped sweat from his brow, worried. Yu Yeonha's expression darkened as she slowly stood up. Let's go. Scared, he sat up, backed away, and raised both hands. Yes, ma'am. She walked over and grabbed his collar. You're asking for it. As she raised her hand to hit him, someone shouted, "Hey, what's that, a demi-human mark?" Kim Jingu and Hazuki approached as she lifted her hand. Where did this come from? It's close to what I thought, Kim Hajin mused, remembering something from when he fell, and his hand touched Yu Yonha. A green card appeared. Poison arrow. Lethality 4 out of 10. Bonus effect, silent ambush. Neurotoxin has been applied to the arrowhead. Slow, heavy footsteps and ragged breathing approached. Sven collapsed to his knees, panting heavily. Sven whispered weakly, "Sorry." "Just leave me behind." Che Nayun shouted angrily, "Him! Shut up. If you've still got the strength to talk, then save it for running." During their fight, an arrow had struck Sven in the shoulder, causing him to collapse in pain. What is this poison arrows that shouldn't be allowed in a training exercise? Che Nayun, though small and seemingly delicate, carried Sven to safety. Besides, what is up with that monster? A massive monster with a mouth full of fire and scorching lava rushed at them from behind. Fire crackled around Che Nayun and Sven. It was a battle in the artificial cave. During the training session here, are you guys done yet? Kim Jingu held up a large shield to block the flames fired by the monster, while everyone else behind him fired arrows and fought off the surrounding monsters. 2 monsters were breathing fire from their mouths. Kim Jingu gripped the handle of his shield tightly, standing his ground and bracing against the powerful blows of the monsters. Suyun aimed her bow at the target, slightly nervous but ready. She let go, and the arrow flew straight toward the target she had marked, Yu Yeonha. She used her power to kick the monster hard. Kim Hajin used his gun to take down the monsters surrounding them. Jin Sung held his sword and delivered a powerful downward strike. As the area around the monsters glowed, an arrow fell to the ground. Jin Sung slung his sword over his shoulder and sighed. Is it over here yet? Everyone gathered together, surrounded by the carcasses of dead monsters. It's mostly just fire elementals and salamanders, so it was pretty easy. Aside from that poison arrow earlier, I don't see any real traps here. I think we're clear to keep going. While everyone else was caught up in the heated discussion, Kim Hajin stood apart, staring blankly. His mind still fixated on that arrow and the green status window from earlier. The arrow had appeared so suddenly that even the cadets with high intuition hadn't noticed it coming until the streak of light drew everyone's gaze. What the hell was that? With flames slowly flickering to life and fierce glowing blue eyes, a strange, shadowy figure loomed behind Sujong. He spun around in a panic. A massive beast was growling, its maw dripping with molten lava, coiled and ready to strike. As he turned back, his eyes widened. A salamander. Is it still alive? The giant salamander unleashed a torrent of fire toward the group. Kim Jingyu shouted out, and as the others heard her name, the beast, they all snapped their heads around to look. Someone had thrust a long, slender hand forward, chanting a spell. Suddenly, a magical force emanated from his fingertip. A bright blue light erupted from his finger. As Kim Hajin chanted, he channeled an immense power, twisting it into a powerful blue cyclone, a water shield. His power neutralized the salamander's flames, shielding everyone in the safety zone and preventing any injuries. However, a deafening blast echoed through the dungeon. As the monster unleashed its attack, he used his super ability to defend against the molten spray, their powers clashing head-on. The defense proved perfectly effective. The salamander's flames grew weaker and sputtered out, leaving nothing but scorched cracks in the ground. The salamander gathered its remaining strength to exhale. It let out one final burst of fire, but to no avail. Everyone stood behind him, looking out at the wake of destruction and the long, deep trench the salamander's fire had carved into the floor. He kept his eyes on his opponent while Jin Hosung and Hazuki noticed something strange. What the hell, that firepower was insane, someone asked. He simply replied, "It's not real, it's just a puppet." "That's a lie." Even from that distance, I could feel my skin searing. Someone called out, "Hey, marksman!" Jason marched over, furious, and grabbed his collar. "You bastard. You intentionally ignored me when I was looking for someone who could use water attribute magic, didn't you?" Jason hissed, pinning Kim Hajin. He tried to pry Jason's hands off. "It was just an effect from a magic tool I had on me, that's all." "You think I'll believe that garbage?" Yu Yanha saw the situation and shouted, "Stop it, we don't have time to waste." Lee Ginsia then asked, "It's not a puppet anymore. It's a real monster, right? Why would something like that be here, you?" Iana replied, "This environment is a perfect recreation of the dungeon. It must have evolved, or it appeared according to the dungeon's natural laws. We need to figure out what's really happening. Let's go." Yu Yanha turned her back and urged everyone to move. They were running out of time. "All right, let's move." Her expression darkened. She was skeptical about the magic tool story. It was definitely a lie. She thought to herself, he doesn't have the funds for something that expensive. He couldn't even afford the Desert Eagle. But how could someone who isn't Kim Suho or Shin Jong-hak master their magical attributes so perfectly? She analyzed the situation further. Does he already know the weak point of the magma salamander? If he can master his own magical attributes, is the reason he's hiding it all? She covered her mouth, whispering to herself, "Could he be?" She glanced back at him. Is he a demi-human? In a dungeon designed with ancient, weathered architecture, the ground was flowing with rivers of fire. A massive monster emerged, its maw dripping with lava and its eyes burning red. A mid-tier grade 2 lava golem. This must be the dungeon boss, huh? Sujong and Che Noon watched from high above. Can we even take that thing down? If it's just us, it'll be tough. The other teams will be here soon enough. Let's wait until then to fight it. For now, let's just keep hiding. Sujong and Che Noon discussed their strategy while the rest of the team stood by. We have to treat Sven soon. Why the hell did that arrow just pop out of nowhere anyway? Damn it, the difficulty of this training mission is abnormally high. The person shifted slightly, gripping his shirt. Sweat beaded on his face, his expression tense. He looked anxious, seemingly lost in a nightmare, mumbling, I'm sorry, everyone. It's all because I got hit by the poisoned arrow. In the dark, hazy void, he thought, why does it always end up like this for me? Ever since I came to Cube, nothing has gone the way I wanted. Tears welled up in his eyes. It hurts so much. In his delirium, he heard a voice. Kid. Who's that? He stood frozen, his face deathly pale. Kid, don't you want to become stronger? Out of the darkness came a voice. Dazed and exhausted as if he had just been knocked unconscious, he slowly opened his eyes. It hurts, doesn't it? I will give you power. Above him, a strange round light flickered. A long, pale, and eerily spindly hand reached out from the green light, its fingernails long and sharp. The voice continued its horrific, seductive pitch. The price is cheap, much cheaper than anything you've ever sacrificed before. Sven jolted awake, scrambling backward when he saw the hand reaching out from the strange, dark abyss. Terrified and stuttering, he cried out, I. Sven sobbed, tears streaming down his cheeks. He wanted to be stronger. The hand reached out and Sven grabbed it. Somehow, he was already dangerously close to the gaping maw of that horrific green monster. Its body was covered in sharp eyes, and its tongue, which had just grabbed Sven, was coiling around him, pulling him toward a mouth filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. Someone screamed out in terror, "He's got him!" In a brief, tense moment of silence, the others were standing near Sven. But then he let out a loud shout, causing everyone to turn, gather around, and check on him. What's wrong with him? Ayun looked uneasy, sensing that something wasn't right. She turned to the group and started to shout a warning, but before she could finish, "Hey, what are you all doing? Get over here!" Just then, the monster heard the commotion above and looked up, revealing a massive bloodshot eye. Kim Ha-jin gripped his sword. Standing right by an opening, the monster sensed the noise and shoved its head through. Its eyes were blood red, its cracked, hardened skin glowed, and it spewed out lava from its jaws. "Run! It's attacking!" It reached forward, its massive hand slowly tearing through the wall where everyone had been standing. Scrambling footsteps echoed as they fled. The beast's enormous hand smashed straight through the wall, sending people scrambling for their lives. Jaden scooped Sven up on his back and hurried away. Ah! After the monster punched a hole exactly the size of its body through the wall, it prepared to crawl inside. Several people who had been standing too close were sent flying. Debris rained down everywhere. Even though the lava golem had already shattered much of the wall, 2 people were knocked to the ground. Ayun fell, gasping for breath. Huff, huff. When she looked up, she saw the colossal monster standing right in front of her, its 2 blood-red eyes staring down. She couldn't believe her eyes. No way. This thing is supposed to be a puppet. Before her stood a giant monster. She felt a sense of utter despair. There was nowhere left to run. She thought it was all over. I'm going to die. The lava golem's eyes glowed bright red, and it opened its maw, revealing a blinding, molten interior. And it's right here of all places. Suddenly, a glowing blue canister flew in its cap, already off, trailing wisps of blue smoke. It appeared right in front of the monster, erupting in a brilliant blue flash. The monster squinted, clearly irritated by the sudden glare, but after the light hit its eyes, it suddenly went still. Aeon looked up to see the lava golem collapsing. A familiar figure appeared. It was Kim Ha-jin holding a gun. He had shot it and stunned it for a few minutes. Just a while ago, the whole group had been heading somewhere, but something unknown had completely blocked the cave entrance. "What is this?" Jaden shouted, furious. "Hey, sharpshooter!" I thought you said we'd be able to see the path past this point. This is the boss's lair, right? But the entrance is sealed shut. Kim Ha-jin replied, we're in the right place. It looked like boulders had been piled up in front of the cave, but looking closer, that wall hadn't been there before. But wait, that wasn't important right now. Jaden drew his sword in anger. The boss room has to be right on the other side of this wall. Try breaking it. No one's dead yet, so stop giving orders. With that, Jaden lunged forward with all his strength, driving his sword straight into the obstruction blocking the cave. It made a deafening clang, but the blockage didn't budge an inch. He winced in pain as the shock jarred his entire body. Kim Ha-jin stood behind him and said, see, I told you this place can't be broken. It's impossible to break, even after using a magic attack. Ha-jin noticed something and pointed ahead. Everyone followed his gaze. There was a small opening high up in the cave. Oh, there's an opening on the other side. Kim Ha-jin began rolling up his sleeves. I'm pretty sure we can get in through there. Jaden stared at him, fuming. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? That wall is at least 10 meters high. How do you expect to climb that? Kim Ha-jin raised his hands, preparing to scale it. Can't you climb? Well, suit yourself. I'm going first. Blue energy crackled around his hands as he pushed himself to the limit, clinging to the wall and pulling his way up with pure willpower. He began to climb while everyone below just watched. No one else dared to make the climb. He looked up at the opening as if the finish line were waiting for him right there. He struggled his way up and finally managed to pull himself through. Once he reached the cave entrance, everyone looked up with a hint of admiration. Is he a cat or something? Slowly, strange noises began to echo. The people below stood there unsettled. Then, boulders from the top of the cave began to tumble down. Damn it, Jaden cursed. After Ha-jin made it to the top, he didn't expect to see a giant lava golem, towering right there. Its massive back had looked like just another pile of rocks as he was climbing up. What the hell was going on? Then, from behind the monster, a young man appeared, gun in hand. The lava golem's head wobbled. It was stunned for a moment. How is it already recovering that wore off way too fast? Kim Jingyu shouted toward the other side, yelling at Neon to get moving. Neon snapped back to reality and started moving. Standing before him was a massive shadow. He stared blankly, thinking, someone please save me. With a loud cry calling for a combat formation, everyone unleashed their swords and abilities, fighting the monster with everything they had. The sounds of clashing blades and flashing lights were constant. A guy jumped high, wielding a blade to strike it, but yelled, damn it, it won't even budge! A girl knelt down, cheering, everyone! She drew a massive bow, firing a powerful shot toward the monster that glowed with golden light, screaming, give me some time! As everyone else rushed to engage the monster to buy her a little more time, Kim Ha-jin held his gun, looking back at a guy carrying someone on his shoulder. Just a little longer. The sound of frantic footsteps echoed as the guy rushed away. The lava golem's eyes glowed a bright, angry yellow, locking onto its target. It growled fiercely and began spewing lava. One moment. Sorry, Sven. He's back on his feet. He landed on the monster sword in hand, ready for combat. I'm a little late, he said just as the monster swatted him, spinning him through the air. She fired her bow hard and fast at the monster. In her mind, she remembered something, that his body was covered in arrows unlike before. A look of determination filled her eyes. Things are going to be a bit different now. Then she let go of the string, sending the arrow flying toward the monster with blinding speed, surrounded by golden light. The arrow pierced right through the glow. A flash of light illuminated the entire area. After a heated, evenly matched battle, all that remained was a wreck. Everything around them was devastated and ruined. After struggling with everyone for a while, the lava golem finally fell to their combined talents. Everyone tipped their hats in respect, acknowledging the intensity of the fight. They actually beat a lava golem? Do you think they'll get points for this? Meanwhile, Neon and Sven arrived and reunited with them. Hey, is everyone still okay? Ha-jin just watched from afar without approaching. Damn, how did they kill that thing? They're seriously impressive. And Sven didn't even turn into a demi-human. Things have changed from the original plan. But this is just a temporary delay. He's already made a pact with a demon. Since I have no idea when he might lose his mind, things have become dangerous now. Meanwhile, Neon's gaze seemed to drift in another direction. It turned out she was focused on Ha-jin, who was sitting all alone in the distance. She looked like she wanted to go over and talk to him to make him feel less left out, but she hesitated. After a moment of contemplation, Neon decided to walk toward Ha-jin. The atmosphere turned awkward as their eyes met, and neither said a word. He looked back at her with an expressionless face. I thought I should at least say this. It took a long time for Neon to gather all her courage to stammer out, "The thank you." As soon as she finished, she whipped her head to the side, looking shy. Receiving a heartfelt thank you from Neon took Hajin by surprise. He really was clueless, though, and asked, "What was that?" Hearing that Neon couldn't help but feel incredibly embarrassed. I said what I had to say, okay? Because he rarely heard words like that from her, he found it hard to believe. She just said, "Thank you." Neon said thank you. Hajin was stunned that the girl who used to be buried in darkness could actually speak words as light as the wind. Neon's life was a series of tragedies. The first was on her 6th birthday, when she lost her mother to the demi-humans. She resolved to become a hero from that fateful day on, throwing herself into extreme training without resting even for a moment despite being just a young growing child. While other kids were enjoying their childhoods, Neon forced herself through brutal training to become a hero. Neon accepted the sacrifice of her childhood for her career as a hero, unable to make a single close friend, because expressing her true feelings to others felt like exposing her own weaknesses. Her inner circle of friends remained very small. Not many people heard her say, "thank you," and very few could call themselves her close friends because in her story the word sorry appeared much more often than thank you. Since I am the author, Hajin still hadn't recovered after a while. He looked like he was stuck in a frozen state from the shock. To break the awkward silence, Neon immediately asked, "So why are you so strong? And yet you got bullied by Jonghak and his lackeys. I saw you holding back a golem after all. If you're that strong, you should have been able to take down those bullies in a single hit, right?" To her question, Hajin just replied with something even more confusing. "I didn't do anything because if I had fought back, I wouldn't have been able to beat them." "What are you talking about? I saw that gun attack of yours. It looked pretty powerful, you know." "Oh, that." Hearing that he just casually raised his 6-shooter right in front of her. Audacious. You might say Hajin just pulled out his gun like he was grabbing a piece of candy without even blinking. "This is my personal weapon. You get it now, right?" Now that her brain finally caught up, Nayun started darting her eyes left and right, acting all jittery to see if anyone was watching. "You crazy idiot! If you get caught with that thing, you'll get suspended for sure. That's why I only use it on special occasions." Necessity is the mother of invention, and Hajin had figured out a way to avoid getting busted. He'd learned how to stash his weapon inside his saint's mark so he wouldn't get suspended for illegal possession. Suddenly hit with this mind-blowing truth, Nayun couldn't help but be suspicious. Even if you have a way to hide it, you're still way too strong. Is your talent enhancing firearms or something? She boldly blurted out her guess right then and there, but Hajin just gave a half-hearted reply, and Nayun, feeling bored, started to walk away. "Think whatever you want." "Oh, so that's how it is. I'll let the personal weapon thing slide this time. So don't go using it carelessly next time, okay?" She suddenly froze, remembering something important. "Oh, and one more thing, don't you have anything else to say to me?" Before leaving, Nayun still wanted to hear something from him. But Hajin, acting every bit the cold, detached CEO archetype, just met her with total silence. After an awkward stretch of complete stillness, the only words that finally slipped out of his mouth left her deeply disappointed. Not really. If he apologized now, she'd surely forgive him for bringing up her brother. But he couldn't do that, because it was best for his relationship with Nayun to stay strictly at the classmate level. Even though that was a tragic future Hajin didn't even want to think about, he knew he had to face it. "Because I'll have to kill Cheonjin-un." When he heard someone else commenting on their relationship, Nayun immediately denied it. "I didn't know you were that close with him." "No, we're not." Fan just stood by watching her with a look filled with hidden thoughts. Suddenly, out of nowhere, an urgent announcement blared out. "Attention all cadets, stop the mission and evacuate the dungeon immediately. I repeat, stop the attack." No one had seen it coming. The sudden halt order came out of left field. Because of all the unexpected technical glitches, this dungeon training exercise had major issues. Several security cameras had suddenly shut down. When they started checking, a real monster appeared instead of a mana-generated one. On top of that, the staff management was so poor that they didn't even notice the problem for a long time. Even though these were serious issues since there were no casualties, Cube told the cadets that they would conduct an internal investigation, instead of bringing in a third party. Hajin sat at his desk, deep in thought. In other words, the demi-humans in management at Cube had successfully swept the whole thing under the rug. He doodled on his paper while calculating his next move. The investigation into this accident would mostly take place after episode 2, so for now he just had to worry about Sven. The side effect of signing a contract with a demon is amplified emotions and obsession. The worst-case scenario would be Sven's emotions spiraling out of control, leading to a breakdown while he's alone with Nayun. Hajin didn't want anything bad to happen to them, so he had to be careful with every single move to prevent it. He'd need to keep a close eye on Sven and Nayun. After mapping out what needed to be done, He clicked on his messenger app. He hesitated for a second before opening Nyan's message. His conscience was stinging him a little. As he checked her messages, the first one that caught his eye was from Sven. He clicked it to read, "I heard the hunting club is going to Gangwon province this week. Is that true?" According to Hajin's memories, this week's hunting club trip was exactly when Sven would lose his mind in the original story. To keep the journey from becoming a disaster, Hajin had to be careful. Going along would be best, but he needed to prepare a few things just in case. There was no time to hesitate, so Hajin had to make a quick decision. "Since I've improved quite a bit, I think it's time to head to the Gary dungeon." Suddenly, the black watch on his wrist started buzzing. Hajin picked up the call to see why Suho was looking for him. Why was this guy... As soon as he answered, he heard, "Hello." It seemed like Suho had something important to say to call him at a time like this. "Hajin, are you free this Friday?" Hearing that, he was a little puzzled. He wondered why he was asking. Surprisingly, Suho really did need him. "I have a favor to ask. Gary is a famous destination in Gangwon province where the essence of nature and spiritual energy flow. They clash, and because of that, Gary has been called a sacred training ground by martial artists from all over the country for a very long time. However, it's not just martial artists who come here. There are also travelers wandering the country searching for treasures buried deep under the holy mountains. Instead of fighting monsters, they come here to explore. And to top it off, Hajin got a bonus, a super cute tour guide, someone like me. And Hajin even gets a super cute tour guide as a bonus. Honestly, someone just like me." Despite the ginseng hunter Jun's incredibly enthusiastic introduction, Hajin's expression remained completely blank, devoid of any emotion. It seems Hajin wasn't particularly interested in that either, so he just gave a dismissive "uh-huh" before they both headed deeper into the forest, chatting as they walked. "I saw you staring at that map earlier, didn't I? But you'll never find even a sprout of ginseng doing it like that." "I'm not a ginseng hunter, I'm looking for a specific location." When Jun saw Hajin had zero interest in ginseng, he flipped his attitude faster than a pancake. Yeah, another newbie trying to break into the business. Everyone tells me that. But remember this. Jumping into this line of work just to chase riches is... Realizing he was rambling on and on, he cut himself off. "Anyway, good luck, kid." "Yeah, thanks." And with that, they split off in two different directions. Since they were on completely different paths, it was clear he was still green and had a lot to learn. Just like Jun said, Hajin hadn't gone far before he tripped and tumbled face first onto the ground. I tripped on a tree root. But when he turned around, the thing that made him faceplant was actually ginseng. A mystical, shimmering light radiated from it, and he couldn't take his eyes off it. Even if just for a second I've caught a glimpse of the divine heart. Having discovered something rarely seen, Hajin didn't hesitate to dig it up. With a bottomless stomach, he started eating with great enthusiasm. I'm currently eating a 7-year-old ginseng root. By using the repair and upgrade settings, he gained 2 points in 30 minutes. But once he'd finished eating, Hajin felt a pang of regret for missing out on a chance to get rich. If I'd sold it all, I probably could have fetched $700,000. While he was still feeling remorseful, the rocks under his feet began to crumble. Now Hajin was hanging precariously off a dangerously high cliff. This mountain ridge is way too high. No wonder it's never been discovered. This was the middle of a cliff in Gary. After pushing through piles of moss and lichen, Hajin tried to grip the rock face as hard as he could to save his own life, until he finally reached his destination, and after all the struggle and hardship, he stood before some kind of demon cave. This was the mysterious undead dungeon. Just by looking at it, you could tell it was crawling with danger, and the dungeon boss was a mid to high tier monster. An undead knight. I might have boosted my stats with that ginseng, but I'm still no match for it. But that didn't matter. Hajin had never been afraid of anyone in his life, so he boldly stepped inside. As he entered, he accepted that he would have to face terrifying things. Undead skeletons popped up like mushrooms, and they certainly didn't welcome this uninvited guest. Even though Hajin was all alone on the brink of death, he didn't hesitate to go all out against them. He clenched his fists with pure determination. My goal today isn't the boss, it's the dungeon's hidden floor. The moment Hajin poked his head into the cave, he was greeted by a welcoming committee of bones and wandering spirits. They were hot-tempered and immediately lunged at him to attack. Despite being outnumbered, Hajin looked incredibly cool. He raised his pistol, aimed, and pulled the trigger once, and they vanished into thin air in a heartbeat. The rest of them didn't know when to quit, and continued their assault, so to deal with them quickly and neatly, Hajin utilized his skill. Clairvoyance scanned the path. His eyes quickly swept over them to find the fastest way out. The skeletons were only good for numbers, not brains. In no time, Hajin slipped past them. Not wanting to play cat and mouse with the bones anymore, he opened fire from above and a flash of light burst out in an instant. A hail of bullets rained down. Once he sent them to the afterlife, his gun barrel was still smoking. Seeing that the skeletons had taken heavy losses, Hajin felt a little relieved. I think this round took out quite a few of them. Not daring to delay any longer, he pressed deeper into the cave. The number of undead was increasing. I must be getting closer to Avenger's base now. Avenger the Witch was the boss of the hidden floor in the Gary dungeon, and in the future she would build the most powerful undead fortress in history at an abandoned school in Suwon City. And obviously Hajin wasn't there to play around. He came looking for her with a specific purpose. That's how it was. But the real reason he was hunting her down today was because of the 2 items that could be obtained from Avenger. And the 2 treasures he had his eyes on were nothing ordinary, the legendary Egger growth item and the Avenger's seed. Once those were in his hands, nothing would be able to stop him anymore. It was the gear that turned the demi-human tumor into the Lord of Corruption. Right now there was nothing better for him than Egger. After reaching a certain depth, Hajin stopped. The space ahead was pitch black and he couldn't see anything. To avoid being ambushed, he activated his skill, Clairvoyance. Truly everything had to be done by him. Thanks to it, he could finally see the way to keep moving through the dark, ghost-ridden cave. Yet even here, brilliant, colorful crystals existed amidst the ghost forest where tree roots glowed with a mystical purple hue. Avenger sat motionless as if merging with the ley lines. Underground spiritual energy flowed through the ancient earth. Although in front of Hajin was just a little girl, she harbored immense hidden dangers. The adult form of that witch was incredibly hard to defeat. I have to kill her while she's still in her child form, while her body and intellect haven't developed yet. Meanwhile, Avenger remained blissfully unaware. She was toying with the golden liquid in her hand, but the moment she realized Hajin was there, she jumped out of her skin and looked up at him. It seemed Hajin's compassion was making him hesitate to strike. After a heavy mental battle between his head and his heart, he had to steady himself. This was something he had to do. Besides, it was something Tomeo had done too. Fearing that if he wavered any longer he'd lose his chance, he stepped forward quickly. After all, he was the one who created her. Meanwhile, Avenger was completely unaware of the looming danger sitting there calmly. The next second, Hajin took action. He couldn't kill the witch with a single gunshot, while she was still in her ethereal form. With that settled, he dispelled the stigma and instantly transmuted his weapon into a spear. The entire air lit up with the glow of the weapon in his hand. At this moment, Hajin could feel the effects of the ginseng he'd consumed earlier kicking in. That ginseng really is nourishing. To end this quickly, he decided to put every ounce of his remaining strength into finishing this once and for all. I feel like I've turned into an Uyon-ha. After Hajin unleashed a spectacular strike toward Avenger, an explosion of energy dyed the entire space blue. He just stood there, motionless, awaiting for the smoke to clear to see the result. But to his surprise, after that earth-shattering blow, she was still alive. She's still breathing. Even though Avenger's body had been severely damaged, her sheer will to survive kept her going. A mysterious purple aura suddenly appeared around her. It was like a defensive mechanism triggered to protect her, but she was still too young to master her own power. A split second later, a blue light engulfed the entire area. Avenger vanished into thin air. Hajin stood frozen for 5 seconds, staring ahead. Must have been a death rattle before she kicked the bucket, he thought. Ah, so Avenger is a vessel for the witch's soul. Avenger, the bringer of despair. Once this egg hatches, the witch will be reborn. EGR is an item with no fixed form. It exists in liquid form, capable of bonding with its master to become a weapon and enhancing their weaknesses once acquired. After a journey where he reaped many rewards at Hungary, Hajin returned home. That evening, he checked his stats to see how much progress he'd made. After connecting with EGR, all user stats increased by 0.6, though the owner's settings were now locked. The updated stats were Strength, 2,455, Stamina, 2,545, Agility, 2,850, Intelligence, 3,705, Physique, 2,465, and Magic Power, 1,925. He was very satisfied after a quick look. Considering how awesome it is, the effects are pretty great. After significant effort, he could finally hold his head high without fear. If this thing develops further, it'll be even better. Finally, I'm on par with the other cadets of CUPER. But that was just the beginning. Now he took out the most important item he had found, 47 ginseng roots. And I've already listed the rest of the ginseng on the Purple Plaza. They should sell out quickly. But the biggest harvest is this, the Avenger Seed. A seed containing the soul of the Witch Avenger. When this seed hatches, the Witch of Despair Avenger will be born. Hajin believed Avenger wasn't an evil person. On the contrary, she possessed a pure soul. The name Witch of Despair makes her sound like a villain, but if I raise her properly, she'll become a reliable ally. Even though this is an incredibly precious item using, it is a piece of cake. Nurturing the Avenger seed is simple. Just feed it a little blood instead of water. But the disposition and growth of the witch would depend on the blood donor, so he had to think carefully. A few candidates already crossed his mind. They had potential. But after thinking it over, Hajin still felt that asking for someone else's blood was super weird. Even though he knew what he had to do, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Let's put that aside for now. I've been working way too hard lately, so I won't force myself to pull an all-nighter. I should get to bed early tonight, because Hajin needed to save his energy for the upcoming activities. Tomorrow is going to be a long, exhausting day. Finally, the next morning arrived at Mount Bagok Gangwon province. In the spring, when the bright early morning sun hit the slopes, the periodic hunt began. Everyone had arrived. An instructor stood on a high platform, enthusiastically announcing the necessary details. Everyone is sitting orderly and quietly. That makes me very happy. This is probably the first time everyone has met since the orientation. Right, let me explain the club's missions for those who missed the intro. Our hunting club Leonidas often organizes gatherings to hunt down dangerous wild beasts. We satisfy our hobbies while helping the community. Killing two birds with one stone. Hajin felt a bit nervous and swallowed hard because he didn't know what was about to happen. I don't know the specific details of what will happen today because when I wrote the book, I only touched upon this part. According to what Hajin remembers, the aftermath of the demi-human losing control is known as seriously injured, and Sven loses his life for being the culprit behind it all. This event was just a detail to push Suho to pay more attention to Noon, and that was Hajin's goal at the time. By making everyone think that the demi-human's target is Neon, the search party pours all their attention onto her. If Hajin truly had every little detail under his control, and then there would be nothing to worry about. But things are different now, and what's bothering me is this. The details regarding Sven have changed from the original novel. He hasn't lost control even once yet. Things are starting to veer off course from what he created, and even though it's faint, he's using demonic power, and now Hajin is stuck between two choices. He doesn't know what the right call is. If he takes him down now, he wouldn't have to worry about him anymore, but if he starts a fight, he'll be penalized immediately, even though he's staring right at Sven. Meanwhile, Nayun is overthinking and acting annoyed with him. She keeps glaring at him. Her delusion of grandeur really has peaked as she continues to make assumptions. Why does he keep hovering around me while pretending he doesn't care? Could it be that he... Sven notices Nayun glaring at Hajin with daggers in her eyes, so he whispers a warning, be careful. With who him? There have been a lot of disappearances lately. He thought Sven was joking, but he was incredibly serious. However, Nayun's next words made his face darken. He's not the type to do things like that. Not wanting to keep everyone waiting, the official hunt begins. We should get started too, right? At that moment, Sven and Nayun head deep into the forest as a pair, together. Hajin, being alone, stands still for a moment, watching their backs fade away. Deep in the woods, a deer is leisurely grazing. Unaware that its time is up suddenly, in the next second, dark purple tentacles emerge, stretching out and piercing straight through it. It was swift and brutal. The tentacles didn't let go, instead tightening around the deer's neck until it shivered. Sven is standing nearby, and so he quickly becomes the next target. The tentacles approach him slowly, but he doesn't react at all, just standing there frozen, with a face as cold as ice. Where did you go, Sven? In that split second on the verge of a catastrophe, Nayun's voice makes the tentacles retreat. After separating for a while, she's returned with a deer on her back. Oh, you're here. See, I won the hunting bet. How did you catch so many? Surprised old-timer? Even so, he had already hunted a whole mountain of deer. They are piled up in front of her. Even though she's reluctant, Nayun has to admit defeat here. Looks like I won the bet after all, so I have to grant a wish of yours, right? Fine. What do you want? Sven hesitates to state his wish, feeling bashful. His face turns red as a tomato as he looks at Nayun with a gentle gaze. Would you like to... But little did they know their every move had been under Hajin's surveillance. He hides behind a bush, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Sven has already signed a contract with the demon of lust Asmodeus. Hajin watches Sven intently, not taking his eyes off him for even a second. Because his desires have been magnified compared to when he was just a demi-human, restraint is no longer in his vocabulary. After a moment of hesitation, Sven finally gathers the courage to confess his true feelings. Will you go out with me? Hearing this, Nayun is left frozen, stunned by the sudden confession. Huh. Seeing her startled, Sven asks again, do you not want to? Nayeon then lets him down gently with this reason. Of course that's not it. But be honest, would you accept a confession from someone you've known for less than a week? After hearing Nayeon's reply, Sven doesn't push her any further. I see. Hajin has been patiently waiting for Sven to reveal his true colors. Show your true nature now. Show me the true nature of a demi-human. To lighten the awkward atmosphere, she shares a bit about her type. I like people stronger than me. But Nayeon didn't expect that this very sentence would summon the demon inside Sven. Although it sounds simple to him, it feels like an insult. So I'm sorry. Sven doesn't let Nayeon leave. He keeps pressing her, his voice sounding like it came from the depths of hell. What does that mean? Does that mean if I'm stronger than you, you'll like me? Nayeon realizes things have gone way too far. She tries to end it right there. That's enough. Finally, the moment of darkening that Hajin was waiting for arrives. The same tentacles from before shoot out from Sven and attack her with extreme violence. After doing such a horrific thing, he just stands there silent. Sven has turned both himself and her into victims because of that dark demonic magic. His eyes right now, they've gone completely blank, like he's lost his soul. It looks like Sven isn't in control of his own actions anymore. But things didn't go the way he planned. A protective shield appeared. And Hajin, isn't he amazing? With lightning-fast reflexes, he protected Noon just in time. You turned Ager into a shield, and you were so worried about her condition that you immediately started checking on her. Hey Noon, are you okay? But that brief moment of distraction was all Sven needed to attack him. Noon desperately wanted to do something to save herself and Hajin too, but unfortunately, her bow broke at the worst possible moment. Damn it! Sven's long, squirming tentacles tightened around Hajin, lifting him into the air. He was completely out of control now. In his hands. Seeing Hajin about to be choked to death, Noon had to take a gamble. She condensed her mana and let it loose. You bastard! Even though she knew her weapon couldn't match Sven, she had to try or this place would become a graveyard for two. I love you. That blind, twisted love for Noon has turned Sven into a hideous monster. I love you, Noon. Even though he used to be her friend since he's committed such unforgivable atrocities, no one wouldn't show any mercy. You scum. Hajin's face was deathly pale, not a drop of blood left in him. It looks like he can't take much more. In that desperate situation, a sudden flash of blue light burst forth. Just when it seemed like everything was over, Hajin seemed to see a glimmer of hope. Sometimes characters with high potential in this world waste their time, at failing to reach their ultimate purpose simply because they chose a weapon that didn't suit them. And without a doubt, she is the first one on that list. Just when I thought the hero was going to save the damsel Noon, awakened on her own, saving both Hajin and herself in an instant. A holy sword massive in size appeared under Noon's control. This isn't a joke. Her eyes now looked like she was about to eat Sven alive. Let him go, you piece of trash! Hajin couldn't take his eyes off Noon. He really wanted to see how far the character he created could go. Sven was just like Hajin, frozen in place, as if overwhelmed by the power beneath her golden pedestal. It looks like the end for Sven has come. Noon is no longer a victim. She stood up for herself and taught him a lesson. That last move by Noon left a long, deep crater in the ground. The monster has long since vanished. Noon stared blankly at her hands. Kim Hajin nearby coughed and asked, "Whoa, what was that? A laser sword?" She was just as bewildered. I don't know. Suddenly, she spoke up. Are you all right? You replied with a start. Yeah. Noon smiled. Oh, that's a relief. Suddenly, her vision began to blur, and then everything faded into darkness. Kim Hajin yelled out in a panic, Noon! By dusk, Noon slowly woke up. Feeling his back, she panicked and pushed away. Kim Hajin asked, You're awake? You wouldn't wake up, so I'm carrying you. She shrieked, What? Let me down right now. He didn't let go, asking suspiciously, You want me to drop you? She insisted, Just let me down. Kim Hajin helplessly put her down and then, Whatever, but she collapsed immediately. Noon stared in shock. Huh? She stammered, Why are my legs? What's wrong with my legs? He replied calmly, Is this your first time experiencing mana exhaustion? Noon froze for a few seconds. He continued to explain mana exhaustion is the state where you've used up all the mana in your body. It slows down your mana recovery rate. She interrupted, I know that already. Kim Hajin kept going. You won't be able to move properly for about 2 days, so just get on my back, unless you want to stay here forever. Chae-noon had no choice but to listen. The two of them headed back in an awkward silence. Suddenly, Kim Ha-jin spoke up. So, are you going to keep using the bow? She replied with disdain. What? Why are you spouting such nonsense? He remained calm and continued, I know you felt it today. Kim Ha-jin said, even though you didn't intend to, you awakened your talent today. A power that can amplify your abilities greatly as long as you possess magic. A sword of domination. Capable of slaughtering hundreds of monsters and demi-humans in a single strike. Someone unstoppable in large-scale battles, truly the monarch of the battlefield. To reach that future? Then you'd better put the bow down right now. She cursed when she heard that. Damn it, Chi. Damn it up here, Hun shouted. Stop acting like a know-it-all. He sighed, realizing there was still a long way to go. Kim Ha-jin dropped Neon onto the chair, turned, and bid her farewell. The entrance is right there. You can find your way from here, right? She looked stunned. Wait, what? Where are you going all of a sudden? He ignored her, dusted off his hands, and walked away. I'm going to be late for the dorm curfew. He waved back at her as she stood there bewildered. Wait, she shouted. Hold on. Take me with you. By late afternoon, the whole building was buzzing. Did you hear the news? Kim Ha-jin strode down the hallway as whispers echoed around him. Neon just got attacked by a demi-human. Apparently that demi-human was a fan of the world class. Since when was he a demi-human? I even talked to that jerk before. Why is the Cube administration keeping quiet about all of this? Kim Ha-jin stopped at room 303. Just as he cracked the door open, someone spoke up. Oh! Kim Suho smiled and turned around. Welcome, Ha-jin. He scanned the room, thinking to himself, Kim Horak, Shin Jonghak, Yu Yonha, and Lee Yonghan. Looks like all the key players are gathered here. He recalled a message he received right before the hunting club incident. Are you free this Friday? I have a favor to ask you. He had wondered, a favor, but he still replied politely, what is it? The other person continued, did you know a lot of people have gone missing lately? Cube has assigned us to investigate the case. Kim Ha-jin immediately realized, oh, I see. To avoid involving outside forces, Cube had tasked a few cadets from each grade level with an investigation mission. Suho Young, the lead investigator on Nam's team, was busy texting Kim Ha-jin when Chae Na-yoon called out to him. Are you not coming, Suho? He answered, flustered. Wait just a second. Kim Suho continued texting the guy, saying, obviously the Kuber side will organize an investigation too, but since there's a high chance the culprit is a cadet, I think we might be able to trap the culprit more easily. Kim Ha-jin questioned, I understand what you're trying to say, but why are you calling and telling me all this? The person on the other end quickly replied, you said you have a good eye for things, right? I heard you can even see over 1,000 miles away. Plus, Na-yoon recommended you. Kim Ha-jin was startled. Na-yoon recommended him. Kim Suho on the other end continued, that's why. So can you help us out? Back to the present. Kim Suho was still beaming. Thanks for coming. He thought to himself, I'll get the product, so this is very profitable for me. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Kim Suho started. Since everyone is here, I'll begin. Before we discuss this incident, first I want to share my own speculations. I don't think the culprit of this case and the demi-human who attacked Na-yoon are the same person. However, a foot suddenly stomped down hard. It punched a hole through the wooden floor. Shin Jonghak sat there with a dark, furious expression. He glared and gritted out the name Chae Na-yoon. Kim Suho helplessly corrected him. It's Chae Na-yoon. He continued, anyway, I think Chae Na-yoon has a high chance of being the demi-human's next target. Demi-humans follow the orders of demons. So if the demon that made a contract with Sven is targeting Chae Na-yoon, then the demi-humans who made a contract with that same demon will also target her. He concluded, that is why I have a question for everyone. Does anyone suspect anyone? Has anyone been acting suspicious lately, for instance? Kim Ha-jin sank into thought. I know the real culprit, but I've determined that speaking his name would be very dangerous, so I've been silently waiting for the story to unfold. But unlike the original plot where 6 people had gone missing over 2 months, 3 people had gone missing in just 2 weeks. At this rate, there is a high possibility the number of victims will increase significantly. Thinking this, he clenched his fists. The memory of Chae Na-yoon flashed back. He silently decided he didn't want to use the excuse of waiting for the story to progress to justify letting terrible things happen to them. Also, Kim Ha-jin raised his hand to speak, I suspect one person. He said the name that had been weighing on his heart, the academic club president Jun Hyuk. I think he's suspicious. The whole room immediately fell silent. A moment later, Kim Soo-ho explained, flustered, that person has an alibi we already investigated, since he had a close relationship with the first victim. Kim Ha-jin still didn't give up, continuing. What if the victim went to Junhyuk themselves? Hearing this, Shin Jong-hak roared, "Are you trying to say he managed to manipulate a cadet with just a few hypnotic tricks?" He stood firm, explaining, "Of course it wouldn't be effective if it were just some ordinary hypnotism, but—" Before he could finish, someone else cut him off. "Wait," Yoo Yeon-ha said coldly, "this is a bit weird. You keep insisting on suspecting someone we already said has an alibi." She finally closed with, "But I think the chances of you being a demi-human are even higher than the club president." Kim Ha-jin was stunned. What a memory flashed back to when Kim Ha-jin was writing his story. After writing for a while, he decided it was time for the protagonist to have a sidekick. He thought to himself, a high-status silver spoon character, helpful to Kim Soo-ho, cruel personality, but doesn't hold grudges. He wondered, should I add that she loves commoner food? Finally, he smiled and decided her name would be Yoo Yeon-ha. Back to the present. Yoo Yeon-ha coldly finished. Compared to the club president who already has an alibi, I think it's clear that you are the one more likely to be a demon human. Note the user's text used manhan demon human / demi-human here interchangeably with the context of the previous lines. Kim Ha-jin was stunned. What? Kim Soo-ho spoke up. Yeon-ha Ha-jin also has an alibi. At the time of the incident, he used the teleportation gate. She replied indifferently. I'm just offering my own speculation like someone else here. An alibi like a record at a teleportation gate which can be easily faked is obviously much weaker than Senior Junhyuk's alibi. Kim Ha-jin shouted in anger. What the hell are you talking? He was interrupted again. First, let's beat him up so he stops being so stubborn. Those were the words of Kim Horak. As he cracked his knuckles and stood up, he threatened, once he gets a beating, either he'll start telling the truth or his true face will be revealed. Don't you guys think so? Shin Jong-hak smirked triumphantly. Lee Yong-han remained silent, smiling from the beginning. Seeing it all, Kim Ha-jin felt drained. He gave a self-deprecating laugh. Ha Kim Horak, big head, but a brain the size of a grape, he mocked. What's so funny I'm about to beat you up? He glared straight into his eyes and warned, then bring it on, you crazy dog. Let's see how I smash your skull in. Kim Soo-ho rushed over to intervene. Stop. This is not the time to be fighting. You calm down too, Ha-jin. Kim Ha-jin laughed coldly. If you're that curious, try asking Chae Na-yoon that day. She and I... But his words were cut off again by a basketball flying like a bullet. The culprit was Shin Jong-hak. He glared and roared, Hey, you maggot! How dare that filthy mouth of yours utter Na-yoon's name? Are you seriously going to keep ignoring the fact that we teamed up to take down the villain that was fighting her? Too busy playing around with those investigators to hear the news, are you? Shin Jong-hak jumped up, but the guy next to him quickly held him back. Hey, calm down! Kim Ha-jin finished speaking and turned to leave. Anyway, I've told you who I suspect is the culprit. Behind him, Kim Horak's gaze turned predatory like a starving wolf, while Shin Jong-hak roared, You think you can just walk away? Just as Ha-jin reached the door, he stumbled. As he was about to fall, Kim Horak unleashed a punch so powerful it was like a thunderclap shattering the door to pieces. Everyone panicked, but as seeing Ha-jin lying on the floor completely unharmed, Horak flew into a rage. How the hell did you dodge that? Kim Ha-jin wasn't about to take that lying down. He pulled out a weapon and threatened him back. Sounds like you're really itching for a beating, huh? Just as the two were about to tear into each other, a clean sword slash cut through the air, neutralizing the pressure between them. Kim Soo-ho stepped in between them, looking coldly at Horak. That's enough, Kim Horak. Then he turned his attention to Yi Yoon-ha and Yoo Yoon-ha. If you're really that suspicious and want to know, just go ask Noon. She opened her communication device. After a moment of silence in the room, Kim Ha-jin walked out. Ignoring Kim Soo-ho calling out to him, Noon's voice came through firmly from the other end. Like I said before, there is no way that jerk Kim Ha-jin could be a villain. Yoon-ha, are you even listening to me? The room went silent again. Outside, Kim Ha-jin dashed out of the building. The sun had already set. In the quiet of the night, he slumped down and let out a long sigh. Kim Ha-jin sank into a messy whirlpool of thoughts. What the hell is happening to me? Not only did I transmigrate into the book I wrote, but I'm actually picking fights with the characters I poured all my love into, he muttered. I'm so sick of this. I want to see my family and friends. I just want to go home. I only have 1 year left on my contract. I wonder how time flows here compared to the real world if time passes at the same rate. Then I'm probably already listed as a missing person. He grabbed his head. What about my parents? What if they're out there searching for me? What if I'm the reason they're suffering? Will I ever be able to go back there? As he was lost in thought, the system popped up with a mechanical notification. Mental resilience has increased. Kim Ha-jin sighed helplessly, swallowing his tears. He muttered to it, "You really know how to ruin the mood, don't you?" But then he consoled himself, "Thank God my mental resilience increased. The old me probably wouldn't have had the guts to do this, and would have just given up on going home entirely." Kim Ha-jin wiped his tears, dusted himself off, and stood up. He looked straight ahead with renewed determination, and a gentle breeze blew by as if the sky itself understood his heart. It felt like it wiped away all the lingering chaos. Back in room 303, Kim Soo-ho returned empty-handed. Yi Yunha asked, "Where's Kim Ha-jin?" Kim Soo-ho shook his head helplessly. "He's a bit hard to approach." Yi Yunha and Kim Horak, who were downstairs, had also been eavesdropping. She suddenly spoke up, "Horak, you used your skill just now, didn't you?" He flinched and stayed silent. Yi Yunha gave a cold laugh. Who would have thought a mere marksman could dodge a martial artist's skill attack? "Now who's the suspicious one here?" Suddenly she received a new message. It was from Yi Yunha. "Can we meet in the classroom tomorrow before the academic club meeting?" She was silent for a few minutes. At the same time, under the blood-red moonlight, seeing Yi Yunha's text, "Of course!" Yi Yunha smiled maliciously. His face covered in blood twisted into a savage grin beneath the crimson moon. In the crowded classroom, Kim Ha-jin was lost in thought. "I think I understand why people say that when you're sad you should keep yourself busy by exercising, hunting, or investing in stocks. It usually stops me from overthinking because I'm just too exhausted." He sighed to himself, glancing at Kim Soo-ho, who looked guilty and worried about him. He couldn't help but feel powerless. What is up with these guys? "Stop bothering me, you high schoolers. I'm fine." So cheesy. Kim Ha-jin was truly tired, blaming himself. "What am I doing with my characters? I should really stop doing these useless things and figure out how to get home." Suddenly, Shin Jong-hak's loud voice rang out from below. "Kim Ha-jin, you're back in class already. Are you sure you're okay?" Naeun, leaning on her crutches, chuckled and replied, "I'm not doing much at home anyway." Kim Soo-ho quickly stepped down to help her, saying, "Let me take your hand." Naeun looked confused and asked back, "What are you doing? I can walk on my own." He didn't believe her and pressed again. "Are you sure Shin Jong-hak saw this and made a scene? Hey, Kim Soo-ho, don't you dare touch my noon!" He gritted his teeth and cursed under his breath. "Get lost!" Yoo Yeon-ha and Kim Ha-jin, sitting higher up, noticed the noisy commotion below. The teacher walked in, saw the class wasn't settled yet, and reminded them, "Class is starting, everyone get to your seats." Once things settled down, he stood at the podium and announced, "As you all know, the midterm exam is less than a week away. The practical exam will begin immediately after the written portion is finished. The written and practical exams will be evaluated based on two factors: duels between cadets and monster combat against beasts or phantoms summoned by mages." Finally, he warned them, "Both elements will be much harder than our daily lessons, so remember that and stay focused." Kim Ha-jin pondered, "The written exam will be a piece of cake. But the duels, that's a problem. The duels involve using one of the 3 nomination slips given to you, allowing you to nominate a cadet you want to fight. It seems like an opportunity for high-ranking cadets to nominate the weaklings just to score points. But a countermeasure has been implemented: the compensation point system. For instance, even if a first-ranked cadet wins, against the lowest-ranked cadet the points earned depend on the rank gap, and the first-ranked cadet will actually receive negative points." Suddenly, he remembered an acquaintance. She was also staring at him intently from afar, but of course there were also some jerks who simply ignored this system. They used their nomination slips to target people they hated and beat them half to death. The more he watched Kim Horak, the more he couldn't help but sigh, all brawn and no brains. But then Kim Ha-jin's thoughts shifted. Now he realized there was also someone else bothering him. A hand slowly reached toward him. Kim Ha-jin felt exhausted but helpless, only able to think to himself, "Isn't she getting a little too close?" He glanced over, silently sighing, "Wow, this girl. She wouldn't even talk to him yet." She kept lingering around him. She had always been a loner, but Rachel kept stealing glances at Kim Ha-jin. He pretended to be busy, wondering, "What is she doing? Is she watching me do my work?" He pulled out a pen and wrote something on the paper. She hurriedly peeked over. Kim Ha-jin had written 2 names, Yoo Yeon-ha and Kim Jun-hyuk. Rachel stared in confusion, her eyes wide. He chuckled softly at his own joke. Those were the names of his parents. As evening fell, Yoo Yeon-ha received a message from Jun-hyuk. "I'm in the classroom. Take your time, Yeon-ha." Seeing that she just kept quiet and arrived at the meeting spot shortly after, Yoo Yeon-ha reached the destination. Just as she pushed the door to peek inside, Jun-hyuk noticed her. He was half sitting, half leaning against a desk, smiling. "Oh, Yeon-ha." His charming eyes curved. "Hello." Yu Yeonha scanned the room and asked, "The other club members? It seems they haven't arrived yet." Junhyuk comforted her. "They'll be here soon. Shall we sit?" Suddenly she smelled something strange. Glancing at the candle on the table, she asked, "Scented candles." He kept smiling and explained, "It's good for concentration. We'll be studying in a bit anyway." He changed the subject. "Oh, I heard you joined the Demon Hunter search team. Me too. I'm the second-year representative." Yu Yeonha was surprised. "Oh, really?" Junhyuk sighed. "But we haven't made any progress. Do you guys have anything? Like anyone on the suspect list?" She was honest. "No, not yet." Suddenly, Yu Yeonha remembered something. "Oh, someone said something stupid." He kept smiling and asked, "Stupid?" Junhyuk's finger tapped the desk a few times. As they talked, she slowly drifted off, responding, "Just that. You're a demon senior, Junhyuk." But deep down, she started to notice something wrong. What's happening? My mind was so calm. She didn't pay it much mind, but he continued, "You're saying I used some kind of psychological magic. That's crazy." Junhyuk laughed. "Ah ha ha ha. Does he have any proof?" Yu Yeonha shrugged. "Of course." Suddenly she realized the key point. To be sure, she asked back, "Proof?" He hurriedly covered it up. "Oh, sorry, I meant, what is he basing that on? What makes him say I'm a demon?" Yu Yeonha's grip tightened. She hid her whip behind her back, accusing him. "Innocent people don't ask for proof when they're being accused." Immediately after, a smooth flick of the whip brushed past. Yu Yeonha stood in a defensive stance, glaring at the person in front of her. "Who are you?" Junhyuk chuckled slowly, stepping closer to her. He said eerily, "What's wrong, Yeonha?" His eyes took in the girl before him like a wolf, hungrily watching its prey, his mouth still threatening in a sinister way. "Is it not your turn yet?" Late at night at the second-year dorms. Yu Yeonha slowly opened her eyes. She started in shock, realizing she was tightly bound. She looked around. The glittering city lights shone through the window. An old music player was playing. A moment later, she realized this was the second-year dormitory. Suddenly, she noticed the person still standing there, smiling. "Junhyuk!" Yu Yeonha panicked uncontrollably. So is Junhyuk really the culprit behind the disappearances? A demon. He wasn't just talking nonsense. But the composure of an elite heir didn't let her panic for too long. She quickly calmed herself down. "Stay calm. I have to call for help first." But her hands were bound tightly. The more she tried to wiggle out, the tighter it got. Yu Yeonha furrowed her brow cleverly, pressing a random button on her communication watch, silently praying, "Someone, anyone. Please." Suddenly, a figure loomed over her. Thud. Somehow, Junhyuk had circled behind Yu Yeonha, whispering softly, "You don't have to do that, Yeonha." His eyes flashed with intense, murderous intent. Right. At that same moment, Kim Ha-jin suddenly received a message. Glancing at his watch, he wondered, who's calling at this hour? Reading the sender's name, he became even more confused. Yu Yeonha. But when he clicked on it, Kim Ha-jin froze. Huh. What is this? The message contained only the number 9. Junhyun reached out and snatched the watch from Yuha's wrist, admiring it as he walked away. If you keep sending such strange messages in the middle of the night, what do you think your friends are going to think? Yuha struggled, but the watch's screen lit up and Junhyun stared intently at the display. Kim Ha-jin, that sharp one. Did he already figure out that I'm a turncoat? I suppose I should just hurry up and kill him. Yuha, incredibly agitated, shouted, "Do you really think you can just get away with all this? The search team must have already discovered the anomaly, and they are already conducting an investigation." Suddenly, Junhyun stomped his foot down hard on the watch lying on the floor. "So what, I'm leaving the cube anyway after this is all over." Hatred was written all over Yuha's face, her eyes practically devouring him. Her teeth were clenched tight to suppress her rage, but Junhyun stepped right in front of her and said, "I just love that expression." He smiled as he spoke, looking as if he were truly happy, yet the space behind Junhyun seemed shrouded in a dark aura. However, Lady Lilith wanted to see this face filled with fear. On the other side, a notification popped up on a watch. Kim Ha-jin sat up, staring intently at the message, wondering to himself, did she send that by mistake? His head was filled with confusion, obsessing over the number 9 that Yuha had sent, when suddenly it was as if Kim Ha-jin had realized something. His eyes widened in shock. He sat up immediately and hurried, "Book of Truth, where is Yuha's current location?" Kim Ha-jin reached out to catch the book appearing in midair. The book emitted a light so intense it blinded the room, and Kim Ha-jin looked into it, his face filled with anxiety. What the hell? Back on Yuha's side, she was slumped over, her body still tied tightly to the chair, when suddenly a strange voice echoed out, "Yuha! Yuha!" Yuha seemed on the verge of losing consciousness, her body swaying forward. The voice continued, "You've been lonely for long enough now, haven't you?" Yuha exhaled tiredly, her breaths heavy. "I know that feeling too." The voice belonged to none other than Junhyun. He stood before her looking at her with a gentle gaze and a strange smile when suddenly he noticed something. Yuha was still trying to resist. She hadn't passed out. She glared at Junhyun with hateful eyes. Seeing her like that, he continued, "Your willpower is truly something else. I can't believe I still haven't been able to brainwash you after all this time. You just need to let your guard down a little, that's all." His hands weren't staying still. As he spoke, he reached out to brush Yuha's hair back. "There's nothing to be afraid of. Lady Lilith only gave me until today." Junhyun brought his face right up close to hers and whispered that in his low, murmuring voice. "She wanted you too." Yuha gritted her teeth and glared at Junhyun in anger. Suddenly she let out a scream, her whole body straining to break free, but it was no use. Junhyun's voice grew increasingly demonic. "Struggling like that won't do you any good." His eyes turned pitch black and sharp dark claws began to sprout from his fingertips. He laughed as he said, "The magical power of Lady Lilith." Before he could finish his sentence, something flashed by incredibly fast and pierced straight through his head. Caught off guard, Junhyun was hit. Blood splattered everywhere. Junhyun gasped in pain, his head snapping back. Yuha regained some clarity, shocked at the scene before her. Junhyun collapsed into a pool of blood, screaming in agony. A voice suddenly echoed out, "Look at that! After doubting someone you should have trusted, how does it feel now?" Yuha was slightly surprised to hear that voice. Junhyun, lying on the floor in pain, was still mouthing off. "What the hell, who are you?" The voice spoke again. "Don't bother trying to heal. That's a special type of bullet. Unless you have surgery to remove it, you're done for." Junhyun, furious, grabbed his bleeding side and sat up. Mad with rage, he swung his claw-filled hand forward. "You bastard!" Junhyun swiped his hand through the air, trying to tear apart the space and find the person speaking. "Where are you? Come out right now." The glass window shattered into pieces. A large, dark shape lunged inside. That blurred figure flashed past Yuha and she squeezed her eyes shut. Shards of glass flew through the air. Yuha felt her body still tied to the chair. The mysterious figure spoke again. "Stop struggling, you're just wasting your energy." Junhyun, half his face covered in blood, roared, "Where the hell are you?" The mysterious figure held a gun, his finger slowly squeezing the trigger. "I'm very, very far away from you right now." As soon as he finished speaking, a bullet flew from the distance and struck the center of Junhyun's chest. His face still dazed, Junhyun was hit. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and just like that, he began to fall backward. Far away, something could be seen hidden in the bushes. Looking closer, there was something glowing in that thicket. It was nothing other than the muzzle of Kim Ha-jin's gun. He was lying and hiding his hands, still gripping the rifle firmly. His barrel was still trained on Junhyun's trembling body. "This is exactly why long-range sniping is the best," Kim Ha-jin said with an excited expression. "Yuha today! It looks like I'll have to use up all the bullets you gave me today." Yuha lay motionless on the ground, dazed, listening to his voice. "If you still have a conscience, you'll surely give me something even better, right?" Junhyun was now trying to stand up. Covered in blood, he tried to run away. Terrified, he dragged himself along while looking back. Damn it all. Kim Ha-jin quickly noticed, turned back, and took aim. The third bullet struck Junhyun square in the back, his whole body jolting from the pain. Blood sprayed uncontrollably, and Junhyun's body trembled with fear as he tried to glance behind him. But Kim Ha-jin remained focused on the situation, his expression deadly serious. Sensing things were stable, he lowered his head, a thoughtful look in his eyes, and spoke to Yu Yeon-ha again. "I think I saw something I wasn't supposed to. Are you okay?" Yu Yeon-ha kept her eyes locked on the trembling Junhyun. "I'm fine," Kim Ha-jin continued. "Try to get some sleep. The search team will be here soon." Following his instruction, Yu Yeon-ha slowly closed her eyes. "Okay." She whispered a thank you to herself somewhere in the back of her mind. On the ceiling, you could see the lights shining down. Yu Yeon-ha, wearing a patient gown, lay in bed and slowly began to wake up. Suddenly a voice spoke from beside her. "You're awake." Still groggy. Yu Yeon-ha glanced over. It was none other than Kim Suho peeling an apple. She looked at him dazed and confused. What are you doing here?" Kim Suho replied gently. "You're not hurt anywhere, right? The doctor said your body is perfectly fine." Yu Yeon-ha looked so shocked her mouth fell open as she sat bolt upright. "I'm fine. But wait, I asked why you're here. Kim Soo-ho finally answered, "We're rotating shifts to check on you, obviously. Are you listening, Yu Yeon-ha?" She kept that suspicious look in her eyes as she pressed him again. Why, Kim Soo-ho answered seriously. Because of how things ended up. We hold some responsibility. Outside the patient room door, someone was tapping their foot. It was Kim Horak and Shin Jong-hak. Both of them stood outside with solemn faces. Kim Soo-ho's voice continued. As members of the search team, we should have been more attentive instead of focusing on other things. Back inside the room, Kim Soo-ho seemed to grow more somber as he spoke. Anyway, we're really sorry. Yu Yeon-ha listened in silence for a moment before speaking coldly. I'm sure a lot of other people have told you that too. You really are stiff, aren't you? Hearing that, Kim Soo-ho froze, confused. Huh. Yu Yeon-ha stared at Kim Soo-ho, thinking to herself, I used to think he was just someone who was a little talented. Just a little, but it seems I was wrong. Kim Soo-ho picked up a slice of apple and asked, Want some apple? Yu Yeon-ha recalled what happened earlier, her expression darkening slightly. A misunderstanding. Suddenly, she asked if the other person was coming. He didn't quite understand what she was asking and looked at her bewildered. The other person who... Yu Yeon-ha didn't answer, suddenly feeling shy and unable to look him in the eye. Never mind, it's nothing. Kim Soo-ho remained in a state of confusion as the morning sun shone through the window. Yu Yeon-ha looked up toward the outside. The sky was clear blue-white clouds drifted by and the sunlight sparkled. A few days later, a notification screen appeared. Yu Yeon-ha, thank you. I promise I will repay you. Kim Ha-jin read her message and smiled to himself. A system notification popped up. Productivity increased by 457 points. Luck activated. You will receive an additional 11% in productivity points. You will always hit your mark in long-range sniping. Skill Eagle Eye has leveled up to 7. Kim Ha-jin sat at his desk checking the notifications. He thought to himself, this is the most productive solo action I've had yet. It seems the reward for helping a major character is huge. His eyes stayed glued to the screen. He pondered for a moment. Compared to the investments he's made into sniping, this wasn't huge, but saving Yu Yeon-ha was more than enough reward in itself. Suddenly, a voice from afar caught his attention. Ha-jin. It was none other than Park Soo-hyun. Kim Ha-jin looked up, slightly surprised. Park Soo-hyun-oh. He flashed a bright smile and replied, You contacting me out of the blue like this really surprised me. Is something wrong? Suddenly, Park Soo-hyun looked terrified, kneeling down with his hands clasped together. If you're looking to terminate the contract, I beg you to reconsider. Kim Ha-jin watched the scene, feeling a bit helpless. No, that's not it. Suddenly, as Park Soo-hyun looked up, he saw Kim Ha-jin pull a suitcase out from somewhere. Kim Ha-jin spoke with complete composure. I want to invest in SH Entertainment. Hearing this, Park Soo-hyun went blank for a second. What? An image of a ginseng root with a strange shape shimmering as if it were glowing. Spirit ginseng listed on Violet Bank has been sold for a massive price of 400 million won. Plus other brands like SH Entertainment and Master Swordsman. The money just kept rolling in. I'll use 250 million to invest in Master Swordsman and 150 million into SH Entertainment. Kim Ha-jin thought. The growth potential of SH Entertainment is just as good as Master Swordsman. Snapped back to reality, Park. Soo-hyun was physically shaking. His voice stammered, his face pale as if he were about to die, and sweat poured down. I can't possibly accept such a large amount of money. Park Soo-hyun is still sitting there with that same look on his face across from Kim Ha-jin. He pushes the suitcase toward him and says, Take it. Giving this to you is a win-win for both of us. Oh, and use some of this to buy me a magic bag and a vehicle, would you? Kim Ha-jin, a bit curious, asks Park Soo-hyun directly. By the way, how old are you? He is still trembling, but replies, 29. Kim Ha-jin calmly continues, You're much older than me, so there's no need for honorifics. Park Soo-hyun is flustered and starts stammering, unable to stop. No way, how can I not use honorifics with such a major investor? Ha-jin blankly replies, If that's how it is, then I'm not investing. Hearing that, Park Soo-hyun finally calms down. His face pale with fear and clutches the suitcase tightly to his chest. I promise I won't use honorifics anymore. Ha-jin watches him looking at his state. Kim Ha-jin thinks to himself, this guy. A while later, as they step out of the shop, Kim Ha-jin suddenly remembers something. He says, Hey, Park Soo-hyun, wait at the convenience store for a second. Moments later, in front of the convenience store, they go inside, and Park Soo-hyun looks confused, wondering what Kim Ha-jin is looking for. Why are you suddenly buying scratch-off lottery tickets? Ha-jin scratches intently and replies, I'm still a minor, so I can't claim the prize money without a guardian. Kim Hajin adds, I wonder if I can't use this luck of mine. Here it is. Park Soo-hyun curiously asks, wait, how much did you get? Kim Hajin calmly answers, 2 billion won. Park Soo-hyun doesn't quite grasp it at first and just gives a silly smile. 2 billion. After the info actually sinks in, he looks like he's been struck by lightning, completely bewildered. Then Park Soo-hyun's voice rings out loud enough to fill the whole convenience store. 2 billion, Kim Hajin hands the shimmering scratch card to Park Soo-hyun. I'll invest this whole amount. Just update the contract and send it to me when you get a chance. Oh, after taxes it probably won't even be 2 billion anymore, right? Park Soo-hyun is still shaking, shocked, as he reaches out with both hands to take the card. Kim Hajin just stares at him. Looking back, he sees Park Soo-hyun, still looking terrified, clutching the card to his chest as if he's afraid it might fly away. The sun is setting. The sunset casts its glow over everything. Kim Hajin is puzzled and curious. Park Soo-hyun, his voice still trembling, replies, someone might steal it, so I... The evening sky turns deeper red, and the space is incredibly quiet. The golden light of the sunset hits an old, dilapidated workshop. A black, shadowy substance of indistinct shape is slowly forming, its gas being sucked up from deep underground. Gradually, it takes the form of a person. That gas turns into a young boy. That boy is Droon. He approaches happily and says, Master, they have started their move. As he speaks, Droon looks up and points continuously. The pack-horse merchant is on the list too. What should we do next, Master? Lee Seo-hyun sits there and replies, take the item, leave the rest. He sits on large crates, his body half hidden in shadow. Droon, hearing this, continues curiously. Understood, but thinking about it, something feels strange. Someone keeps investing money into buying stocks for that pack-horse merchant, Droon says with a very curious look, thinking of the merchant's shimmering badge. First 3 million. Then 10 million, and suddenly they invested 250 million. Don't you think that's a bit too much to invest into a guild that doesn't even have its own website? Lee Seo-hyun doesn't care much and says coldly, let him focus on doing what I need him to do. Droon finally falls silent and listens. Very well, Master. Sunlight continues to stream in from outside, but Droon seems to have come up with an idea. He immediately opens his mouth to continue. Oh, is there anything else to report? Something interesting just popped up at the Violet Banquet. Do you want to see? As he speaks, Droon conjures electronic screens all around him. Searching for relics. Bossin Tang. Truth Agency. My intuition tells me. This Truth Agency might have some issues. They say they can find any truth you want to know. Hearing this, Droon keeps rambling on. Should I order their services? Maybe they could help us find him. Lee Seo-hyun loses his patience and shouts loudly, Droon! Droon is startled by the shout and freezes, looking a bit shocked. The atmosphere becomes very tense. Droon, like a guilty child, is silent for a moment before saying, I was just joking. Droon starts asking about tomorrow's mission. Tomorrow is when they start the midterm exams for Kuber. Half of Lee So-hyun's face is obscured by shadows. Not possible. What am I thinking? Droon adds, the hottest topic these days is the 2 people ranked first and second, Kim Soo-ho and Shin Jong-hak. A few members have already infiltrated. Are you planning on going? Images of Kim Soo-ho and Shin Jong-hak seemed to flash by at those words, and Lee So-jin suddenly moved, her expression shifting to a dazed look as she gazed down from above. Her face became clear, her eyes cold as she looked down at Lee So-jin, emphasizing every word, hoping to see those soulless eyes while over at Kim Hajin's side. He smiled happily, waving goodbye. Lee So-jin's voice still echoed in the air. Someone useful, perhaps. The sky today was incredibly blue. Dotted with a few white clouds, time flew like the wind. A system interface flickered into view in the air. Welcome, and confetti filled the sky. In front of them stood the massive, majestic cube building with a giant electronic display mounted on its roof. The final midterm practical week had finally arrived. Hazuki appeared looking absolutely adorable, her eyes sparkling as she ran toward her mother, calling out to her. Hazuki ran and dove straight into her mother's arms, who asked with concern, My dear, how have you been lately? Hazuki immediately replied, I missed you so much. The atmosphere was incredibly lively, with people moving around constantly and drones flying overhead. During this practical week, Cube opens its doors to organizations looking to recruit heroes, such as leagues, guilds, and even the families of the cadets. Crowds from all over the world are pouring in. It's as crowded as a festival. A man picks up a microphone to announce, the location we are at right now is Cube, the best hero training academy in the world. Another person not far away adjusts their mic and says, send the invitations to all cadets in the top 100. People all around start whispering excitedly, Look, that's Lee Junha ranked 117th. Wow, I'm such a fan. The drone from earlier slowly descends towards someone's outstretched hand. Someone reaches out to grab it, none other than Kim Ha-jin. He studies the drone intently, but seeing no response, he lets it fly off again after checking it. Looks like I'll have to wait a little longer. The drones slowly rise into the air. Kim Ha-jin remembers what Park Soo-hyuk said, "Please accept this, sir. It's not much, but it's a token of my gratitude." He thinks to himself, all these drones were given to me by Soo-hyuk and I've placed them all around Cube, so the chances of catching any intruders have increased quite a bit. Suddenly, a woman walks by and bumps hard into Kim Ha-jin's back. He looks worried. He immediately turns around to apologize. "Oh, I am so sorry," but the woman just keeps walking. A blinding glare makes it impossible to see her face clearly. The woman slowly turns her head. It's none other than Lee So-jin. She wears her usual cold expression as she looks at Kim Ha-jin. Suddenly seeing her, Kim Ha-jin freezes, bowing his head silently as if deep in thought. Then suddenly he looks up, his face filled with panic. I almost completely forgot." Kim Ha-jin looks at Lee So-jin again, thinking to himself that she must also be here to observe the practical exam. She keeps giving him a cold, piercing look. Seeing Lee So-jin staring at him like that, Kim Ha-jin is startled and fearfully turns his head away. I stared into her eyes for too long. Kim Ha-jin is in a huge rush, scared to death, thinking, "Say something, make it look less suspicious." Kim Ha-jin's mouth fumbles for words. Finally, after a moment, Kim Ha-jin speaks up. "You look beautiful." As soon as he says that, the atmosphere feels like it froze, becoming even heavier. Lee So-jin's expression turns even uglier. Her face is full of disdain. Kim Ha-jin looks as if he's been poisoned, his face turning pale with fright. The air seems to rip apart as Lee So-jin turns and walks away. Kim Ha-jin is still grimacing, frozen in place. She just walks away. Her figure slowly fades into the crowd. As she walks, Lee So-jin calls out, "Drun." He doesn't appear, but his voice can be heard responding. "Yes, my lady." Lee So-jin is wearing a necklace with a glowing gem. She continues, "The person who just bumped into me, he saw right through my concealment item." Lee So-jin's gaze is terrifyingly soulless as she coldly commands Drun to investigate him. Elsewhere, Kim Ha-jin is walking along. It wasn't just hero organizations coming to Cube to recruit. The Chameleon Troop was also there. Shin Jong-hak walks by with a confident smile, while the image of Kim Soo-ho with a bright smile flashes in his mind. That bright smile, their target is either Kim Soo-ho or Shin Jong-hak. Because Kim Soo-ho didn't align with their ideology, he was rejected. And they started paying more attention to Shin Jong-hak. That's how the plot goes. Kim Ha-jin walks while thinking worriedly, if they're just infiltrating, that's one thing. But if the plot starts to change and they begin attacking the heroes in charge of security during this exam, Kim Ha-jin thinks of the major casualties that would occur, and it wouldn't just be 1 or 2 deaths. Suddenly, a loud voice rings out, startling everyone nearby. A man with blue eyes looks over with an amused smile and says, "I don't see a single suspicious person, not even one." "Happy now." The woman next to him looks skeptical and retorts, "Stop whining and actually look properly. If someone manages to bypass Cube security during this practical training, what are we going to become?" The man in front flashed a brilliant smile and said, "Write it down before those guys start any trouble." "Isn't everything fine as it is?" The man was none other than Ojin Hyuk, ranked 1737, a level 6 high-ranking hero. The woman following him was carefully observing their surroundings. She was Sel Eongji, ranked 2000. Level 7 high-ranking hero Sel Eongji spoke up annoyed, "You're only good at running your mouth." Ojin Hyuk ignored her and replied, "Let's go grab some pizza." Neither of them noticed a strange man emerging from the dark alley behind them. He smiled with amusement, half his face hidden in shadows. He could see right through the necklace's concealment ability. "Siren, so I found the master, have I?" That man began to look around, finally showing a hint of interest. "I only see a bunch of weaklings here. I'm bored to death." Passers-by caught sight of him and glanced away, feeling uneasy. In a different space, Run sat watching him, eyes bored, as they drifted to the brown-haired man that was Cheok Jun-gyung. He continued, "What kind of creature is he? Let me try to find out." Upon hearing him, Run thought with disdain, "What a brawny idiot with 0 brains." As Drun's voice echoed, Cheok Jun-gyung listened intently, remaining still. "Just hold your position. Even if we don't do anything, we'll find out whether he has any potential or not." Drun's voice kept echoing. The one-on-one matches were about to start. At that same moment, a hot air balloon could be seen high above Arena 2. It carried a large banner, Midterm Practical Training Arena. The stands were incredibly crowded and the host's voice boomed out. "At 9 o'clock sharp this morning, the first pair is ready to take the stage." Even the cadet reporters were scrambling to cover the frenzied scene. The first match was one where even honorary points were being used. In another corner, Kim Ha-jin was walking calmly. As he walked, someone suddenly called out, "Hey!" The person was none other than Yu Yeonha. She stood leaning against the wall, looking at Kim Ha-jin with a puzzled expression. "Are you heading to the arena?" Kim Ha-jin and Yu Yeonha walked together. He turned to answer her. "Yeah, I'm just heading over there." Yu Yeonha followed up. "Is that so?" She suddenly closed her eyes and called out a name, Sechan. Sechan appeared instantly holding a suitcase in his hand. When he opened it, rows of glistening bullets were neatly arranged inside. They appeared tray by tray. "These are 100 of the highest grade bullets." As she spoke, Yu Yeonha held the suitcase out toward Kim Ha-jin. "You can't use them during the inspection. But for any other situation, feel free to use them as you like. If you need more, just let me know." Kim Ha-jin looked stunned for a moment, then slowly reached out to take the suitcase. Yu Yeonha added, "And let me tell you, something as precious as my life, even if it's something like this, doesn't really compare to it." With her usual haughty demeanor, Yu Yeonha tossed her hair back and said, "Just think of it as a gift from me." Suddenly remembering something, Yu Yeonha spoke up right away. "Oh, right. They keep demanding that I disclose information about that evil being, but I haven't told them yet that you were the one who helped me." Kim Ha-jin didn't seem to care much about that, saying, About that, please keep hiding it for me." He walked ahead, looking like he was about to fall asleep. In his mind, he whispered, "If the fact that I was the one who shot Junhyun gets out, things are going to get a lot more complicated." Yu Yeonha followed behind, glancing at Kim Ha-jin's expression. "Those evil beings under that Lilith woman are really nasty." As they walked, Yu Yeonha stopped and spoke up. "I understand you have your reasons for hiding your true strength, but trying to hide it during this practical examination. It will be very difficult." Kim Ha-jin didn't quite understand her words. "Hide my strength," Yu Yeonha added. "Don't tell me you don't even know who you're up against." Kim Ha-jin's face remained unchanged as he listened. Meanwhile, in the cadet waiting room, a man with bulging muscles was lifting weights with his hands. His whole body was drenched in sweat from the training, and the air around him seemed to grow heavy. That man was Kim Horak. He had a scowl on his face, his hands still gripping the weights tightly. "I'll crush you, Kim Ha-jin!" Elsewhere, Run continued his mission, searching for data and reports. "There isn't much information on him, Master." Just then, he synthesized the information he had gathered and summarized it. "He comes from an orphanage, no father, no mother, no relatives. He was admitted to the cadet academy at the age of 6. It happened after they found something unusual during a routine inspection of the orphanage back when I was at the academy. He hasn't really done anything noteworthy, just stuck in the middle of the pack until he got into Cooper. Besides, he's currently 300,000 in debt. That's all there is to it." Hearing Jun's update on Kim Chun-dong, there didn't seem to be anything suspicious. Lee Seola stood there with her arms crossed, lost in thought, and didn't answer. She remembered what happened this morning. She had seen Kim Chun-dong looking all panicked and clueless. So she wondered, how could a guy like that see through my concealment item? When Jun asked her about it, she insisted, "I really have no idea." Suddenly, a man pushed aside the bushes and stepped out, calling out, "Oh, so there you are!" He gave a cunning smirk and greeted her, "Long time no see, Master." So his name was Che Ju-jung, a member of the Serpent Corps. Seeing him arrive, Lee Sola spoke up. "You're late." "On my way here." "Did you get distracted by something again?" Che Ju-jung replied, "You underestimate me, Master. I've just been working hard, following orders to hunt down young talent." Then she asked him, "So give me your report." He gestured with an OK sign and replied, "Nothing to report yet. Just a bunch of weaklings." A wave of the hand and they're blown away 1,000 miles. Jun sent a telepathic signal saying that's normal. "I'm asking if there are any cadets. With any real promise. I haven't seen anything special yet. I even checked out the rank 1 and rank 2 students. They're pretty useless, aren't they?" Jun sighed. "Look, the freshmen you have are basically the cream of the crop for this year. Make sure you investigate thoroughly. Oh, and by the way, that Kim Ha-jin guy is about to step up to the dueling arena too." Che Ju-jung looked surprised when he heard the name Kim Ha-jin, but then he remembered, You mean the guy who saw right through your concealment item and spotted you, Master?" Hearing that he had guessed right, Lee Seola just stayed silent.